Volume 5, Chapter 227, Day of Reorganization, Part 6. When did it start? She couldn't remember properly. The same dream every night. A burning village and chilling screams spreading in all directions. In the midst of the village, an unknown man indiscriminately swings a dagger at people. Behind the man, a woman with long black hair fluttering in the wind was smiling cruelly, as if controlling him. Whether this was reality or hell, it was a horrific scene that couldn't be distinguished, but for Mia Hafinkus, this was all too familiar. That's how it always is with anything at first. Horrible and gruesome scenes, if repeated continuously, tend to become familiar. For her, such nightmares had transformed from fear into curiosity. Who are those people tormenting her every night in her dreams? As the question grew deeper, a man appeared. He introduced himself as Boris and said he would reveal the identity of the recurring dream. It was the wail of Mia's ancestors, the Hafinkus clan, hoping she could resolve the grudge they couldn't let go of. To which Mia asked what should she do to resolve that grudge. With a smile, Boris replied, she must kill the perpetrator of all these events, the wielder of the demonic sword, and to do so, she must obtain the same power as the demonic sword. Thus, Boris reached out his hand, and Mia took that hand. Years passed like that. Now in front of her, alongside the current owner of the demonic sword, was the soul of the demonic sword. Is that the soul of the demonic sword, Karam? Facing Karam's true form for the first time, Mia felt a strange sensation in many ways. Her hand holding the sword trembled. Was it reacting to the presence of the original, a feeling as if she would be easily drawn if she couldn't control it? But she didn't care. The ones in front of her now were nothing more or less than beings that must be killed to resolve the clan's long-standing grudge. For that purpose, hadn't she been running for the past few years? Gripping the sword again, Mia rushed at Cyan. Clang. Cyan effortlessly blocked her strike. Mia didn't relent and continued her assault in all directions. Cyan calmly blocked each attack. Where did you learn to wield a sword? I've never learned, Mia replied shortly and continued her onslaught. Mia's answer was true. She had never properly learned to wield a sword before being taken by Boris, and even after that she had never learned about swords. However, occasionally, after receiving a series of rituals from Boris, a strange sensation about swords would be felt within her body. Boris explained that it was the sensation of her ancestors and belonged to Dio Hafinkus, the former owner of the demonic sword. Though she wondered how it was possible to inherit the senses of the deceased, she didn't ask. All she wanted was liberation from the nightmares. Furthermore, she hoped those who wailed at her every night could escape from their anguish and rest peacefully. However, despite inheriting such ancestral senses, Mia's efforts seemed futile. Clang, clang, Cyan effortlessly blocked her strikes as if anticipating her every move. Mia immediately backed away, realizing that merely clashing swords wouldn't be enough to kill the owner of the demonic sword. Eventually, to kill the owner of the demonic sword, she had to manifest the same power as the demonic sword. With her blade poised forward, she murmured softly, demonic sword manifestation. Living in this world, one sees all sorts of strange things. When I manifested the demonic sword before, how did those who witnessed it feel? If it was just a crude imitation, they would have shrugged it off and laughed. But that wasn't the case. The power she manifested was nearly identical to when I wielded the demonic sword. The mist emanating sharply from the tip of the sword exuded a formidable aura. Huh! Even Karam seemed baffled, letting out a bewildered chuckle. Curious, I narrowed my eyes and noticed a strange shadow swaying behind her as she manifested the mist. It was difficult to make out the face, just a man with slightly long hair and black hair. It was an appearance unfamiliar to me. Do you know who that is? Curious, I asked Karam, but instead of a reply, she bit her lip, revealing a sense of discomfort. From her reaction, it seemed she already had an idea without needing an explanation. Is it the soul of your former owner? Absolutely not. I erased that bastard's soul without leaving a trace. There's no way his spirit could linger, she vehemently denied it. Then it's a heavenly, faintly similar illusion, judging by the atmosphere. That illusion seemed to be the nucleus controlling the replicated power of the demonic sword. As overthinking and pondering weren't my style, I raised my blade and murmured softly, just like her. Mist Ninth style demonic sword manifestation. Soon, as mist emanated from the blade, Karam, who was materializing, merged into it. Prepared, I immediately rushed forward without hesitation. She too, without showing any sign of retreat, enveloped herself in mist and struck back. Clang! Experiencing the power of another demonic sword was truly astonishing. A subtle yet palpable sensation of familiarity and alienation. Rather than being bewildered, I felt a sense of intrigue. Kijijik, the tips of our swords slightly pushed against each other. Though a small difference, it was clear that my accumulated strength in handling and training with the demonic sword had been pushed back. The power emanating from the mist at the tip of the sword was also formidable. It was no mere crude replication. This is, strictly speaking, power that can kill me. I haven't felt this sensation in a long time, the feeling of being on the brink of being engulfed by the shadow of death. However, even as such thoughts crossed my mind, my gaze continued to drift towards the illusion standing behind her. The illusion, seemingly conscious of my gaze, stared back at me with empty, hollow eyes, Diohephancus, a follower of the ancient Eru and Karam's former owner. Having succumbed to the uncontrollable power of the demonic sword, he was stripped of both body and soul, a tragic sight for someone who was once the owner of the same demonic sword. I didn't feel particularly cautious or uneasy. It was a common future that anyone who wielded the demonic sword could face. There was ample possibility that I could end up like that too. But why did you eat him? Mia, taken aback by the unexpected question, furrowed her brow, but my question wasn't directed at her, it was aimed at the Karam within me. This doesn't seem like a situation where you can ask such a question casually, does it? I wanted to know the reason. Even if consuming the soul of the owner to obtain their power was the nature of the demonic sword, Karam wasn't the kind of demonic sword that would devour the owner just because they were on the brink of death. Why did I think that? It was nothing special. It was because of her thoughts shared through years of fighting and sharing emotions. How many times had I said it? We humans are creatures created in imitation of God's nature. As a being akin to God, Karam would also possess emotions similar to humans. Therefore, not only me but also that man Dio, who was her former owner, would have felt affection towards her. She wouldn't have simply devoured him out of instinct. Karam, seeming uncomfortable, sighed heavily before reluctantly speaking. Because he wanted me to, it was an unexpected answer. He asked me to do that. He begged me desperately to consume his soul and rampage. Please, he pleaded desperately. So you granted his request. Was there any reason to refuse? I'm not a kind woman who would follow a master who has lost even their will to live so kindly. So I did as he wished, even though I'm a ruthless and merciless woman. Karam's voice trailed off slightly. I'm not without affection to the extent of not fulfilling his last request. I wondered if that meant she couldn't refuse. I turned my gaze back to Mia, not Dio. Did this sword destroy your ancestors? Wouldn't it be worth considering why this sword had no choice but to destroy your ancestors? What do you mean? There must have been a reason why it had to be that way. With a rhetorical question, I pushed her sword away from mine. Though she regained her balance momentarily, my hand was already prepared for the next strike. A horizontal sword stroke drawn with the momentum to cleave through space. But what I had struck was not Mia but the illusion of Diohephancus standing behind her. Shadow arts cutting through illusions. What is an illusion? It refers to anything that appears to exist but doesn't actually exist. Like what I'm seeing now, people sometimes encounter illusions in reality. At times, one can become so fixated on these illusions that they have a greater impact than reality itself. However, there's nothing good that comes from being completely consumed by such non-existent illusions. Eliminating such illusions requires the presence of a real entity in reality. With just one honest and righteous strike, all illusions can be dispelled, just like now. Swoosh! Unlike the previous shadow technique, this sword strike didn't contain any power of mist. In other words, this sword strike was just an ordinary horizontal slash. Swoosh, however, even with just one strike like that, the illusion of Diohephancus reacted greatly, shaking its body in various directions. That's when I saw it. In the last moment before gradually turning into dust and disappearing, a faint smile formed on the illusion's lips. The illusion disappeared completely with that smile. Thud, with the loss of its central power, she knelt down and collapsed. Although mist was still emanating from her sword, she seemed to have lost the will to fight. Still, out of a sense of caution, I quietly withdrew my sword and lifted her head, meeting her eyes. It was truly the face of someone who had completely given up all hope. Although I thought about questioning her about them, I ultimately decided it would be futile and simply rose from my position. Did you ask me to consider why our ancestors had no choice but to perish? She suddenly spoke up. I never had the chance to think about such things. They came to me every day, crying out in despair without any reason or explanation. With no answer to give, I simply remained silent. You should hurry and go. Go where? I met Princess Erin on the way. Unintentionally, my brows furrowed. I just passed her because I came for you, but it seems Ashel was looking for. If it's a situation where you need to protect that princess, you should hurry and go. After a moment, my furrowed brows relaxed. You may not see the princess as you know her anymore. Exactly 3 seconds later. I walked slowly past her towards the library's exit. The owner didn't try to stop or detain me. If I were to express my honest feelings at the moment, rather than a desperate urge to go and save Princess Arab, I felt a surge of overwhelming anticipation at the thought of seeing the distorted face of the demon again. With that, Cyan left the library, leaving Mia with nothing to do but sit there and stare blankly at the ground, feeling like she had nowhere else to go. Perhaps one could see our neglect as the cause of your situation. Silica approached Mia with these words. You are a being who ultimately inherits the ideals and currents of the humans who followed the past era. The significance you hold could undoubtedly be of great value to our mist and its successors. Silica gently extended her hand towards Mia, who was sitting there quietly. For a moment, Mia just stared silently at the offered hand. What instructor Boris spoke of didn't include this future, especially considering there was no mention of me sending the owner of the demonic sword to Lord Ashel. Yet somehow the future he described has completely changed. Even the act of Silica extending her hand was not part of the future Boris mentioned. What should I do in this changed future? Not much, Silica whispered secretly as she met Mia's gaze. Just be there by Cyan's side instead of me. Chapter 228, Day of Reorganization, Part 7, Confusion filled the hall with Mist's appearance. People shouted towards their respective platforms. Release the princess. What is the prince doing? Why isn't he saving the princess? Should we go to the country ourselves? A chaotic scene unfolded, with cries to save the princess mingling with calls to kill the assassins. Violet was seething with anger. In her heart, she wanted nothing more than to swiftly decapitate those black villains and rescue Aaron. However, as if to prevent such a scenario entirely, the assassins made no move to release Aaron's neck. The knights were at a loss, unable to intervene. What are those two even doing amidst all this? To add to the chaos, Ashel and Boris were nowhere to be seen. Ultimately, Violet realized she had to handle the situation alone. She commanded the knights, kill them. What? The knights, thinking they misheard, collectively protested. Kill them all, they are the source of evil that disgraces the empire and the royal family. Aaron doesn't want to be used as a hostage. She signaled me with her eyes, she'd rather die than endure such humiliation. Violet's eyes were bloodshot with rage, clouding her judgment. But even so, come out. In the end, Violet, frustrated by the knight's hesitation, pushed past them and stepped forward. Mana surged from her hands, and soon a white magic circle formed above the platform, accompanied by billowing clouds. Princess, calm down, that magic is dangerous. I'll take responsibility. The bewildered knights tried to stop her, but Violet paid them no heed. Unable to touch the princess's body recklessly, everyone was stunned when suddenly, an old man appeared on the platform and grabbed her arm. Startled, Violet looked at the impudent man who dared to touch her hand. Lord Geryon, it was Geryon, the former commander of the Light Knights. Unlike Violet, who was taken aback, the knights looked relieved as if a savior had arrived. The one responsible here is me. No one should oppose my will. I understand your confusion. However, didn't the princess ask me to be her savior? The princess seems to be heading towards self-destruction right now. How can I not step forward? Violet, suddenly rendered speechless, could only quiver her lips without a response. Geryon gently released the princess's hand and slowly approached the assassins. Sensing an unusual aura, the assassins became more vigilant. I'm not sure what your true intentions are, but to me, it seems like you're buying time. Some assassins showed signs of hesitation. Is the princess over there really Princess Aaron? I don't entertain questions. Retreat 3 steps from where you are. As if there were no second warning, an assassin, speaking up, closed the distance between his sword and Aaron. It seems like you're mistaken, but I know that the princess over there isn't the real one. However, the reason I don't say this outright is because depending on the situation, you might cooperate. It was a voice whispered so softly that only those among them could hear it. The assassin's gazes briefly flickered with uncertainty before fading away. There's no need to talk for long. Let me simply ask what your true purpose is. Then perhaps I could cooperate with your efforts to buy time. In the power of the vanquished gods, strike down evil. Crack. For a moment amidst the strange negotiation, a spell for advanced magic casting was chanted behind Geryon. Startled, Geryon quickly looked up. But Violet, already devoid of reason, had completed the spell, and soon lightning poured down upon them from above. God strike, ha! It had taken just 1 year for her to rise from a promising young talent to a trusted knight guarding the royal family. Despite her youthful age, which had just reached adulthood, no one within the palace doubted her skills. Some even called her the princess's sword, a reliable knight who protected Princess Aaron. They said that as long as she stood, no harm could befall Princess Aaron. Every knight echoed this sentiment. For nearly 5 minutes, Ashel had not managed to advance even a single step. Just when she thought she might barely block the lightning-fast strikes coming her way, Aaron's blow followed immediately. Clang. Facing more resistance than anticipated, Ashel stepped back a few paces. Resimus Klein, should I call you the princess's sword? Despite having such knights, it's quite puzzling why Princess Aaron was kidnapped, isn't it? Despite Ashel's mocking laughter, Resimus remained unfazed. Come to think of it, Resimus, you're the only knight among the guardians of the palace who hasn't inherited the power of the Holy Sword. Why is that? With your skills, you could have surely elevated the potential of the Holy Sword more than anyone else. No matter how exceptional the power of the Holy Sword may be, it is ultimately borrowed power, Resimus replied firmly. I do not wish to rely on such uncertain power that may leave me at any time. The strength necessary to protect Princess Erin lies solely within the power I have achieved myself. What a truly admirable mindset. It's applause-worthy. Ashel continued to applaud as if he found his mindset extremely impressive. Then I suppose I must sincerely rescue you. With that, he unleashed the power of the holy sword, which had been condensed as if he were about to exert his full strength. Feeling an unusual momentum, Resimus adjusted her stance. Is this the true power of the holy sword? It was definitely different from the power bestowed upon other knights. It seemed to demonstrate the true power of the rightful owner. It was a power that was awe-inspiring and tension-inducing at the same time. Somewhat disappointing, Resimus exclaimed with a bitter laugh. Upon hearing this, Ashel's expression slightly contorted. The power shown by Cyan was far superior. He instilled fear just by standing there. Suddenly, a small smirk formed at the corner of her lips. The power of the holy sword is laughable, in fact. If this is all the power it has, it might have been better not to accept it. At the unexpected provocation, Ashel seemed momentarily taken aback, but soon responded with a relaxed smile. The holy sword is not a demonic sword. It's not meant to instill fear in people. When did I mention anything about a demonic sword? Resimus flashed her eyes as if to correct his misconception. Cyan didn't even reveal the power of the demonic sword in front of me. The fear I felt was solely from his inherent power. The state he reached was, strictly speaking. Recalling the memories of that day still sent chills down her spine. Just locking eyes with him was enough to induce a strong sense of pressure and fear, truly transcending human boundaries. It was on a level incomparable to Ashel. That was Cyan. A presence so awe-inspiring that one might wonder if anyone in this world could defeat him, inspiring not just fear but reverence. Compared to him, Ashel was nothing more than a rabbit before a tiger. There was no trace of fear or any negative emotions in her eyes. Step aside, Resimus. With that, Erin stepped forward, pushing Resimus aside. Resimus's words echo my own sentiments. The power Cyan showed was anything but trivial. My years of effort to turn the impossible into possible were rendered meaningless in an instant. Thus, she had decided to give up everything and die by Cyan's hands. But Cyan spared her life, and that was why she was here now. I have determination, the determination to chase after someone, but Ashel, you lack that. When two people with the same power clash, ultimately the one with determination wins. There's a contradiction in your words. Are you saying that you can handle the power given to you by me better than I can? You'll understand once we face off. Responding to her confident demeanor, Erin manifested the power of the holy sword she had received from Ashel. Show me, Ashel, the true power of the Savior within you. As if responding to her resolve, resonance occurred between Erin's body and the sword, and soon shining wings emerged from her back. As Erin fully spread her wings and stared at Ashel with a determined gaze, Ashel met her eyes with a look of dismay. The only path to follow the right order is right in front of you. I cannot comprehend why everyone is filled with such distrust and doubt. It's truly beyond me. Then, with a bewildered sigh, he looked up at the sky. It was a sight rarely seen from him, who was always composed. When did things go wrong? When did mist start obscuring my path, which was always illuminated? Ever since that child started to make his presence known in the family, my path has darkened. People who should truly believe in me and unquestionably follow me, they harbor doubt rather than trust. There's nothing in this world that you must unquestionably follow. Even if it's you, the owner of the holy sword. Perhaps Princess Erin's negative feelings also stem from Cyan. Ashel's face hardened at Erin's denial, his eyes filled with a subtle but clear anger. As rigid as his face, his eyes conveyed a hint of hidden rage. I will change your mind. First, I will purify the misguided doubts harbored within Princess Erin, Ashel declared cryptically as he raised the holy sword. Not only the princess but also everyone touched by Cyan's influence will be purified by me. Soon, resonance occurred with a brilliant light emanating from the holy sword, and wings of light emerged from Ashel's back, much larger and grander than Erin's wings. However unfazed, Erin stepped forward even as their swords clashed. As the swords collided, Erin realized immediately that this was a power she couldn't easily handle, but she had to endure it. Compared to Cyan's power, this was nothing. With the thought of grasping even a fragment of Cyan's power again, Erin summoned all her strength to endure this trial. Look at me, Ashel called out amidst their desperate struggle. Turning her gaze, Erin was met with Ashel's eyes glowing with an unfamiliar crimson light. The time is near when not only the princess but everyone in this world will look at me. I, Cyan Vert, am the sole truth of this world. As the mind became numb and vision blurred, suddenly the body started to heat up. The discomfort intensified the more she looked into Ashel's eyes, yet for some reason she couldn't look away. As the body and mind gradually became hazy due to the inexplicable force, you must have felt a lot of humor while I was away. A familiar voice was heard from behind. Realizing the owner of the voice, Erin immediately turned her head. There, with a gleeful smirk on his lips, I had a good laugh after a long time. Cyan was standing. Chapter 229, Day of Reorganization. Part 8. Honestly, my heart has been heavy lately due to various matters, but that heaviness vanished in an instant. What? The only truth in this world, still blabbering such nonsense without even understanding their own position. They say no matter how much you polish, the inner self doesn't change, and indeed the words of the old folks are never wrong. Letting the excitement settle for a moment, I focused my attention on the situation unfolding before my eyes. Ashel and Princess Erin wielding the power of the holy sword Durandal. Seeing them clashing swords, it seemed that this foolish princess, in her arrogance, had activated her power before the true owner of the holy sword, and indeed, the power displayed was much more refined than what I had seen in Aquiel. But still, it's just a replica, and to surpass the source of power, Durandal, would be practically impossible. Nevertheless, it doesn't seem entirely hopeless. The fact that they are clashing at this level demonstrates how little progress the owner of the holy sword has made in 7 years. With a light leap, I swung my sword Karam to separate the two. "See, Cyan, when did you arrive? Just now. I apologize for being late." Pushing aside the bewildered girl, I stepped forward. "It's been a while, Cyan." Ashel greeted me with a nonchalant expression. Though the warmth in his smile was almost sickeningly friendly for a meeting between enemies, I didn't show any reaction. "Have you been well, brother?" "What a cruel question. Don't you know better than anyone that I haven't been?" Though his laughter contained a hint of sarcasm, there was a sharp edge concealed within. "He's clearly engulfed in anxiety and anger right now." "What about the woman who went to meet you?" He was referring to the missing person. "If she hadn't gone somewhere on her own, she should still be at the Imperial Library." "I left her alive for now, considering you seem to have put a lot of effort into creating her, but I must say I'm disappointed." "Disappointed?" he chuckled ironically. "All you prepared for 7 years just to make me surrender was that mere doll, not even the former wielder of the demon's sword, just the descendant. I told you to do everything you could, didn't I?" "I know. I didn't expect that girl to defeat you, but I also didn't expect her to break through so easily. This wasn't part of my plan, you know, and because of you my plans are gradually falling apart, Cyan." "Well, you may say that, but I haven't done anything properly yet, have I? Isn't it natural to be taken aback when someone says such things to a person who hasn't shown anything yet?" Kugagung. Just as I was about to ask what was so dissatisfying, a tremendous roar came from directly in front of me precisely at 11 o'clock, accompanied by a streak of lightning. Not a natural lightning strike in the clear sky, mind you, but an artificial one created by magic. Magic is magic, but where that lightning struck is also important. If my eyes didn't deceive me, that's the location of the Royal Assembly Hall where the royal event is currently taking place. Of course, both I and Princess Erin couldn't hide our surprise. In other words, it means that nobody here predicted the situation. The culprit who summoned the lightning had a rough idea. It's the light attribute magic, God's strike. I believe there's only one person capable of casting that magic at that location. The holder of the light attribute magic, evaluated as the child of the Emperor and possessing the best magical talent, Violet Sevelaris. There was no one else but her. Didn't Her Highness mention that I visited? What did you do to Princess Violet? What did I do? Just infused a small amount of mana into her body, that's all. There might be a slight resistance in her body, but it wouldn't cause any harm to her life. Moreover, I didn't engage in any magical or trivial tricks. I just sowed suspicions. Humans inherently live with cunning, always hoping for things to go their way, or at least for the person they like to pay attention to them. Princess Violet. From the moment I met her in her room, I could feel an immense madness, obsession, and desire for her to be the only one he looked at. If she were an ordinary person, she would have already burst with frustration, but she barely managed to contain it, trying to maintain her dignity as a princess. Haven't they said that holding in everything will turn into illness? With a compassionate heart, I only added a tiny bit of emotion to alleviate her desires. The feelings that drove Violet to summon that lightning were probably something like this. Without Ashel, I have to solve everything myself. Only then will he look back at me. It's truly a tearful affection. Although I recall some fool who did the same thing in a past life, I can't help but laugh. "Why?" he asked me again, sighing and bowing his head. "I didn't do anything to you, Cyan. You didn't exist in the future I dreamed of. You were just the incompetent youngest of the Vert family, destined to fade away without any attention. Why do you keep appearing in front of me and interfering with my plans? Look, it's such a pathetic, almost desperate sight. A human driven to cry out to deny the given situation, clinging to the edge of the cliff. Yes, your words aren't entirely wrong. I was originally a worthless existence in the family, if not necessary in the family at all. You didn't show interest in me from the beginning, just like the rest of the family. But I told you, didn't I? I'm just one human who knows your true nature very well. From the standpoint of someone who knows that the future you dream of is not a good one for me, how can I not try to stop you? Perhaps moved by my answer, he didn't say anything. After a considerable silence, haha, what came out of his mouth was nothing but laughter. You're just like me, Cyan. Did he finally go mad? You're saying dreadful things. No need to deny it, you are like me. You don't trust others and always remain wary of what's around you. You prefer revealing malice born of instinct over baseless kindness and view humans very negatively, not feeling any moral qualms about using or killing them. It seemed like he wasn't wrong, so I decided to continue listening for now. If you're human, then you should naturally uphold conscience and goodness. I didn't know why I had to uphold them. I just heard that upholding them was the order of the world, so I tried to uphold them to some extent. But now I realize how meaningless it is, all because of you. The light of the holy sword, which had been dimmed for a moment, began to shine brightly again. Ashel slowly raised the holy sword. If my plans were ruined because of you, it would be right to eliminate you and start anew, but I won't do that. What do you intend to do then? I am someone who seeks to reach the highest position attainable by humans. I can't claim to have the qualifications to reach that place without subjugating even one human like you, can I? Light emitted from the tip of the holy sword soaring into the sky. The emitted light scattered in all directions, and for a moment the golden-haired spirit of the holy sword flickered before disappearing. I admit it, Cyan, even after 7 years I can't defeat you. What's the point of possessing a power that I can't defeat alone? So I've decided to share that power with everyone who will aim their swords at you. Swoosh. At that moment, a sword flew from behind me. I managed to dodge it lightly, but I couldn't hide my surprise. The one who swung the sword was none other than Princess Erin. Wait, Cyan, this isn't my will. She was denying the situation with a confused expression as if it wasn't her own intention. Something is forcing me to move. It keeps controlling my body. Princess Erin trembled uncontrollably as if she couldn't control her body herself. It seemed as if someone unseen was forcibly pulling her body. Thud, thud, as her words ended, the ominous sound of heavy footsteps echoed in our ears. Naturally, our gaze turned back. The moment we discovered the figure of a stranger in the splendid armor shimmering with the light of the sun, I blinked. The magnificent golden armor radiated a solemn and majestic aura, even the distinct royal insignia engraved on his chest. In this imperial city, indeed in this empire, there was only one person who could wear such armor. Father, the Emperor of the Empire, Dion Sevelarus. The golden aura akin to the holy sword was vividly manifesting in his sword. Protect us from the imminent danger. With the incantation, a giant white shield appeared in the air. Zap. The lightning struck the shield instead of the ground, sparking in all directions, blindingly bright before gradually subsiding. Jerian breathed a sigh of relief at the miraculous turn of events. People were left dumbfounded by the inexplicable sight. Did Commander Jerian just protect the assassins? No, it was Princess Erin and us who he protected. If it weren't for that shield, we surely would have been harmed too. Violet, you attacked Princess Erin. Really? The assassins were equally bewildered. As the situation was so sudden, there was no time for evasion or defense. Thanks to Jerian's quick response, we were unscathed. The assassins exchanged glances momentarily before, thud suddenly, Princess Erin was thrown onto the stage and disappeared into a black mist. The knights looked back and forth between Jerian and Violet, unsure of what to do. However, Violet's face was distorted to the point where she seemed unable to make a rational judgment. Escort Princess Violet. Without any hesitation, Jerian calmly gave orders. What are you doing, Jerian? The assassins escaped because of you. Why are you interfering with my affairs? Clearing out before things got worse was the best course of action. Jerian didn't care and approached the motionless Princess Erin. It was a fake. She was nothing more than an intricately crafted artificial corpse manipulated by magic. The knights who had come with him were astonished. Did we buy enough time? Since they didn't even know their true purpose, it was all futile for Jerian. What should we do, Jerian? What use was demanding orders from someone with no authority? But knowing it was an unavoidable situation, he issued orders, drawing on his experience as a commander. First, calm the people down. Let them know that Princess Erin is unharmed and there is nothing to worry about. End the investigation now. The knights bowed and immediately left, as Jerian was about to rise from his seat. With an unknown sound, a golden light suddenly shot up from the west. It was undoubtedly the direction of the Imperial Library. For a moment, everyone was bewildered by the unfamiliar situation. Some knights suddenly stopped in their tracks and began twisting their bodies. What's happening? My body is moving on its own. The commonality was that each knight's sword was manifesting a golden light. It wasn't just the Imperial and Salvation Knights. Turning their gaze down from the stage, they saw that some observers of the investigation were also twisting their bodies in the same way. Most of them were the personal knights of nobles who had come from various territories for the conference. As the situation became increasingly eerie, the bodies of the knights showing abnormal behavior suddenly stiffened like stone. Their eyes immediately turned towards the Imperial Library, seeming to ignore any words or commands. For salvation, muttering incomprehensible words, they all started running towards that place. Chapter 230. Day of Reorganization, Part 9. At that moment I had this thought: could that be a marionette imitating the Emperor? However, that thought vanished in less than 3 seconds. Mimicking a person's demeanor isn't something one can do lightly. The posture, gait, demeanor, and other supplementary elements. The person approaching before my eyes is undoubtedly the Emperor of this country, Dion Sevelarus. Despite suffering from a chronic illness for the past few years, unable to even carry out daily activities, his appearance suggests he could handle confronting a beast without any issues. Not just the Emperor. Princes, Knights of Salvation, and numerous other knights who seem to have just wielded a sword are following behind the Emperor. If there's one thing they all have in common, it's that they all have swords in hand. The swords emit a light similar to that of the Holy Sword. Why is His Majesty here? But the one who seemed more shocked than me was Princess Erin. Her father, who had been lying in bed all day struggling to breathe, suddenly appeared fully armed before her. It would be strange not to be surprised. However, to avoid causing trouble, it's better to calm her down for a moment. I gently placed my hand on her forehead. Nullify everything. Just like during the Aquil, I completely nullified her uncontrollable power. The light emanating from the sword and wings gradually disappeared, and Resimus supported her as she lost strength and fell. His Majesty. Even as she fell, her gaze remained fixed on the Emperor. As time passed, more and more knights gathered, and rumors spread that there was something interesting to see, attracting even ordinary people to gather. Finally, stepping forward past Ashel, the Emperor gracefully raised his sword. As the Emperor of the Ushif Empire, I command those of you holding the Sword of Salvation to act. The knights responded with a thunderous battle cry. All knights, raise your swords to eliminate the misty being that insults the light and disgraces the imperial family. You must not lower your swords until that being kneels and falls. We will follow your Majesty's command. This is truly the pinnacle of a puppet show. So ultimately, the reason for distributing the Holy Sword so freely was for this. It's a decidedly characteristic idea. Instead of acting directly, creating a kind of Holy Sword Legion by sharing power with those around you to deal with things on your behalf, it's just the same. Countless swords aimed at me for the purpose of exterminating evil. To them, I was like the absolute evil disrupting the order of this world. I fought and resisted to survive until the end, but in the end I died. Alone, truly desolate. In reality, the situation now is even more serious than back then. Look, it's Princess Erin. That assassin kidnapped Princess Erin. Release the princess. Kill that assassin. I didn't say a word or take any action. However, to the crowd right now, I probably appear as the culprit who kidnapped Princess Erin, the one responsible for the continent's turmoil. What a ridiculous and amusing situation. Do you see it, Cyan? Ashel, with an air of arrogance, suddenly asked me. This is the gaze of everyone directed at you. It's also the world's gaze upon you. Your existence is nothing but a sinful presence that ultimately brings chaos to people. No one desires your existence. Clever, isn't it? Since it's not something I'm unaware of, I didn't particularly care. No one is here to help you, let alone a savior. If you become ensnared by loneliness and solitude, you'll soon fall into despair. Then you'll finally see that I am the only one who can rescue you from the abyss of despair. He spouted such nonsense about being the only one who could save me in the worst moments. I continued with indifferent responses without offering any retort. Aren't you feeling unjust? Princess Erin asked, looking at me. Is this truly what you and the mist wanted? Is being despised by people and unjustly treated by the world what you really desire? She appealed as if demanding an explanation, but I remained silent. Who would want to be rejected as a human being? No one. However, it's just familiar to me. What? To me, this situation is just familiar, so I'm unfazed. How is that even possible? Princess Erin shook her head with a face that couldn't comprehend. You won't understand. But I have no desire to make you understand. There was never an ideal salvation for someone like me to begin with. Just me alone, lonely, without anyone's help. I will overcome this situation. With such a calm mind, as I was about to raise my sword, my lord, a familiar voice suddenly rang out. Whoosh! Suddenly a gust of wind swept through, and 2 men holding swords rushed towards me through the crowd. Without a doubt, they immediately stood before me, pointing their swords at the knights instead of me. Brian, it was my servant Brian. I'm glad you're safe. I distinctly remember telling him to wait in the void, so why is he here? The black-haired man who followed him glanced at me briefly before focusing his gaze back on the knights. Wait, I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. Certainly, he was with Luna and Roland. Shush, the confusion continued. A mysterious black mist of unknown origin enveloped the surroundings as if trying to protect me, and from within a familiar voice echoed. You're really making quite a mess of things. It was a somewhat irritated voice. The mist disappeared along with the brief voice. Gah! Suddenly unfamiliar screams erupted from the crowd. The screams gradually came from various places and people shouted, It's the mist!" As the knights were pushed back, the assassins began to reveal themselves. They gradually gathered in front of me, soon preparing to defend me. There were no words or explanations. It was as if fighting for me was a given. Amidst this, the leader who was annoyed at me did not appear. "What will you do, my lord?" Brian asked on my behalf, somewhat puzzled. "Will you leave this place while we're buying time, or—" Brian couldn't finish his sentence. "If we're not going to flee, the only option left is to kill them all." But regardless of my choice, his eyes were filled with determination to follow through. "Still, it's fortunate," Princess Erin said, rising to her feet. "You might always think you're alone, but you're not. No matter how much the world denies your existence as unnecessary, there are undoubtedly people whose lives have changed because of you. Like me and Resimus." The princess once again poised herself, pointing her sword at the knights, not me. Resimus also took a stance with her. "Remember what I said in Aquil, I wanted to save you, I alone won't be enough. But with the countless people who want you, I believe we can. There are surely people moving for you not only here but in entirely different places as well. I've never asked for that. It doesn't matter if you don't want it. It's what I want." Unintentionally, a hollow laugh escaped me. "You're still clinging to hope until the end. It's too late for that now, there's no impact." She now accepted criticism of herself without a care. "Show me, Cyan. The true nature of the light and mist you speak of." I quietly looked up at the sky. A dark sky covered with black clouds. It felt like I was seeing my future filled with hardships and trials. But strangely, it put my mind at ease. I no longer want to entertain trivial thoughts. I should just focus on what I need to do from now on. Distorting the face of that detestable demon, laughing once again. In the dazzling brilliance of the light-filled void, a woman sat on a silver throne at its center, her eyes closed, enjoying a moment of rest. Tick-tock, tick-tock. After a while, noisy footsteps were heard. Accompanied by the sound, a faint black mist flowed from the front. Sensing the arrival of a guest, the woman gently opened her eyes. "Your face has improved a lot from 7 years ago, hasn't it? Fortunately, it seems your recovery went smoothly. Did your master feed you well?" Even with Karam's sarcasm, she didn't bat an eyelash. "Human beings are becoming more and more cunning, aren't they? They never know when to give up. When we see them accomplishing unimaginable tasks like this." "I'll give you a chance." Karam, Durandal, who had remained silent all along, finally spoke up. "Consume your master's soul here and take over their body." "Are you still half asleep? What kind of nonsense is that? Isn't it a simple task? Just awaken your suppressed nature. Once you take possession of the successor's body, I'll take care of the rest." Durandal expressed firm intention. "Was our supreme holy sword someone who was so unable to judge the situation? Do you really think that this situation has turned in your favor? Don't you know what will happen when our masters face off against each other? We might have to reshape the world once again. Think about it, Karam. What would be more beneficial for you?" At the somewhat serious proposal, Karam momentarily closed her mouth. Turning her gaze slightly to the side, she seemed to be considering, albeit very slightly. "No, I refuse." She firmly rejected Durandal's proposal with a resolute tone. "Why? Because I don't want to." With a very simple yet straightforward answer, Durandal was left speechless. "Do you think I would refuse such an exciting future? I already told you. Let's just do what we've been doing." Quietly withdrawing her foot, Karam approached Durandal little by little. "Resist more, rebel more. The more you and your master struggle, the more exhilaration both I and my master will feel. Well, you and your kind haven't changed." Durandal nodded as if he had expected it. "In the end, you and I cannot coexist on this land. Neither you nor your successor, nor the one who originated you. You shouldn't think about existing wholly on this land anymore." The two women were thinking the same thing at the moment. "My master will triumph." The firm belief that their masters, who control and rule them, will win this fight and compel their opponents to submit, burned strongly in the hearts of both women, leaving no room for anyone to be dominant. Chapter 231, Faith and Doubt. Part 1. A chaotic situation where nothing seems to make sense. However, there was one common thought that came to people's minds at the moment. The knights wielding those golden swords were not in their right minds. Although they moved under the pretext of obeying the emperor's orders, there was no sense of self in their eyes. Among them, the knights were relatively better off. The most incomprehensible was undoubtedly the emperor himself. Look at his sturdy and robust figure. Who would believe that he was a sickly emperor lying in bed just this morning? At this rate, doesn't it seem like they are being manipulated by some unknown force? Otherwise, the emperor's current state could not be explained. What should we do? But it's the emperor's command. We must go and support immediately. Well, yes, but... Some knights were at a loss, glancing at each other and expressing various doubts. Seeing this, Jerian, who had been observing the situation, approached them. "Your swords lack light. Most of the knights who inherited the power of the Holy Sword were either knights of salvation or seasoned veterans belonging to the emperor's army. Those who did not receive the power were simply ordinary knights, whose abilities fell far short compared to those who did. Those who were manifesting the power of the Holy Sword were not only the Emperor's army and Knights of Salvation. Hurry back, Jake. What's going on, Bama? Why aren't you following my orders? Marinal, come to me immediately. Some nobles were screaming orders. On the scene, some knights who accompanied the nobles for negotiations clashed swords in a bid to eliminate assassins, prioritizing their lord's commands over even the Emperor's decree. Strictly speaking, they were knights who must prioritize their lord's command over the Emperor's. For the nobles, seeing knights who should be willing to die at their lord's command, but instead listening to their words, was almost maddening. Of course, the swords of these knights also shone brightly with the light of the Holy Sword. "What are you all doing?" One of the Knights of Salvation, who was engaged in combat with assassins, shouted at the hesitant knights. "We are the Knights of Salvation who purify the evil in this land and maintain peace. Shouldn't we immediately subdue those troublemakers who are obstructing the establishment of a new order?" At this, a knight of the Emperor's army also spoke up. "The Emperor's command has been given, why are you hesitating? But just this morning the Emperor was." "Do not harbor doubts about such things, we just need to believe in the Emperor's words and follow his orders. Hold your swords with firm conviction, knights." Some knights, moved by those words, who had hesitated for a long time, picked up their swords and rushed forward, but even such a sight seemed awkward to Geryon. "Was this what you meant by the power of faith?" Unquestioning obedience without any doubt. In this way, what difference is there between them and dolls? Such blind obedience could never be considered a proper order. "Geryon, what should we do?" His subordinates, who had rushed over after hearing the situation, demanded instructions from him. Fortunately, there were still some knights left, including his subordinates, who did not rashly step forward with doubts about the current situation. To them, Geryon turned and said, "Let's try an experiment." His mention of an unexpected experiment puzzled the knights. "I won't force you, but from now on I intend to approach those assassins and fight alongside them. Only those with a mind should follow me." The knights looked at him with disdainful faces. "What are you talking about? Fighting alongside assassins? Why would you do such a thing? Perhaps to maximize the emotions that are rising in your minds." The knights who did not understand blinked their eyes. "What we need now is not faith but doubt. Why do we have to fight those assassins? Why are they doing such things if we continue to question?" Geryon raised his sword with a determined look. "We can get closer to the truth of this situation." In his eyes, there was a strong determination to resolve a question that had been buried for decades in this place. The knights, unleashing the power of the Holy Sword to its fullest, faced the assassins. Without hesitation, Cyan rushed towards Ashel as soon as the battle began. Who could think of participating in such a fierce competition? As she knew that she couldn't intervene in that area, Erin turned her gaze to face her opponent. Facing Erin with an unwavering gaze was Emperor Dion. Just looking at him made her heart heavy, and her hands holding the sword trembled like a bamboo in the wind. Why does such a situation have to happen? To have to point a sword at the Emperor, her most beloved and respected figure, her father, for Erin, there had never been such a tragedy. As if trying to forget that lingering feeling, Erin quickly lifted her head. The Emperor is not in his normal state right now. Surely he is being moved by a power artificially injected rather than his own. She had to calm him down before things got worse. The only one who could do that role was none other than herself, Erin believed without doubt. "Watch my back, Resimus." "Yes, your highness," Erin shouted with all her might and rushed straight towards the Emperor. Clang. It was a sincere strike without a hint of hesitation, but the Emperor effortlessly blocked it. Although momentarily surprised by the unexpectedly solid feeling, Erin continued her relentless assault. Clang, clang. With Resimus joining forces, they showed a fierce momentum with synchronized attacks, but the Emperor countered all their strikes without taking a step back. It wasn't magic or the power of the Holy Sword. It was the inherent power the Emperor possessed. The Emperor had exceptional skill from the start. Being able to withstand a 2-on-1 battle with just swordsmanship alone was a testament to that. "What are you doing, Erin?" Opening the distance for a moment, the Emperor opened his mouth and asked the bewildered duo. "I want to ask you the same. Just this morning, weren't you lying in bed, gravely ill? Unless you've been hiding your strength all this time, how can you show yourself like this? If I don't act, the Empire and even the continent will be engulfed in chaos. To prevent that, I have no choice but to act." Even if, the Emperor glanced at the hand opposite the one holding the sword. A sharp trembling despite desperate control. It was a kind of symptom showing that he was not in full condition. "Even if there is a risk of falling here today," but the Emperor clenched his fist as if to accept it. Erin passionately appealed to convince the Emperor. "Your Majesty, you are misunderstanding something. They are not beings causing chaos in the continent, even if you wait a little longer to judge what is the truth." I don't have time for that, Aaron. The Emperor's returned answer was truly firm. I don't have much time left to protect this empire as the Emperor. That's why my body has to move first, not my mind. With an unwavering gaze, the Emperor aimed his sword at Aaron. So don't try to persuade me. Even if your beliefs are correct, you must prove them not with words but with actions. If you still want to prove that your beliefs are right, you must show it with your actions. Can you defeat me here, Aaron? Can you take my place if you defeat me? Aaron couldn't bring herself to answer yes. Unprepared beliefs are nothing more than stubbornness. With such a heart, you can never become the Emperor. With that, the Emperor rushed towards Aaron. Aaron quickly took a defensive stance, clang. Unable to withstand the Emperor's fearsome strength, she was thrown backward in midair and fell to the ground. Your Highness, Resimus hurriedly rushed to her and intercepted the Emperor's sword. Aaron rolled 2 times in the air and quickly got up from the ground. Is His Majesty really? Actually, there was no wrong word to speak of. Helping Cyan in the current situation ultimately goes against the will of the royal family and the empire. Thus, Aaron had to prove that the act was not wrong, through action, not through clumsy persuasion. Since an emperor should never take anything lightly, one must always be prepared to bear everything and sacrifice. To say one wants to be an emperor without even having that in place, it's nothing more than childish stubbornness. Once again, with a determined heart, Aaron aimed her sword at the Emperor. His Majesty's words are correct. Unprepared beliefs are nothing more than stubbornness, so I'll show you. My prepared belief, 7 years of effort that came running to help Cyan. Aaron unleashed not the power of the holy sword, but all the mana dormant within her. Weeing a silver aura emanated from the sword in response to mana. It wasn't for Cyan's sake. This was not born from a desire to save Cyan, but from Aaron's own desire to become emperor. Now was the time to prove her determination before the emperor. With her preparations complete, Aaron immediately rushed towards the emperor. The emperor, too, prepared to defend himself by manifesting the power of the holy sword that had been suppressed for a moment. Stay still, do nothing. No one had ever shown her a different path, except one person. Only Cyan had shown Aaron the path to becoming an emperor. Whether it was possible or not, Aaron had relentlessly pursued her first goal. The emperor regarded Aaron with admiration, advising her not to overextend herself and to try everything she could. But that was just good advice to hear. Now, the emperor spoke not of advice but the harsh reality she must face to become emperor. If she was not prepared even a little bit, she would be struck down by the emperor's sword before she could even reach him. Knowing this herself, Aaron poured all she had into wielding her sword towards the emperor. Clang. With a clear crack, a single sword shot up into the air. The sword fell to the ground without power and the bright glow gradually faded away. Ha ha, Aaron, having exerted all her strength, breathed heavily. In a precarious state where a slight touch could cause her to collapse, she struggled desperately using her mental strength. The emperor said nothing. All that could be heard was her labored breathing. Aaron slowly raised her head. The emperor was looking down at her with the same unchanged expression as before, but there was nothing in his hands. In contrast, Aaron still held the silver-glowing sword in her hand. She had done it. She had disarmed the emperor. She had proven her determination to become emperor to the emperor. The emperor's mouth, which had been a straight line, finally curved into a half-moon. Good job, Aaron, a brief word that needed no other. With that single word, Thud the emperor fell weakly into Aaron's arms. Chapter 232, Faith and Doubt, Part 2. Is this the power of humans? Shurs, experiencing the power of the holy sword for the first time, was utterly bewildered. Was this truly the power possessed by the invincible god? The strength was incomparable to any opponents he had fought before. Of course, this strength didn't solely originate from the holy sword. From the beginning, it was nearly impossible for Shurs, a young swordsman of mere mercenary origin, to confront knights hailed as top-ranking knights by the Empire. Even though he managed to somehow block the attacks, whoosh. There seemed to be no room for a counterattack. If Shurs hadn't reacted instinctively and dodged just now, his neck would have been in danger. If he didn't keep his focus tight, he felt like he would reach the gates of the afterlife in no time. Trying to regain his stance in haste, I won't let you escape. The Knight of the Holy Sword immediately stuck to him as if not allowing any gaps. Clang, Brian stepped forward to block it. With swift swordsmanship rivaling that of a high-ranking knight, Brian fiercely countered the knight's attacks. This caused the knight to temporarily retreat. Are you all right? I'm still hanging in there. Please hold on a little longer. Young master will soon get the situation under control. I'll try my best. Shurs honestly didn't have much confidence, but he couldn't just sit idly by and give up. With a determination akin to forcing himself to eat mustard, Shurs raised his sword again. Although Brian also said so, he knew the situation was more serious than they thought. The Holy Sword's knights relentlessly attacked without showing any signs of fatigue. The Mist's members couldn't withstand their momentum and were gradually pushed back, while the encirclement around them tightened. Brian briefly considered requesting support from Cyan, but he immediately dismissed the thought. He was a sworn knight of Cyan. As a knight, it wouldn't be right to ask for help when he should be sufficient to support his lord. His best option now was to fight with all his might to ensure Cyan wouldn't be distracted. As he reaffirmed his loyalty to his lord and gripped his sword once again, suddenly, a group of knights appeared in front of Brian. Judging by their armor, they seemed to be from the Imperial Army, and some seemed like mercenaries of uncertain affiliation. Although Brian wondered about their unexpected arrival for a moment, they soon engaged in combat with the knights who stood before them. Protect the assassins. They seemed to have arrived to support the assassins. Seeing their actions, Brian and Schurz, who couldn't understand the situation, were soon joined by Jerian. Judging by their actions, it seems you're not allies of those gloomy fellows. Why are you helping us? What's wrong with having no reason? Just think of us as reinforcements who have come to help you for now. Jerian shrugged as if it were nothing. We'll eliminate anyone who opposes the new order. In contrast, the Holy Sword's knights showed no concern even when facing their own allies, considering them enemies. They swung their swords as if they were evil, causing those facing them to feel even more puzzled. Why are you doing this? We are knights who protect the Empire and the continent according to His Majesty's orders. Why would you oppose His Majesty's commands? His Majesty has fallen. The sudden announcement of the chaotic situation spread rapidly. The gazes of the knights all turned to one place. The dignified and imposing figure who had been giving orders had already disappeared. All that remained was a feeble figure, collapsed and being cradled in the arms of Princess Erin. Escort His Majesty. Quickly, Erin requested help while supporting the fallen emperor. The emperor, receiving protection from other knights, left the scene. The people were bewildered by the sudden turn of events. However, the Holy Sword's knights remained unfazed, their goal still being the elimination of those opposing the new order. How can you not have doubts after seeing that sight? Jerian shook his head and, despite trembling, resumed his fight against the knights. In that brief moment, the situation changed drastically in many ways. However, such developments were not at all hostile to the owner of the Holy Sword. I couldn't help but smile as I noticed his noticeably darkened complexion. Your complexion has darkened significantly. It seems like things aren't going as planned. He frowned slightly before giving a vague smile in response. It's truly perplexing. The future Boris and I foresaw was not like this, with unforeseen events continuing to unfold. Support from the Imperial Army and unidentified mercenaries, the Emperor's departure, and so on. Surely none of this was planned for you. But it doesn't matter, regardless of how things unfold, the end is predetermined. Eventually, everything will return to its rightful order, and in the end I will be the one laughing, a predetermined end. An unchanging future. He confidently declared that he would ultimately be the one to laugh no matter how things played out. Sigh, an involuntary sigh escaped my lips. How could things be so consistent? Now even pity and sympathy began to arise within me. Do you really think that the future given to you will continue unchanged? It's because it's the future that must continue. A butterfly's small flapping wings can cause a storm in the distant ocean. Surely you must know that even the smallest change can alter significant futures. Well, the future depicted in the scriptures isn't as easily swayed by small changes. As he responded, he stumbled over his words unintentionally. I shook my head with a skeptical expression and continued. You've always been like this. Instead of overcoming obstacles on your own, you've always relied on others or external support. What are you implying? Don't deny it. Have you ever overcome a challenge solely with your own strength? You've always risen to your position with the help and support of others. There's nothing you've achieved entirely on your own. Ashel couldn't deny it. So this time, try relying on yourself instead of others. Who knows, maybe your change could alter the predetermined future. However, I knew too well that it was an impossible task. Even in the face of death, human nature remains unchanged. I didn't expect his nature to change in that brief moment. Ashel struggled to respond, his lips trembling in frustration. Whoosh. At that moment, the Holy Sword clashed with Karam, and the golden light emanating from it was brighter than before. Ashel and I were both surprised, silently staring at the light for a moment. That's it. Ashel reacted first. No matter how the middle unfolds, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, the future at the end won't change. While pushing Karam away, he raised the Holy Sword high into the sky. Boom. Once again, the brilliance of the Holy Sword soared into the air. The knights, feeling the increased power, let out a roar. The assassins, overwhelmed by the momentum, faltered while the knights pressed on with even greater force. Clang. As if to show me, he swung the sword towards me. As I clashed swords with him, my brow furrowed. The power had clearly changed from before. I didn't know who or what had sent this power, but the power of the Holy Sword was now even more formidable than before. Do you see, Cyan? This is the power of faith. It's not a power that can be overcome by trivial doubts. It's absurd. The one who doesn't even give an ounce of trust to others is talking about faith. Well, if others believe it, it might be fine, but I still can't understand. However, even this newfound power feels the same to me. But arg, be careful, Shurs. It seemed others couldn't do the same. They lacked the strength to hold back the charging knights of the Holy Sword. They were just barely hanging on to survival. It would be too much to ask them to do more. I turned quickly to help them for a moment, but where are you going, Cyan? Clang. The owner of the Holy Sword blocked me as if expecting my move. What you need to protect isn't them, it's yourself. Feeling uncomfortable, I involuntarily narrowed my eyes. To protect myself, I shouldn't hesitate to use any means necessary, even if it means relying on others. That's what achieving a life for myself entails. Truly sickening. At this point, it's almost laughable to discuss. You who thoroughly exploit others for your own success only to cruelly discard them, that's who you are. Though I engage in such actions to achieve a life for myself, I'm different from you. As emotions surged within me, an uncontrollable force began to rise. Do you hear me, Cyan? Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed in my mind. This unmistakably belonged to Hestia. I instinctively responded via telepathy. What's going on all of a sudden? I'm truly sorry for the urgency, but I have something urgent to convey. Urgent situation? Wait, are you somehow watching me right now? Wasn't she supposed to be in my pocket dimension? Well, since Brian is here right now, there's no reason why she shouldn't be somewhere else. Luna will support you soon. What? Who did I hear that right? What do you mean? Are you by any chance with Luna right now? Yes. But I can't convey Lord Luna's voice in the current situation. Once again, this impudent junior of mine seems to have stirred up trouble somewhere, despite my explicit instructions not to interfere in the Imperial Palace. For once she obediently listened, but now she's meddling again. SSSS suddenly mist emanated from the Karam I was holding. It wasn't mist summoned by my will. What are you doing, Karam? I didn't do anything. Karam flatly denied any involvement. I couldn't help but wonder if that rascal god was up to something, but if so, I should at least feel some energy. But at present there was no sign of Eru's energy, let alone anything similar. Rather, there was an entirely new energy I had never encountered before. Ching, ching. Ching, the delightful sound of swordplay carried on the wind reached my ears. I instinctively turned my gaze. Just moments ago, the assassins were struggling to defend themselves, but now they were regaining momentum and overwhelming the knights of the Holy Sword. It wasn't just the knights. Attack! Brian and another man, whose name I didn't know, suddenly exerted their strength and drove the knights away with their own powers. The power emanating from their swords was almost at its peak, far surpassing the mist's power. Our master has quite a lot of luck, doesn't he? What? He even gets help from that fool. What are you talking about? Speak clearly, I urged Karam impatiently. Tomra Mihiram? That fellow is nearby. For a moment, I couldn't comprehend the situation, causing a brief pause in my thoughts. What do you mean he's nearby? Chapter 233, Faith and Doubt. Part 3, The Mist of Soul Stone, spreading out in all directions with a dark aura. This indicated that Luna's power had been successfully transmitted to Cyan, but there was no time for relief or relaxation. Hestia looked around with a worried gaze. Kukagung, an uneasy roar echoed in the space as if it would collapse at any moment. Has it been only 10 minutes since they entered this place? During that short time, spatial rifts appeared and disappeared repeatedly, and as they did, the owners of the scriptures and the tome drew more mana to overpower each other. Is that all? They even sent reinforcements to support the owners of the Holy Sword and the Demonic Sword who were currently in a standoff at the Imperial Palace. Their powers had already reached their limits, and now they were just waiting for the end. I'll admit it, you didn't just stumble upon the tome by chance. Luna, you are more than qualified to handle the divine scriptures. Don't praise me so easily. It'll just make me uncomfortable. There was only one person in this world whom she wanted to receive praise from, but even so, nothing will change. Even if you destroy this space, the predetermined ending will never change. It could be the beginning of change. Starting with the destruction of this space, I will gradually change your futures. Despite Boris's repeated warnings, Luna didn't even bat an eye, but the situation was not going in her favor. Hey, miss. Can you hold on? Ramihiram, checking on her condition, asked with a slight concern. Instead of asking that, why don't you try to open more rifts? Your mana is dwindling, miss. If this continues, cracks will appear not in the space but in your body. If I scrape the bottom of the barrel, that'll be enough. Luna, seeming indifferent, released even more mana. That should be enough. The space of the scripture is already so damaged that it's difficult for it to fulfill its function. Just doing this and retreating should pose no problem, right? I don't leave room for compromise. Once I start, I have to see it through to the end. Ramihiram's concern only stimulated Luna's determination. Realizing he had said too much, Ramihiram shook his head, refocused on what needed to be done. The situation was no better for Boris. While trying to mend the rifts, he glanced at the scriptures. The series of writings on the unfolded scriptures repeated disappearing, indicating that the future guided by the scriptures was continuously changing. Why? The appearance of the tome's owner was already an event not foreseen in the prophecy. The only fortunate thing was that the final future written at the end had not changed yet. In the end, no matter how the process went, he would be the one to laugh last, believing firmly in this just as he tried to erase all the doubts that arose in his mind. Boris's face suddenly froze like a rock. The future written in the scriptures had changed once again. It wasn't the end that changed, it was just the process leading to the predetermined end that changed. Why? Boris's face began to contort, unable to accept the given reality. His eyes trembled, his hands shook as if he were going insane. His face clearly showed his denial, unable to accept the reality given to him. Thunk! Suddenly Boris quickly covered the scriptures he had been channeling mana into, whom he created a gate abruptly and disappeared somewhere, leaving behind the space of the scriptures to the owner of the tome. Whether he fled sensing defeat or retreated to preserve his strength, the situation was uncertain. Thud with her opponent gone, Luna slumped to the floor, exhausted. Luna, Hastja, startled, hurriedly ran to support her. Ha ha! Exhausted to the point where even maintaining consciousness seemed impossible, let alone breathing, after exerting her mana to its limit. How did it get to this point? To reach this point required tremendous mental strength and a single-minded determination to be of help to Cyan. Hastja was not just impressed but in awe of her, Quackwing. However, they didn't even have time to feel that awe-inspiring emotion. What remained in the space where the owner had disappeared was just collapse. The space of the scriptures was gradually heading towards destruction. If they stayed there idly, they could be engulfed by the destruction as well. They had to desperately escape, but Hastja didn't have the ability to open a gate. A gate? Luna knew this too, so she barely raised her hand, but her hand, without even a trace of mana, fell weakly without being able to manifest the gate. In a state where even maintaining consciousness was overwhelming, there was no strength left to open a gate. Lost in indecision on what to do, Hastja's gaze soon fell on the tome that had slipped from Luna's hand. If I could just transfer my mana to Luna, it was power that she didn't need in the current situation anyway. Wouldn't it be better if she transferred it to Luna instead? Not entirely sure, but with the mindset of trying something at least, Hastja placed her hand on the tome. Zzzing, a large amount of mana flowed through her fingertips into the tome. Soon, a blue light emanated from the tome in response to the mana. Good job, ladies, I'll take care of the rest. Using the mana he received, Ramihiram created a gate and transferred them outside. The space of the scriptures collapsed with a loud noise and completely disappeared. My body felt lighter. My vitality soared even higher. It feels like wearing clothes that fit perfectly on my body. Was this the reason why the idiot god told me to find the tome? There was no power more fitting for me than this. Not just me, but the same could be said for others as well. The members who possessed the power of the mist were ecstatic, and even the knights and mercenaries who had no relevance were getting pumped up with the power, their morale boosted. I still don't understand. Why did the power of the tome suddenly appear? Where did Hastja and Luna? Wuong. With the sound of space splitting, a white gate suddenly appeared behind me. Naturally, I didn't create it. Although not exactly pleasant, a somewhat familiar face appeared beyond the strange space through which a strange atmosphere flowed. It was Luna. Without even sparing a glance at Hastja, who had just sent mental resonance to me, she struggled to come out with her support. I frowned at the incomprehensible situation. Hastja, Luna, Brian and Luna's knights also rushed to them as they noticed them. As they approached Luna to support her and check her condition, Hastja's anxious gaze soon turned towards me. Sigh. Cyan, just give me a brief explanation. At my indifferent response, Hastja's eyes trembled for a moment. She quickly summarized what had happened with Luna up until now. But I wasn't looking at Hastja's face, which seemed to be at a loss for what to do, let alone looking at Luna, who was on the verge of collapse. Then what was I looking at? Behind Luna, a familiar face with long black hair similar to Karam's, fluttering in the wind, I was looking at the face of an unknown man. Of course, he wasn't human. Apart from not being human, it seemed like only I could see him. Even though someone emitting such suspicious energy was right there, no one paid any attention to him. He just looked at me, not opening his mouth or anything. What was he looking at me for? If I had to guess from his eyes, which were the only thing I could see, he wasn't looking at me with hostility at least. But it wasn't friendly either. He just seemed to have a lot to say but didn't want to say it right now. That seemed to be the right interpretation. He glanced at me briefly, then suddenly nodded his head as if giving a signal. Chin at the same time, Luna grabbed my hand. She seemed to be having a hard time even breathing, let alone speaking. I bowed my head in the spirit of listening, and as a result, our faces naturally became closer. I know roughly what you want to say. Barely lifting her head, she whispered into my ear. Why did you come to the Imperial Palace? Who asked you for help? You're going to say something about that tree, right? Unable to do otherwise, I closed my mouth. Senior always acts selfishly, don't you? There's no rule saying I can't be like that. I just did what I wanted to do, whether it was a good decision or a bad one. I don't intend to judge her with such simplistic words as well done or not well done. I probably don't even have the right to. Honestly, I don't even know what to say. As if understanding my heart, Luna gradually squeezed my hand tighter. But even so, if it's come to this. On the other hand, her voice dwindled, becoming increasingly faint. But even if her voice became as soft as the breath of an ant, is it okay for me to turn away now? It would still ring clear in my ears. When I open my eyes again, you should be the first person I see, Senior. If not, she paused without finishing her sentence. I waited silently without urging her on. I might really cry. It was a bit out of the blue, but that thought crossed my mind. Although she had been more indifferent, more relentless, and less human than me at times, right now in this moment she seemed the most human. Luna buried her face in my embrace as she lost consciousness. The warmth transmitted through touch. I could tell how much she had exerted herself for me even without her saying a word. Gently embracing Luna, I guided her towards Brian. Protect her. No matter what happens. There was no need for a long speech, so I gave a brief instruction. I will uphold the honor of my lord. Brian soon wrapped her warmly in his cloak as he removed his own. Thinking that I might only stir up bitter emotions if I looked any longer, I tried to turn away, Clang. But the owner of the holy sword, who found this scene quite displeasing, personally rushed forward with his sword drawn. It seems that the time has finally come, the time to put an end to this long ordeal. I only turned my eyes slightly and quietly opened my mouth. 3 minutes, I'll give you exactly 3 minutes. During those 3 minutes, including my brother, I will remove those glaring eyes that dare to oppose me from my sight. Ashel, thinking he must have misheard, furrowed his brow. You're being too complacent. If I truly wished it, it would be better for you to kneel and beg with a sincere heart. It's not a request. Now it's time to put an end to his absurd fantasies. And it's not a warning either. The time has finally come for our intimate confession. This is an order from me to you and a mercy. I won't be swayed by your empty words anymore. Woon. Ashel swung his sword with genuine intent, but Clang. It was a sword that could never reach me. In a moment that lasted less than a second, the true form of the holy sword rose high into the air, not in Ashel's hand but hovering above the ground, and soon fell weakly to the ground. After a brief period of about 5 seconds of silence, I finally met his eyes and whispered softly, 10 seconds have passed. Chapter 234, Second Coming, Part 1. Barely 2 minutes remained, a short period of time. During that brief time, people's thoughts changed rapidly. Impressive, beyond impressive, overwhelming. So overwhelming it was almost devastating, devastating to the point of utterly pitiful. Countless gazes filled with pity and sorrow were directed towards the wielder of the holy sword. Tinkang, counting the seconds had become embarrassing. The holy sword, who had to open the path of salvation with the power of the sacred light, had already slipped from the owner's hands several times, tumbling to the ground. Even with swift strikes, even with powerful swings infused with the power of light, even with cooperation from other knights imbued with the power of the holy sword, even unleashing the divine technique exclusive to the wielder of the holy sword, Tinkang. It was all in vain. What Cyan had done was simply swinging the sword lightly, yet the holy sword slipped from the owner's hands with each light swing. A wall needing no further explanation. As useless as a random branch by the roadside, the holy sword had fallen into disuse, while Cyan overwhelmingly dominated Ashel, almost akin to training. 2 minutes and 30 seconds have passed. You now have only 30 seconds left. Complete indifference. Like observing a sturdy rock unaffected by sharp waves, Cyan's eyes remained unchanged. With Cyan's proposed time running out, now less than 30 seconds remained. Ashel's body and mind were increasingly consumed by anxiety and restlessness. Though desperate to come up with a plan as soon as possible, goodness, nothing came to mind now. Oh, holy sword, grant me more power. All Ashel could hold on to amidst his plea was the holy sword tightly clasped in his hands. In response to his plea, a surge of power emanated from the shining holy sword, but it was far from sufficient to confront Cyan. This isn't enough, I request more power, Durandal. The pitiful sight of the savior howling for strength while clutching the holy sword. Most of the onlookers furrowed their brows or averted their gazes in response. Do you see? Silently counting the time, Cyan finally posed a question. All these gazes directed towards you. They are filled not with unwavering faith in you, but with incomprehensible doubts. Now, even the knights who had inherited the power of the holy sword had ceased their battle, watching the confrontation between the two men. You must have realized it by now, brother. If you wish to preserve your life, now is the time to show your back and flee. But Ashel found himself at a loss for words. If you flee, you may survive. People will remember you as the holy sword's wielder who cowardly fled in the face of the vile presence before your eyes. However, If you stand against me until the end, even as a pitiful holy sword's wielder, your integrity as a savior may still be remembered. Which path do you choose, brother? Of course you're asking the obvious. I am the son of Vert Duchy, the guardian of the continent and the wielder of the holy sword. Even if my body is torn into countless pieces while fighting you, I will defend this place until the end, Cyan. Was his answer different from what Cyan had anticipated? For a moment Cyan maintained a blank expression before breaking into a smile. Do you know what, brother? What do you mean? Contrary to what you just said, your eyes clearly show a strong desire not to do so. Ashel could only stare, unable to close his gaping mouth. There's a strong urge within you to flee. I want to advise you to honestly confront yourself. But, after 3 minutes of immobility, Cyan finally stepped towards Ashel. Unfortunately, 3 minutes have passed. It was both an order and the end of mercy. Now all that remained for the wielder of the holy sword was a merciless judgment. Did you say you would defend the place even if I would only tear your body into countless pieces, brother? Slowly, step by step. Approaching him was the embodiment of all the evils of this world. Ashel, unable to suppress the rising tremor, stood frozen in place. Perhaps you think of me as someone too merciful, brother. Did you think I would only tear your body into countless pieces? Cyan chuckled mockingly. After a moment, Cyan's laughter subsided and his expression turned serious. It's thousands of pieces. It wouldn't mean anything unless I tear you apart so thoroughly that even recognizing who you originally were becomes impossible, right? A smile more wicked and malicious than 7 years ago, when he had become much more vicious. It was a chilling smile, so terrifying that no human could fully confront it. From now on, you will feel thousands of pains. Nothing will be trivial. People will feel pity as they see every inch of your body torn apart. And then they will tell others. They will remember you as the wielder of the holy sword who miserably met his end, unable to handle the power of the demonic sword. And, as the two drew closer, nearing within a foot's distance, the corner of Cyan's mouth rose even higher. People will remember you as the fake savior who boasted about establishing a new order with his feeble abilities. I will enjoy watching that hopeful future. With those words, Cyan raised the demonic sword enveloped in black mist high. In a moment, Ashel saw it. Exactly 1 second later, his entire body would be ruthlessly torn apart by the cruel sword. It was an area where neither evasion nor resistance was possible, a realm of impossibility. Ashel, imagining his future being torn into thousands, even tens of thousands of pieces, silently cried out for salvation. Boom! With a heavy sound piercing through the air and spreading dust clouds around, the surroundings became tumultuous. Karam was exactly 1 step away from Ashel's eyes, yet he was close but not touching. To be precise, it wasn't that he didn't touch but couldn't touch. What was currently touching the tip of Karam's sword was a spear. It was a long spear emitting a light similar to the one emitted by the holy sword. It wasn't thrown by anyone or summoned by magic. The origin of this spear was none other than the sky itself. As if a savior sent from the sky to rescue the wielder of the holy sword, it thoroughly blocked the path before Cyan and Karam. At this, Cyan subtly raised his head. The spear wasn't the only thing falling from the sky. At the end of the long spear handle extending from the sky, a giant hand holding the spear was positioned, and at the end of that hand stood a knight clad in dazzling golden armor. Located in the center of the imperial palace, the healing ward. As there was no time to move the fallen emperor to the palace, he was temporarily transported to the nearby healing ward. The emperor struggling to breathe and the healers striving desperately to save him. Aaron watched them with a heart-wrenching feeling. How in the world did His Majesty end up receiving the power of the holy sword? She hadn't heard the fact that the emperor had received the power of the holy sword. She couldn't imagine that the emperor would have asked for it voluntarily. Aaron was convinced that other members had pulled strings without her knowledge. Get out of the way! As the commotion outside the healing ward grew louder, a familiar voice rang out. Bam! The door, firmly closed to stabilize the emperor, was forcefully opened, and another member of the imperial family entered. It was the second princess, Violet Sevelaris. Her eyes, faced with the emperor's condition, flickered intensely. As if she hadn't expected this situation at all, she soon turned her gaze, filled with anger, to Aaron. What on earth have you done, Aaron? Even amidst the emotional reunion with her sister, who had been missing for a week, Violet was blaming Aaron for the current situation. Aaron blinked in bewilderment. How could you swing a sword at His Majesty? Aren't you supposed to be a member of the imperial family? How could you do something so absurd to His Majesty? Stop forcing your assumptions. Aaron's firm rebuttal startled Violet. You knew, right? You knew that His Majesty has received the power of the holy sword. If you have a mouth, speak. I didn't know. Her hesitant denial carried the weight of affirmation. Aaron grabbed Violet's shoulders with a confident gaze. How could you, as a child of His Majesty, do such a ridiculous thing to His Majesty? Did you really think that was for the good of our family and the empire? We are His children before we are princesses. How could you, as His child? I am also a victim. Pinned against the wall, Violet shouted, pushing away Aaron's hands. Ashel deceived me and put a spell on His Majesty. I didn't know either, I just thought His Majesty wanted it and accepted it. A spell? Violet quickly covered her mouth. What did you just say? Who put what on whom? Frustrated, Violet heaved a deep sigh. Then she looked at Aaron with a gaze filled with disappointment. You're not the only one concerned about the Empire, Aaron. I too worry about the safety and future of this country as a princess. What? I too have worked hard to follow in the footsteps of His Majesty, whom I respect so much, and not disgrace the name of the imperial family. You shouldn't look at me with such pathetic eyes. She expressed her feelings openly, as if sharing her grievances. Aaron felt a strange sensation seeing her sister's honest side for the first time. Just as you chased after that man Cyan, I merely followed him. If there's any responsibility to bear because of that. As Violet tried to continue her words, her lips trembled visibly. After calming herself down, she spoke calmly. As a princess, that's all I can do with confidence. With those words, she turned away. Where are you going? If you're curious, come along. Leaving a vague reply, Violet abruptly left the healing ward. Aaron hesitated for a moment about what to do, then glanced at the Emperor and closed her eyes tightly. Please, Resimus, help His Majesty. Ultimately, Aaron chose to follow Violet, leaving Resimus behind. Violet paid no attention to whether Aaron followed or not. She simply moved forward quietly to fulfill her duties. Her destination was none other than the Imperial Palace, specifically the underground passage. Click. Hastily opening the door, Boris barely managed to suppress his breath, which rose to his chin. He had expended far more mana than he had anticipated in the astral space. Now he found himself in a state where he could hardly contain the burgeoning aftermath. Struggling to lift his head, Boris finally managed to do so. And what met his eyes was Mia. You're here, Instructor Boris? Yes, why are you here, Mia? Mia replied with her usual indifferent expression. Because I couldn't kill Cyan Vert. While pondering what to do about that, someone curious about this place showed up. So I came back. Someone curious, what does that mean? Sensing a threat, Boris quickly turned his head, but his head didn't turn completely. Close to Boris's neck, halfway turned, was a black blade. Soon as cold sweat dripped down, a familiar voice echoed in his ear. You were looking forward to whose face would be distorted first, weren't you? How do you feel about your own being distorted first, Instructor Boris? Chapter 235. Second Coming, Part 2. The sky, once filled with dark clouds, cleared and the sun revealed itself in an instant. The golden armor of the sun reflected light that dazzled my eyes. What is this? For 3 seconds, this phrase seemed to repeat in my mind hundreds of times. Among the knight orders I know on this continent, there is no knight wearing such armor. In fact, I doubt if this can even be called a knight. To my eyes, the presence before me doesn't even appear human. Perhaps everyone around, including myself, is thinking the same thing about this being, a god, or a knight of a god. A knight commanded by a god has appeared from the heavens to save the owner of the holy sword from the wielder of the demonic sword. In an instant, tremors ran through the hand holding Karam. It wasn't my hand trembling. This trembling originated solely from Karam. Through the trembling that traveled through her hand, I could feel her anxious heart. It was the first time. Has there ever been a moment when she felt such anxiety in front of something? I dare say this wasn't like the usual emotional fluctuations that seemed trivial to her. Karam was clearly on high alert against the night before her. These insane beings. Her voice trembled, conveying even fear. Seeing her like this, I immediately manifested the power of mist. Shadow arts scattering 8 petals, the formidable technique of the high-level martial arts slicing through even tough epidermis. No one has ever withstood this technique without being torn apart. However, in the silent surroundings, the sound of metal rang out exactly 8 times. During the 8 swings of my sword, Karam couldn't land a single blow on the knight's armor. The knight thoroughly guarded against all my strikes with my sword. The knight's eyes finally met mine, eyes shining with dazzling brilliance beneath the golden helmet. Perhaps it's my mood, but it seemed to look down on me with great disdain. Slightly angered, I immediately prepared the next technique. But clang, this time the knight struck first, speed comparable to the leader's movements. I stopped my technique and hastily retreated. Kugakwung, just by thrusting the spear into the ground, a sound like thunder echoed. No, it would be more appropriate to say lightning struck. If I hadn't dodged the blow of that spear just now, I would have suffered damage no different from being struck by lightning. As I sighed, heat rose from my body. With the rising heat, my blood boiled. Yes, even the gods themselves seemed to intervene to save the demon disguised in the cloak of a savior, willing to step out now. The heat spread. What value is there in trying to protect such a despicable creature, to the extent of sacrificing even the gods of the heavenly realm? Well, it doesn't matter. That one is a being that must be thoroughly erased from the world I live in. And if there are those who hinder that, even if it's a god, I will kill them all. With this determination, as I was about to unleash Karam's power in earnest, For some reason, Kerem didn't respond. "What are you doing, Kerem?" There's no way she'd suddenly fall asleep in a situation like this. She was perfectly awake, yet for some reason she didn't respond to my question at all. Instead, Swish the Knight, holding the spear, approached Ashel instead of me and placed his hand on his head. Ashel accepted the knight's hand without resistance or response, as if receiving a baptism. Whirring then, light emanated from the point where the hand and head met. Enveloped in an inexplicable light, as if entranced, he wore a blissful expression before suddenly exclaiming, and just like that he vanished along with the light. He escaped boldly right before my eyes. In my bewildered and astonished state, I looked at the knight who had facilitated his escape. The knight in turn glanced back at me momentarily, whoosh emitting the same light, he too vanished. In a situation where even the slightest movement could cost him his life, Boris manifested a minuscule amount of mana in his hands, smaller than a fingernail so as not to be noticed. However, with a scream, Boris recoiled forward and the mana immediately dissipated. Thick blood streamed down from the shoulder pierced by the knife. No, this can't be. Where else would you attempt to use magic? It's my turn now. Silica remained stooped over, facing the pained Boris. Why are you in such a state? Who dared to torment the despicable, if not repulsive, Boris? Boris was in too much agony to respond. What does it matter what happened? What's important is that I've seized an opportunity, haven't I? A chance to thoroughly teach you a lesson. Boris, barely able to lift his head, glanced at the abandoned book that had fallen 5 paces away. Mia, why? Mia spoke with an indifferent expression as if it was nothing. I realized that the nightmares I had were not just nightmares, and I also learned whose voice was crying out to me. From that realization, there's no reason for me to stay with Boris anymore. That's a mistaken thought, Mia. You should be with us. Before Boris could earnestly appeal, he let out another scream. There's no time for sermons, Boris. Silica stomped on his wounded area with her foot. From Boris's writhing form, a white book fell out. It was the Hishkriya. Struggling, Boris reached out for the scriptures amidst the urgency. As soon as he grasped it, he quickly opened it to confirm the contents. Boris's eyes began to tremble eagerly as he read the sequence of words. Mia said that you and Ashel were planning something very interesting here. Planning something that might even be beyond your control. I came to see what it was all about. After a moment, Mia brought something from one side of the room. It was a small box, perfectly mixed with gold and silver. Leaving room for chance would be risky, wouldn't it? So it's best to deal with it decisively, so that none of you have any remaining options. With a nonchalant expression, Mia handed the box to Silica. It looked like a jewelry box at a glance. Silica, who was about to open the box, confirmed that it was locked with magic and then looked back at Boris. You've sealed it with quite a complicated spell, haven't you? Is there a gift for me inside? At the mention of a gift, Boris chuckled. Then he sighed deeply and opened his mouth with a crestfallen expression. I won't say don't kill me now. Whether you beat me to death, tear me apart, or throw me into boiling magma, do as you please, because the future has already changed. It's refreshing to see you resign like this. Does it mean even the last resort has lost its meaning now? I told you, didn't I? The future has already changed. The future designated by the scriptures remains unchanged. It's just that the process leading to that end has changed because of you and that so-called chosen successor, Boris screamed, mocking himself as Silica looked on. We've surpassed what we can handle. It's time for them to be truly reborn for a new order. Who are you talking about? Who else could it be? Obviously, those who don't want the order of this continent to change. It may have already begun. I wonder by now who Cyan Vert is clashing swords with. With a strange question, Boris continued speaking. Are you curious about what's in that box? I warn you, don't open it. Even the banished deity you worship wouldn't encourage it to be opened. It's something you can't handle, let alone even Cyan Vert. Boris laughed maniacally as if he thought everything was over. Thud, suddenly Silica's mood changed and she slammed his face to the ground. Boris slumped to the ground like a powerless doll. Seeing Boris, who is always so composed in this state, is refreshing. Watching the situation unfold, Mia expressed her indifferent appreciation. There's no other choice. When all paths are blocked and no escape route is in sight, humans tend to turn to despair. As if to bring an end to it all, Silica gently lifted her sword. Thud thud, at that moment, the sound of someone's footsteps came through the gap in the open door. Sensing the presence, Silica immediately turned her head, not one but 2 sets of footsteps. The protagonist of the presence soon opened the door. Without any intention of hiding, Silica greeted the visitors head-on. The women who entered the room couldn't help but be startled by the scene before them. Violet and Aaron, they were princesses of the Empire. What is this? With bloodstains scattered on the floor and Boris collapsed, Violet and Aaron couldn't hide their confusion upon seeing Silica standing confidently beside him. Missed. Aaron instinctively drew her sword. Step back, sis. Pushed back by Aaron, Violet, with a bewildered expression, spoke up. That person is one of the Mist who kidnapped me. Smiling in response to Aaron's guarded stance, Silica spoke. Where is Cyan who promised to show mercy? Why are you here? That's what I wanted to ask. What were you doing while Cyan was fighting with the other knights? I didn't need to be by his side, so I wasn't. He could handle the situation alone just fine. Though she had sent other members just in case, she trusted Cyan's abilities well enough to believe there wouldn't be any problems. Instead, I'm here to solve a problem on the other side. But unexpectedly, I ran into the princesses. It's turned into quite a favorable situation for me. To Silica, who originally targeted Aaron, this was like a gift falling into her lap. Setting down the box she was holding for a moment, Silica began to approach the princesses. Sensing the threat, Aaron took a step back, but realizing that retreating would be futile, she instead adjusted her grip on the sword and rushed forward. Hey-up, whoosh. Despite her spirited charge, Silica simply turned her shoulder, evading Aaron's strike. Undeterred, Aaron continued to spin her body and strike. A rather threatening swing. Silica's hair fluttered slightly as it was grazed by Aaron's attack. Before she could retaliate, Aaron relentlessly swung her sword. Thud, thud, thud. At that moment, unexpectedly Violet, who had been observing from behind, suddenly threw herself forward barehanded. Momentarily taken aback by the unexpected charge, Violet soon launched herself not at Aaron or Silica but towards the ground. If I have that, with desperate eyes fixed on something, it was none other than I can undo everything. The box that Silica had set down on the ground. Chapter 236, Second Coming, Part 3. Wouldn't it be wonderful if everything in the world went according to your will? However, the world is not always an easy place where everything goes as planned. What if the plans you've made don't go smoothly and go awry? With such thoughts, Violet once asked Ashel a question. I'm not trying to jinx anything, but what if all the plans you've prepared don't work out as expected? What will you do? To this, Ashel replied, I've never considered failure regardless of what I plan. I've always believed that I will succeed. To say that the world itself was created for him would not be an exaggeration. Ashel had smoothly achieved everything he had planned and pursued so far. Until he came into contact with Cyan, that is. If someone heard, they might think you've never failed. Are you saying that the trouble you had with your cute little brother wasn't a failure? You're being cruel with your words, I won't deny it. What Her Highness said makes sense. As much as I prepare like this, my brother will also prepare many things for me. However, regardless of the process, I will be the one to have the last laugh. From his expression alone, it seemed as though he had high expectations for his preparations. Still, you know how unpredictable human affairs can be, right? What if your brother, not you, ends up being the one to have the last laugh? Despite Violet's persistent probing, Ashel remained undisturbed. Instead, he calmly spoke as if he had already anticipated such a situation. That's unlikely, but if it were to happen, I would have to turn things back, to a complete beginning where no one can laugh. There were many memories and situations, but for some reason, Violet remembered most vividly the words Ashel spoke at that time. And at that moment when he said those words, in Ashel's hand was the box that Violet was desperately trying to grasp now was there. Crack. Ah, Violet screamed in pain as her wrist was crushed. The foot of someone who was none other than Mia, mercilessly trampling her delicate hand. That's odd. I don't recall anything about an item that can rewind time. Mia, holding the box, looked down at Violet dully and asked. Despite the pain, Violet continued to reach out for the box. Sister, startled, Aaron cried out, but confronting Mia in front of the leader of the mist seemed almost arrogant. Without missing a beat, Silica mercilessly kicked Aaron's abdomen. Thud. Aaron, defenseless in an instant, Silica, as if she were about to slit her throat, hesitated and then changed her mind, adjusting her sword and thrusting it into Aaron's shoulder instead. Aaron collapsed without even a groan. She reached out to Violet with a faint gaze, but her hand never reached her, and her trembling figure on the ground was truly pitiful. It's quite touching, isn't it, this affection? Silica scoffed as she watched the scene. However, a question arose. Can everything really be reversed? Is such an incredible thing really contained in that box? Despite preparing it as a last resort, didn't Boris warn that it would be better not to open it? Somehow, a feeling of unease began to gnaw at her heart. Give me that box, Mia. Mia handed over the box nonchalantly. Silica examined the box carefully, narrowing her eyes. It looked ordinary at first glance, but unlike when she first saw it, there was a strange yet familiar aura emanating from inside the box. It wasn't magic. It wasn't even the power emanating from a holy sword or scripture. This aura was remarkably similar to the aura of a god that she sometimes felt when facing Eru. Realizing something, Silica's eyes widened suddenly. Hey Mia, yes. In the sudden change of atmosphere, Mia was also slightly taken aback. Have you ever seen the owner of the holy sword and scripture do something with this box? No, I haven't directly seen it. However, Mia explained the series of events she had seen before to Silica. Upon hearing her explanation, she made a blank expression for a moment. Then she seemed to realize something and made a decision. Whoa. She rushed to Boris, who was collapsed in a corner, grabbed him by the collar and pulled him up. What on earth have you done? Boris, with a bloody face, chuckled softly before opening his mouth. We had to prepare many things, even to pass on your so-called successor. That box is our last resort. Even we are reluctant to open it. Kugakwang, suddenly there was a tremendous noise and vibration around. It felt like a powerful lightning strike had hit nearby. Despite everyone's confusion, Boris didn't stop his soft laughter. It seems like the rebirth has already begun. It's all over, you can't change anything now. From creations of beings defeated, you creatures can never change that future. Thud. With a sharp impact, Boris's face distorted once again. The distorted face soon fell weakly, and Boris tumbled to the ground like scattered leaves. Silica looked back at the box. Dangerous. The instincts of an assassin honed over decades warned her. She still didn't properly know what this box was, but just keeping it shut like this could be very dangerous in the future. Especially for Cyan. As someone who prioritized the safety of the successor, she couldn't help but destroy this box. Soon, Silica closed her eyes slightly and released all the mist's power she had stored inside her. Achweeing, the chilly wind brushing against my skin intensified my current miserable feeling. An empty void where nothing existed before my eyes. I briefly looked up at the sky and reflected on the process so far. Why am I here? To thwart the leader's plan to kill Princess Erin for the mist's awakening and to disrupt the plans of those who preach a new order, I came here. To rescue Princess Erin trapped in the void, to fight the leader, and to confront the owner of the Holy Sword. Descendants of the former owner of Karam, Knights of the Holy Sword, honestly it was quite novel. Their efforts to surpass me were quite evident. After realizing the crucial fact that no matter what plans they made or tricks they tried, they couldn't defeat me, I wanted to inflict the best possible pain on him, who was enveloped in despair. Crossing over past lives and present, I intended to finally end the continued cycle. But he escaped. Not a sudden retreat, but a blatant escape. He fled right before my eyes under the apparent protection of those esteemed individuals. Ha, only laughter came out. Of course, it wasn't laughter born of positivity. In the midst of laughter, profane curses kept popping out unwittingly. Hey, Master, Karam, who seemed somewhat calmed, called out to me quietly. It seems he now considers you a target to be completely erased. That guy, who is he? For some reason, Karam didn't answer. Even I didn't have the heart to press further. Her trembling, which still hadn't completely subsided, continued to be felt through the sword. How did this happen? Why do I suddenly have a sword? What have I done until now? The knights, freed from the brainwashing of the Holy Sword, began to regain their senses one by one. Their swords no longer emanated the power of the Holy Sword. That meant the original wielder of that power had fled far away by now. It's annoying. I knew he was a stubborn fellow from before. But I didn't expect him to be this stubborn. He had escaped right in front of me, the target of my long-awaited revenge, and I had to just let him go. Those who haven't experienced it firsthand wouldn't understand my current feelings. The feeling of anger extending beyond being tricked. Swish, suddenly, a strange sensation was felt from the opposite hand. Are you okay, Cyan? Hastya, who had approached unnoticed, looked at me with full of concern in her eyes. The moment I felt her gentle touch, my soaring emotions calmed down slightly. Are you all right, sir? Brian, who followed right after her. On his back, Luna, who had not yet awakened from sleep, was still snugly wrapped. Phew, with a deep sigh, my mind calmed down to some extent, and naturally I began to think about what I should do next. First, I needed to stabilize the situation with Princess Erin, and then, unconsciously, I glanced around, my eyes darting. Why are you like this, sir? Where is the princess? Where is Princess Erin? Though the princess left the scene earlier with His Majesty the Emperor, Hastya answered on behalf of them. Princess Erin was nowhere to be seen. The situation was not over yet. That meant the mist's sword, which was aimed at her neck, had not been sheathed yet. Where did she go? Probably. In that direction. Hastya's eyes, which were calmly searching for direction, suddenly stopped. As she held her stopped eyes with her hand, a trembling began to creep in gradually. This was undoubtedly the trembling of fear. Whether she sensed some ominous presence or not, she trembled in fear and apprehension, her body shaking as if possessed. What's wrong? Why are you like this? Hastya could only stammer, unable to answer anything. Out of precaution, I also looked in the direction she was staring. The direction she was looking was none other than the palace. At first glance, it seemed like an immensely dangerous presence had appeared there. Suddenly, a familiar signal rang in my mind. This was the signal of the leader's call using mental resonance. The direction was none other than the palace underground. It was indeed the palace underground. And the members who accepted the signal began to leave one by one. They too seemed surprised and confused by the unexpected signal, their faces filled with astonishment. A call to the palace itself. No, the palace was not an empty house, nor was it just a door. It was calling us to come to the underground. As Hastya's gaze and the leader's call overlapped, my anxiety only grew worse. Just as I was about to lead the members to the summoning location, I recommend not going. A voice, unfamiliar to me, stopped me in my tracks. I actually recommend getting as far away from here as possible. If you want to extend your days even a little. Following the voice, my gaze naturally turned. My flashing eyes landed on none other than Luna, who was on Brian's back. More precisely, it was the dark-haired man right behind her. What's that supposed to mean? Our friend here seems to lack perception. Can't you feel the fear emanating from the lady beside you right now? Fear from the lady. It took about 1 second to understand those words. With comprehension came mist, and Karam appeared. Karam, without saying a word or explanation, stared fixedly at the dark-haired man, then abruptly turning to me, "Do as you wish." With that, she disappeared back into the sword. The man, too, turned his head as if he wouldn't say anything more. "Sir, who are you talking to?" Brian, who didn't understand the situation, blinked his eyes and asked. I looked at them for a moment. "I'll be back soon. Just wait quietly until I return." I created a spatial gate and forcibly pushed them into it. Brian, who was pushed away without warning, couldn't ask anything, and Haste's gaze was still filled with fear. After sending them to the spatial gate, I immediately rushed to where the leader had signaled. "Intruders!" Pushing aside all the departing members and even blocking knights, I arrived at the palace underground. From the moment I first illuminated the chilly stone floor, the smell of blood stimulated my nose. Not a particularly pleasant smell. Suppressing the rising anxiety, I hurriedly headed towards the source of the smell. The same place where Kellen, who had been imprisoned before, was killed. Without hesitation, I opened the door and stepped inside. I doubted my eyes. Boris, slumped in a corner like trash. Aaron, leaning against the wall with blood dripping, and Violet, who was sticking close to her. Even Mia, standing dumbfounded with surprised eyes. They were already a spectacle enough, but what truly shook me was the sight of the leader, covered in blood, suspended in midair just 10 steps away. Chapter 237, Second Coming, Part 4. The accident came to a momentary halt. Was it because I never expected to see or witness such a sight? The leader, covered in blood and bruises, lay before me. It was a completely unfamiliar sight to me. I even considered the possibility that the leader might be disguised, or perhaps someone insane had impersonated the leader, but no. That was unmistakably the leader. Silica Negriti, the leader of Mist and my only master, was now on the verge of death before me. The rough trembling of my right hand snapped me out of my daze. Karam, trembling even more violently than before, almost uncontrollably. It wasn't just because of seeing the leader covered in blood. Right in front of the suspended leader, there was another figure emitting a faint white radiance, its identity unknown. Strange, the pure white color covering its entire body looked extremely eerie. Sure, white is one thing, but it's repulsive. Even looking at it made me feel nauseous. It's disgusting enough to question why such a being exists in this world. What is it? Certainly not human, nor is it a soulless entity like Karam or Durandal. It's like a divine being in its own right. Lumendal, Karam provided the answer. Lumendal, so this repulsive figure's owner is named Lumendal. Odd, as far as I know, there's only one being in this world who could bear the name Lumendal. Could it be referring to the omnipotent god of light, Lumendal, the one even considered the supreme deity among gods? Well, whatever, what matters now isn't that. What truly matters now is that regardless of who that repulsive figure is, that thing has brought the leader to such a state. I glanced at the leader to confirm her condition. She hadn't lost consciousness and were breathing steadily. She probably didn't suffer any fatal injuries. So what should I do in this situation? Carry the leader and leave the scene. That's out of the question, isn't it? What I must do is undoubtedly tear apart that repulsive figure until it's unrecognizable. Snap. The leader, suspended in the air, fell to the ground with a thud. As the repulsive figure turned its gaze toward me, swish, I rushed towards it without hesitation. I aimed to slash through its lower body first, but before I could swing my blade, swish. I was just 2 fingers distance away from its leg. A transparent barrier rippled and blocked my blade. It seemed to be some kind of restrictive barrier, but it was exceptionally sturdy. Judging that a simple strike wouldn't penetrate it, I stepped back for a moment. At the same time, I corrected Karam and said, "Shadow Arts, solid-rooted strike." I swiftly cast the technique of the mist blade, channeling the surging mist's power into Karam and thrusting it straight towards the creature's face. Crackle, with a clear sound, the barrier began to crack. As the crack widened like roots sinking into the ground, and just as I was about to thrust my blade into the gap, thunk, it was blocked. Stopped right in its tracks, just 1 finger's distance away from its nose. Blocked by what? A finger. Stuck between the creature's index and middle fingers, my hand remained frozen in place. "So you wield the demonic sword," the creature remarked, giving Karam a quick glance. "That means you're nothing but a remnant of Eru." Whoosh, not willing to entertain its mockery any longer, I thrust my fist through the gap instead of Karam. Thud, even hitting a rock with my fist wouldn't feel this way, nothing blocked it. I landed a solid blow to the creature's left cheek exactly as I aimed. In a normal situation, it should have been sent flying backwards, perhaps even slamming into a wall due to the impact, but it remained unscathed. Not only did it not fly back, but there was no recoil, not even a twitch of an eyebrow. How peculiar, it spoke again. You possess a power that doesn't befit creations modeled after our essence. As it spoke, it grabbed my wrist that I had thrust forward. Then, as if sensing something, it began to twist and turn my arm. Indeed, this dynamic flow couldn't possibly be human. You've consumed the blood of the demons. Thwack. In an instant, an incredible force emanated from its body, pushing me away. Pushed back along with Karam, I quickly regained my balance in midair before landing on the ground. Qwek, as I landed, a wave of nausea surged from within me, disgusting and utterly repulsive force. It wasn't particularly powerful or imposing, yet it made me incredibly uncomfortable just by coming into contact with me. Why? Why does it make me feel this way? What right does that arrogant god of light have to make me feel disgusting? Unconsciously, my face contorted at its words. Why does merely looking at you evoke such a repulsive feeling? Your kind hasn't changed at all from before. You're an existence that shouldn't exist in this world. It's agonizing to know that I can't erase you with my own hands. Disgusting. It seems the emotions I felt upon facing it were reciprocated through me. It could be possible, it could, but even so to that extent. You don't even appear human, right? It had to spit out those words. Why is it that those who view me negatively never treat me as human? I'm definitely human. I'm doing all this right now to stand proudly as a human in this world, haha. A dry laugh escaped my lips, tinged with a slight sense of disappointment. Karam's trembling hadn't ceased. Glancing at the empty space, I asked, "Hey Karam, why?" Though somewhat reluctant, fortunately, it responded. "Why are you trembling? What? Why are you trembling? Is that repulsive figure so terrifying to you?" It was a very straightforward question. "Are you kidding me?" The unexpected response came. "Do I look like I'm trembling right now?" No, wasn't it trembling since it sensed its aura before me, like the man who scolded me for not feeling the lady's fear, surely the trembling I've been feeling. Oh, wait. I was mistaken for a moment. She wasn't trembling, just like me, she's shuddering from disgust. She simply felt repulsed, shivering from an indescribable revulsion. I told you, didn't I? That thing seems to consider you a target for complete erasure now. Yeah, it did. It's none other than that creature. Her voice still carried a tremor, not from fear or apprehension. It's not because of fear or terror, it's because even the great Lumendal, whom everyone praises, thought about erasing you from this world, but from exhilaration. Our master seems to have grown as much as us outside of the eyes of the gods, doesn't he? I want to stroke your head as if I've gone mad, but unfortunately I don't think I can do that right now. She felt it so intensely, almost bordering on madness. That face is so repulsive that I feel like I have to suppress it right now or else. The true nature of the demonic sword that I momentarily forgot surged through the sword and spread throughout my body. You have to control me well, don't you, master? Otherwise, I might really go on a rampage today, to the point where I might even devour you without hesitation. But warning like that might not be very effective, right? Because right now I don't feel much different from you. Before erasing that thing from this world, it seems like I won't be able to leave this place. Mist Ninth Technique. Demonic Sword Manifestation. I drew out all the mist energy within me and manifested my power. The creature's face slightly furrowed upon sensing my energy. Don't be so insolent. Along with the furrow, it emanated a sense of discomfort. Although I have to erase you, I don't particularly want to dirty my hands by doing it directly. There's no reason to give you the tremendous honor of meeting your end by my hands. If I linger, it feels like only my insides will be turned upside down, so let's call our face off here. What a repulsive thing to say again. Why does it feel like you're trying to escape by neatly wrapping up the situation with your words? Aren't I the one who should be judging that entirely? With determination and at the same time maximizing the power of the mist, I charged toward it. Swish, a familiar sensation. The same sensation I felt just a few minutes ago, stimulating my entire body. The golden lance blocking Karam's blade. Similar to the lance that blocked Ashel's path, it reappeared before me. Along with the knight clad in the same golden armor. Thwack. The moment I sensed the knight's presence, the surrounding area was quickly engulfed in white light, soon consuming the entire space, as if my body had been transferred to another dimension. I'll grant you some mercy instead. A chance to realize your insignificant position. The trembling throughout her body didn't stop, feeling a strange sensation for the first time in her life. As Aaron, who had witnessed the entire process from when Silica, who had been perfectly fine carrying the box, turned into a mess, she didn't dare think she could do anything. In the midst of that, Cyan suddenly appeared, somehow knowing about the situation. Without any hesitation, Cyan rushed towards the unknown entity and disappeared along with unfamiliar light. Wake up, Aaron! The shoulder wound, which had been spouting blood, was now neatly stitched up. It was Violet who had urgently healed the wound. Thank you, sister. Uncomfortable with expressing gratitude after healing herself, Violet turned her head away. Leaning against the wall, Aaron naturally shifted her gaze towards Silica. Despite her body being covered in bloodstains, her condition was critical. In haste, Mia generated healing light, but get rid of it, Silica rejected, pushing away Mia's hand. Instead, thud, not just Mia and Violet, but even Aaron, everyone present except for Silica doubted their eyes. W, what are you doing? Even Mia's question was ignored by her. Thud, 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 despite being in a state where a simple healing could have easily restored her. Silica, instead of getting better, worsened her condition by ruthlessly stabbing her own body with a sword. Stop it, teacher, startled, Aaron ran to restrain her despite her abnormal condition. Gurgle, however, Silica had already deteriorated to the point of spitting up blood uncontrollably. Hurry, use healing magic. Swish swiftly, Silica aimed the sword at Aaron's throat as she tried to generate healing light. Don't do anything and just step back. But, even in this state, I still have the power to kill the princess. I don't have the strength to warn you twice, so please just step back. Amidst her pleading appeal, Silica continued to spit up blood uncontrollably. What's the reason? Are you trying to atone for your sins with your life now? This method is absolutely. Who's talking about atonement? Silica snickered as if the idea was absurd. This isn't about atoning for sins, so there's no need to look at me with those delicate eyes, Princess Aaron. A faint smile appeared on her lips, stained red. At this moment, she wasn't the assassin accustomed to killing, but rather she was the gentle Silica, an instructor at the Royal Academy. It's all for that child. Chapter 238, Tragedy, Part 1. A strange space where just standing there fills one with a sense of oppression. Cyan immediately recognized that he was in a divine space. There was no need for speculation. There was simply no other explanation. From the moment he was transferred to this space, Cyan's arms and legs continued to tremble incessantly. It wasn't just a feeling of discomfort in his stomach anymore. Now, even his body lacked strength. Cyan stepped back, trying to catch his breath. It must feel awkward for you, Lumendal said, looking at Cyan with a blank expression. This place is a sacred space created by my divine energy. If it were any other creature, they would be moved to tears or ecstasy. But you cannot. Just that fact alone should make you realize how wrong you are in this world. Cyan didn't respond. I admit it. You have defeated all my successors who have received my power and guidance so far. The saint, the prophet, and even the wielder of the holy sword. Regardless of the process, the fact remains that they all perished because of you. Lumendal showed no denial but rather acknowledged Cyan's existence. From any perspective, receiving recognition from a god would be considered a great honor. However, Cyan's face, which did not welcome it, began to distort gradually. The reason I personally appeared to you is because of that. If my creatures couldn't handle it, then I would have to step in and resolve it myself. No matter how much you try to corrupt and shroud this world in mist, the order of the world I created will never change. Even if, Lumendal raised his hand slowly, giving a signal to the Golden Knight, even if there's a need to overturn this corrupted world. In response to the signal, the knight advanced towards Cyan at lightning speed. Boom. A thunderous noise reverberated, and violent waves spread around. Erg! The force was so overwhelming that Cyan groaned as it pressed against his entire body. That's why you should realize through my knights what the position of a creature is. No matter how much you struggle with the power of a god, you must understand that in front of the origin you are powerless. With those words, Lumendal turned around. Leaving only his divine knights and the vile presence of mist, he began to disappear abruptly. Hey, Lumendal! Lumendal turned his head back towards Cyan. For a moment he wondered if he misheard or misinterpreted something. It was impudent and impure. There's a limit to everything. To dare to call out the dignity of a god, even in the context of a mere creature's subject. For Lumendal, it was an extremely unfamiliar situation that he had never experienced in his lifetime. Mist Sword. Dance of Black Blood. A spell that resonated faintly in the ears. In the blink of an eye, just as the black mist's aura seemed to scatter in all directions in front of Cyan, with a harsh sound of metal splitting, the knight's body was torn apart in all directions. The split body soon turned into dust and scattered lifelessly, and in the place where the knight disappeared, Cyan, in a bizarre dancing posture, took his place. At that moment, Lumendal became curious. Is that really the appearance a creature can show? No. It was an appearance that almost perfectly matched their origin, the gods. Among them, it closely resembled the power of someone banished from the divine realm in the past. As Cyan, who had been momentarily lowering his head due to the aftermath of the dance, raised his head again, thud. Cyan immediately rushed forward, swish. Lumendal once again blocked Cyan's sword with his 2 fingers. The strength of the power had clearly changed from before, but still, it was a power so negligible that it couldn't even surpass the finger of a god. As a creature, just ask me one thing, Lumendal. However, as if it didn't matter, Cyan asked with a lively, cold smile. What standard do you have to call me dirty, huh? You keep crossing the line endlessly. Is seeing me as dirty ultimately just your personal perspective? Are you questioning my judgment now? You dare as a subject of creatures? Lumendal sharply glared at Cyan as if it were ridiculous. Of course, we are your creatures, aren't we? It's only natural for us to think and question like you do. There was a momentary tremor in the two fingers that stopped Cyan's blade. It was unbelievable to Lumendal. Do you just dislike me and Eru, that's all? Aren't you rejecting the mist simply because you're the embodiment of light? Is there any other grand reason? With a question that suggested it might just be due to a single petty reason of disliking, Lumendal merely blinked his eyes, not denying Cyan's question. Think whatever you want, I have no intention of convincing or enlightening you. You can't even use that as a joke. What right do the likes of you have to tell me? Just bring you down already. Lumendal found himself at a loss for words. If you won't acknowledge me, I'll just eliminate you and establish someone new who will acknowledge me in your place. Whether it's Eru or another god, it doesn't matter, even if there's a need to overturn this world. A bold creature daring to speak of overturning the world in front of the supreme god. Despite the imminent rise of anger and hostility, you're audacious. Lumendal smiled. You can't help but be truly audacious. That's why it's entertaining to deal with creatures like you. His slightly raised lips soon formed a wide smile on both sides of his ears. I'll give my creatures one more chance. If you make them submit again, I'll personally open a path for you then. A path straight to me. Come and do whatever you want. A revelation from the god of light to the inheritor of mist. It was a profoundly contradictory situation to the order he had created. Yet to Lumendal, Cyan was more intriguing than any other beings he had ever given revelations to. I will bring despair to you. When you realize that you are nothing more than a creature in front of me, when you realize the truth and despair, I will enjoy immense pleasure then. A momentary glint flashed in Lumendal's eyes, and soon his body began to fade. I hope that moment comes soon. With those words, Lumendal completely disappeared in front of Cyan. Left alone, Cyan looked at the spot where Lumendal had been and muttered softly. Just clear your throat and be done with it. Humans are truly simple beings, and so are the gods who are said to be their prototypes. He simply spared me and left, all because of a single reason of finding it interesting. It's truly absurd. Just passing judgment here would have been insufficient. Thunk the moment the target I had set my sights on disappeared, all the energy in my body dissipated as if deflating. Haha, unintentionally a hollow laugh escaped from me, truly endlessly challenging. Laughing now, laughing after letting him slip away. Suddenly, Karam appeared behind me, facing me. I could tell that she was also quite exhausted from the heat she had built up. Well, if you regret it, either eat me up as is or come and catch me. It's fine, you've already ripened too much to be eaten. It's better to leave you as you are, besides, even I, Karam sighed heavily. I'm exhausted too. I looked at her and chuckled. Karam also smiled back at me. What's your plan anyway? Can you handle what's to come? There will be greater trials ahead than anything you've faced before. Why are you doing this now? Could it be that you're weakened? I said I'd make it enjoyable, didn't I? Then you should follow through to the end. I said, lifting the corners of my mouth as if there were no problem. Then you should follow through to the end. I'll make sure to enjoy everything until the very end, however. She gently raised her hand and softly touched my rough cheek. Even though her hand was always cold, today it was filled with warmth I had never felt before. Can you endure all that? A gentle gesture so unfamiliar that it almost felt repulsive. I shivered involuntarily. It's not child's play anymore. Everything that happens from now on will be something you must struggle through to survive. Can you handle it? Why are you doing something you haven't done before? Why are you worrying about that now? Get up if you're awake. I don't want to spend even one more second in this disgusting place. Whether she realized it was an inappropriate gesture or not, she immediately stood up and brushed off her body. I also got up, following her lead. Whoosh, with a brief flash of light, the divine space began to gradually fade into transparency. It seemed that it would soon transition back to the underground palace where it originally existed without even having to struggle to escape. Although I tried to evade Karam's question by rambling on, honestly, I don't know. Hasn't life always been full of challenges? Even if it becomes more difficult here, what difference would it make? Just saying that I will endure it. Since there's no way to retreat from here, I'll just keep moving forward into the unknown path that stretches endlessly ahead. With a vow to continue forward on the endless unknown path, Karam and I transitioned back to the underground palace where we originally were. I let out a short breath as we returned. It definitely feels more comfortable than the eerie space we were just in. Especially the faint scent of blood spreading in my nose right now makes my heart feel even cozier. Wait. What's this smell? Sensing something amiss, I quickly looked around. Boris still stuck in the corner. Princess Violet and Princess Erin sitting hesitantly with faces showing confusion. Mia standing nearby with a dejected expression. Even the mist knights surrounding them. No, well, even if other people are like that, what's this? Why is this situation unfolding before my eyes? What happened? I asked, hoping anyone would answer, but there was no response. Neither Princess Erin, who arrived in the underground palace before me, nor the Mist Knights who arrived later, none of them told me what happened. Just answer me, what happened? Unable to control my emotions, I screamed out towards my surroundings. Both hands trembling uncontrollably. What on earth? It's a situation I simply can't understand. Did I see it wrong? No. Until just before we transitioned to the underground palace, it wasn't like this. Even if covered in blood, there wasn't a significant problem that she couldn't move again after a short recovery, but why, how, right before my eyes now? Are you here, Cyan? Is it true that the dying leader is present? Stop shouting so loudly, it's hurting my ears. As if inviting me closer, the landlord clumsily moved her fingers, covered in fatigue. Chapter 239, Tragedy, Part 2. The sound of footsteps echoing on the stone floor filled the underground of the palace. The knights of the imperial palace rushed to the underground upon receiving news of the situation. Even Resimus, who had been requested by the emperor himself, hurriedly arrived, but contrary to expectations, a very unexpected situation was unfolding underground. Unable to understand the situation, the knights looked around in confusion. "Your Highness," Resimus, the first to regain her composure, rushed to Aaron. "Are you all right? Are you injured anywhere?" Aaron's face was more bewildered than before, and her gaze was directed towards Cyan. "What on earth happened? What is going on right now?" "Resimus." Aaron quietly interrupted Resimus. "Take all the knights and leave." "Yes, but it's an order." It was a strangely indifferent yet firm attitude, unlike her usual self. "Please don't interfere with this situation. Right now, the only thing I can do for Cyan is—" That, Resimus couldn't help but be greatly flustered. "Do as Aaron says." Adding to that, Violet interjected, and Resimus reluctantly left the room with the knights. Even as the knights left, Aaron's eyes never left Cyan. "Can I ask you something, Aaron?" Seeing Aaron like that, Violet asked. "How many times have you seen such a face on that man?" "This is my first time too. Honestly, who would have thought?" If Cyan was cold enough to not shed a single drop of blood, even if pricked with a needle, would he make such a face filled with tragedy? From Aaron's perspective, that sight was truly strange and incredibly pitiful. "Has there ever been such a difficult time in my life? Even when the sword pierced right next to my heart, even when my whole body was torn apart by the demons, it wasn't this hard. Dragging my extremely heavy body, I finally reached beside my leader. Thud, I collapsed weakly like a guilty criminal, dropping everything. Without a word, I carefully examined the leader's condition. What's going on?" Karam, reacting before me, opened her mouth with a tone of doubt. "A body with hardly any place untouched, as if it had been brutally tortured, but it's strange. There's something unfamiliar in the leader's wounds scattered all over the body. A white glow inside the wounds where blood is flowing. It was a very unfamiliar glow that I had never seen before." "Lumendal, this bastard," Karam exclaimed, her voice full of anger. "But you know what's funny? There's a sword in the leader's hand stained with blood, not someone else's but her own blood-stained sword. I could tell right away what this meant. The desperate state of the leader right now, she made it herself. Karam's fiery voice can be heard from here." The leader quietly opened her mouth with a smile towards me. I asked with a stiff expression devoid of any hint of amusement. "Isn't this a bit too much for a surprise event?" "I'll admit it, I was really surprised. Now that I understand the leader's intention to reform me, please stop now." Instead of replying, the leader responded with a slight smile. Thinking there was nothing more to see, I quickly generated the light of healing. Snap! The moment I tried to apply the healing light to the leader's body, someone grabbed my wrist. It was none other than a Mist's member. My body froze for a second, overwhelmed by a slightly sinking feeling. Not only did they stand there dumbfounded until my leader reached this point, but now they're even stopping my hand. "Not letting go," I said with a feeling of wanting to cut off the hand that grabbed me right away. However, rather than obeying my command to let go, the other members began to one by one grab my hand, preventing me from using my strength. In their eyes, there was a full sense of reluctance to do such a thing. "It's the leader's order," one member reluctantly spoke up. An order, an order, are they kidding with me right now? What kind of insane leader issues such a crazy command to watch her own death? As I tried to push away their hands, forbidding them to interfere, the leader spoke up. "I ordered them not to do anything." I sighed in disbelief and bowed deeply. "What's the reason?" I asked for the reason, but the leader remained silent, and so did the other members. No one explained this insane situation to me. Silica received a sentence. Amidst this, one person spoke up. It was Mia. "It's a sentence of death that we as humans cannot refuse." "A sentence? What does that even mean?" "Do you see Silica's wounds?" She pointed to the white glow in the leader's wounds. "I've heard it from Professor Boris before. It said that the gods have the power to determine the fate of us mortals." Power. The glow you see now is evidence of that. Humans who receive a death sentence from the gods become bodies that cannot be healed, like Silica now, and for humans who cannot heal their wounds, there is nothing but death. What? I'm not suffering from any cognitive impairment right now, am I? Why don't I understand any of what she's saying? Can't be healed. Is that even possible? Before that, let me give you a little despair. At that moment, before the light of the god left, those words he left with me came to mind. Despair, was that the despair he spoke of, to take the leader away from me? Explain, Karam. I addressed Karam with a disappointed heart. Don't you know anything about this situation? Whether it's a sentence or nonsense, how do we solve this? Despite my earnest inquiry, Karam did not respond. Answer, what should I do? Within a minute, Karam finally spoke. Find and kill the god who sentenced her in return. Then she might be saved. A callous and even cruel response. A hollow laugh involuntarily escaped my lips. Kill within a minute a god. Sure, if that god were right in front of me, I'd do whatever it takes to kill them within a minute. But that god isn't in front of me right now, is it? Then I have to go find them. Whether it's searching through dimensions or soaring into the sky, anything is better than just sitting still. Snap! The leader, who had struggled to raise her hand, grabbed my arm. Don't think strange thoughts. Sit quietly and listen to me. It will be the final lesson. It was a force weaker than that of a newborn baby's gesture. I could have easily pushed her away, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. The leader simply stared at me without saying a word, then gently lifted her hand to touch my cheek. You're rough. The heat from the leader's blood-stained hand was transmitted to me. You've been through trials and tribulations, and as a result, you've become very rough. Then what did she want? Smooth, soft skin like that of a noble's child? What did you do in the astral plane? I was momentarily taken aback by the sudden question. I've come to have a brief, rough conversation with the existence of the god that truly dislikes us. Oh, you managed to come back alive. The leader gently stroked my face as if genuinely relieved. I'm sorry. I tried to handle things on my end so that you wouldn't clash with them, but it seems that the gaze towards us has worsened. I'll listen to that from Eru later, so please for now just— The hand that was stroking my face suddenly covered my mouth. We can't do that. If we continue like this, you'll have nothing left. Although I wanted to push away that hand immediately and even chew off the god, I couldn't. From the trembling hand of the leader, I no longer felt the vitality of life that could sustain it. Do you remember what I told you before? The leader spoke calmly with an unchanged expression. That the world you desire cannot be achieved simply by wind and power. I remember clearly. The leader said that to me back then. That I needed motivation. So I thought the motivation she spoke of was Princess Erin. I believed that killing Princess Erin, whom I couldn't kill before, in front of everyone would awaken me, but the current leader seems to have different thoughts. So use me. There was not a hint of hesitation in the leader's words. There's no need to despair. All those intense and negative emotions inside you will become your strength. The driving force for creating the world you desire. Why don't you understand that you must also be present in the world I desire? What can we do? The current world doesn't allow for that. The leader gently wrapped her hand around my neck. You're selfish, bold, and full of endless arrogance, thinking you can do everything alone. But I can't abandon you. You're my precious disciple, my comrade who shares my will. That's why I chose it. I gave you everything I have. As the leader said that, she embraced me tightly. Then all the dark magic and mist power within her, along with countless other energies and sensations that couldn't be expressed in words, flowed into me. I've given you everything I have. What you do with that power is up to you. Lead the mist for me, live for yourself, do whatever you want. Neither path will be easy. After the transmission was complete, the leader lightly patted my back. Are you sad? It was the cruelest thing the leader had ever said to me. I couldn't respond, only continued in silence. Don't forget those feelings and keep them in your heart. If you continue without forgetting the reason why I had to leave your side, you will undoubtedly be able to create the world you desire. Something flowed from the leader's face onto my shoulder. I couldn't tell if it was blood or tears, or perhaps it was both mixed together. So please support me, as a teacher who wishes for the happiness of her disciples' future, happiness. I wonder if the word happiness is even applicable to me, but at least for me, in that world, the leader must exist. If the leader didn't exist in that world, I would never call it a happy world. Please, live well. Cyan, tap. When the leader's hand, which had been patting my back, fell lifelessly, and even the faint sound of her breath no longer reached me, I realized that the person, Sirika Negriti, who had given me everything, had now left me. In other words, the one I could trust and rely on was gone. Exhaling a sigh without restraint, I slowly lifted my head. Honestly, I don't remember much of what happened afterward. According to what the members later told me, I just screamed. A cry filled with bitter anger and sorrow spread through the underground like the collapse of a palace, so poignant that no one dared to speak, so incredibly sorrowful. Chapter 240, Tragedy, Part 3, the space of Cyan shrouded in thick mist. Outside, what was happening, what had happened to Cyan, none of those who were pushed here unexpectedly knew any of it. Brian, with a complicated heart, swinging back and forth, Shurs silently guarding Luna, who was asleep, and even Haistia only staring endlessly at the soul stone. None of them could be comfortable. Cyan, certainly Haistia, was the most restless. With trembling hands, she tightly held the soul stone, praying desperately for Cyan's safety. Why, what on earth? Since the moment the knight in golden armor appeared from the sky, she had felt something strange. It was unfamiliar on the surface, but the energy she felt was not. As an elf under divine protection, it was a very familiar energy that could never be ignored. Knowing the identity of that energy as Hestia, "You must be safe, Cyan," there was nothing she could do but wish for Cyan's safety. Meanwhile, Schurz was guarding Luna's side in one corner of the space. Having witnessed the whole situation, he was filled with complex and subtle emotions. For what reason did he help them and fight against the Imperial Knights? For Luna? Or for himself, was it even justifiable that he risked his life for something he couldn't explain? It was a remarkably pathetic situation even for himself. "Please wake up safely, Luna." Schurz wished she would wake up soon and provide him with an answer to his pathetic self. Even as Luna lay still with her eyes closed, Schurz's gaze soon turned to the black book nestled in her arms. For some reason, feeling a strange sensation, he stared at the book for a while, then instinctively reached out his hand. "Stop moving!" He halted his action at once upon hearing a strange voice from somewhere. "Curiosity can bring about sin. It's better not to touch things that have an owner for no reason." It wasn't just Schurz who heard the voice. Brian and Hestia also turned their heads immediately upon hearing the voice. Who are you?" "Me. Well, you can just see me as the guardian of the lady who's sleeping here." The unfamiliar man who hadn't been in this space just a few seconds ago seemed to find the reactions of those looking at him quite amusing as he chuckled. Then an uncomfortable groan escaped Luna's lips as she started to stir. She began to move her body here and there, even more than expected. Oh my, it would be troublesome if she wakes up already. Contrary to expectations that she might continue sleeping for at least another hour, Luna was preparing to wake up gradually. Everyone rushed to her side to check on her condition. Where's Senior, however, the person who desperately wanted her to wake up, wasn't here yet when she did. At that moment, the mist of the soul stone held by Hestia began to spread vividly. The soul stone, thud simultaneously, a gate opened in one corner of the space, and soon the footsteps of someone could be heard. After a while, a familiar man appeared from beyond the gate. It was Cyan, who had promised to return. Brian was the first to rush to greet him. My lord, are you safe?" However, due to a somehow changed atmosphere, Brian couldn't bring himself to finish his sentence. Without any reaction or response, Cyan walked forward unsteadily, and when he reached Luna, he collapsed to his knees. The atmosphere grew suddenly heavy with the unexpected, unfamiliar sight. Whether to say something or not, Cyan quietly waited for Luna to wake up. Finally, as Luna's tightly closed eyes slowly opened, "Wow!" A small gasp escaped from Luna's lips. She blinked her eyes as if she couldn't believe the current situation. "Not a dream, right? No, why are you here? You said I had to be the first one you see when you wake up, didn't you?" Well, I did say that. Whether she didn't expect him to actually be there, she stared at Cyan for a moment with a vacant expression before suddenly reaching out both hands to him. "What are you doing? You're not going to help me up," she blatantly instructed him to hug her. Cyan, who would have sighed in exasperation under normal circumstances, accepted her touch without a word this time. Swoosh! At that moment, Luna seized the opportunity and immediately hugged Cyan. Cyan didn't resist. Normally, you'd be ecstatic, your heart pounding as if it would burst with joy. Why aren't you like that? "I can't help but wonder. Did something bad happen, Senior?" Cyan didn't answer, but the faint tremor felt throughout his body spoke for him. "I see." Luna hugged him tighter, patting his back gently. "Then shouldn't you be going to deal with that? Is it okay for you to stay here? Don't worry about it, I'll take care of it." Luna, now gently holding his face in her hands, said, "How can I not worry? You're making such a sad face. Did you come to me instead of dealing with that problem? Wow, did I finally succeed?" Luna was genuinely happy, but she couldn't bring herself to smile brightly. "You can leave. I'm fine now. There's no need to delay with me, go where you need to go." But contrary to his words, a single tear rolled down Luna's cheek in an instant. Cyan, unable to rise easily, stared at her face intently. "Why are you crying? Don't misunderstand, it's tears of joy." Luna hastily wiped away her tears and helped Cyan up. "Go on, in case I change my mind it'll be a big problem. The situation is over. Even if I don't open the gate you can." Cyan's gaze shifted momentarily to Ramihiram, who was standing behind her. "Can you leave on your own?" "Yes." Luna showed no sign of trouble. Cyan gently patted her head. "I'm going." With a brief farewell, Cyan, who was about to open the gate, then turned his head towards where Brian and Hestia were. Then, without a word, he approached Brian and handed him something. Brian couldn't hide his astonishment. My lord, this is..." What Cyan handed him was none other than a sword, and it wasn't just any sword, it was his beloved sword Karam, the only one of its kind in the world. "Don't be so surprised, just hold on to it for a while." "Yes, understood." Still in a daze, Brian carefully placed the sword on the ground. Swish, swish, then mist emanated from the end of the sword, and soon the soul of Karam was revealed. Karam heaved a deep sigh as soon as Ah appeared. "Are you going to live forever? How could you show such discomfort to poor Karam, who's second to none in wickedness?" Ramihiram chuckled as he observed the scene. "Shut your mouth. If you don't want to be torn apart." All that returned was rough swearing. Ramihiram spat out a dry cough and turned his head away. Fueled by anger, Karam grabbed his head and muttered under his breath. You're just an annoying woman until the end. Somewhere in the Ushif Empire, in the midst of an uninhabited plain atop a hill, bathed in the golden glow of a splendid evening sunset, Lumendel was displaying its majestic presence. Sitting there with a serene expression, Lumendel was caressing something with his hands. It was none other than the holy sword Durandal. The holy sword, meeting its master, emitted a brighter light than ever before. Is there a reason you suddenly changed your mind? There's no grand reason, it's just my trivial whim. Will you regret it? Whether I regret it or not depends not on me but on you. Lumendel plunged the caressed body of the holy sword into the ground. Receiving the divine energy, Durandal involuntarily let out a sigh of ecstasy. No matter how the beginning and middle went, that's not important. What matters is who's at the end. Ultimately, the one who first turns despair into the motivation for growth will claim that end. With those words, Lumendel began to disintegrate into dust, gradually fading away. I hope it's you. Durandal watched him with reverent eyes until Lumendel completely disappeared. Everything will proceed as it should. Then, for the remaining tasks, he slowly turned around. Where am I? Ashel, the owner of the holy sword who had lost consciousness and collapsed, finally opened his eyes and stood up. How long are you going to stay like that? In response to the resolute tone of the holy sword, Ashel quickly straightened himself. Why, your holiness, what is this situation exactly? Do I need to explain? You lost to the wielder of the demonic sword, and quite embarrassingly at that. If it weren't for his mercy, your body would have been torn to thousands of pieces by now, and you wouldn't even know who you are. Did I lose? Ashel couldn't accept the truth, and he couldn't control the emotions bursting forth. Following the emotions came a rush of shame and disgrace from defeat. He kept bursting into nervous laughter for no apparent reason. 7 years ago, you said the same to me. You said you'd defeat the heir of the mist no matter what, using any means necessary. For Ashel, it was an embarrassing question he couldn't bring himself to answer. I didn't like your methods. I didn't like the idea of sharing my power with other humans, or teaming up with the wielder of the Holy Scripture to create an existence identical to the heir of the mist. So I didn't think you would succeed. And that intuition proved to be right. Your holiness, if you give me another chance, Durandal immediately questioned him as if to say it was pitiful. I don't give chances. It's given by him. Durandal glared fiercely at Ashel as if ready to kill him at any moment, just once. Whether there's a change of heart or not, he has given you another chance. Durandal handed Ashel his own body, which was lying in front of him again. Accepting the holy sword, Ashel was so overwhelmed with ecstasy that he couldn't say anything. He bestowed his own power directly. A tremendous amount of mana, incomparable to before. Ashel struggled to contain the rising ecstasy as he sheathed the holy sword. I once had a conversation with Boris like this. Durandal raised his chin as if to say, go ahead and talk about it. If we can't stop the heir of the mist with our human power, what should we do? He suggested using the power of other races instead of humans for the answer. Other races? Yes, for example. With a meaningful smile, Ashel slowly continued. I mean the inhabitants of the demon realm who live far across the canyon, including their king. Chapter 241, Order of the Mist, Part 1, a subspace filled with the aura of black mist. The master of this space, as usual, sat at the altar waiting for someone to come. Tap, tap, tap. Soon the sound of urgent footsteps echoed from beyond the corridor. Sensing the presence, Eru thought to himself. Exactly 1 second later, someone would grab his collar. Grab, sure enough. At that exact moment, someone grabbed his collar and a human appeared before his eyes. Although he was in exile, he was once a god and still possessed that power. The audacious human who dared to grab his collar was none other than Eru's successor, Cyan. Cyan was visibly agitated, unable to control his emotions. You seem to have a lot to say but can't find the words. Eru, unfazed, spoke smoothly. Proving his point, Cyan just clung to Eru's collar, unable to say anything. I can feel the remnants of silica in you. She passed everything on to you before she left. The power of the mist emanating from Cyan's body was stronger than before. Don't you have anything to say? I'm sure you had plenty on your mind before coming here. Despite Eru's urging, Cyan couldn't bring himself to speak. Do you want to know where Lumendel is? Or do you want me to give you all my power? Or did you come here just to vent your anger? Are you blaming me for not intervening when Lumendel took action? Cyan couldn't ask or answer anything. He just held on to Eru's collar with a trembling hand, staring at him intently. I only did the same for you. The mist enveloping Eru dissipated, revealing his hidden face. A nonchalant expression, neither smiling nor frowning. Eru continued calmly. 7 years ago, I granted your request to keep everyone away from Brennu. This time, I granted her request. She asked me not to intervene if she were to die while carrying out her mission. What's the problem with that? Cyan eventually let out a wail. It may not matter now, but I did try to dissuade her. I told her it wasn't necessary. Eru revealed that he wasn't at ease either, but she insisted. She said you needed motivation. That you needed something to firm up your weakening resolve. She said she would fulfill that role and then leave. Why, for what reason? Cyan finally spoke, asking the question, why for me? Why did she have to die for someone as selfish and audacious as me? Because she wanted to. It was an indifferent yet straightforward answer. Do you know what she said to me when I first met her? She said she didn't want to live. What? Cyan, unable to believe it, asked again. She was born as the eldest daughter of a noble family, able to live a luxurious life, yet she told me she didn't want to live. She said she didn't want to live as a human in this world filled with blind, unquestioning faith. She wanted to plant doubts in everyone's minds. Unquestioning belief is a shortcut to stagnation. Only by constantly questioning, doubting, and denying can humanity progress. Realizing this early, Silica followed Eru and led the mist to practice this truth. But she knew her power alone wasn't enough, so she said she would support anyone who could fulfill this, even if it meant giving her all. Thud. Now do you understand? This was Silica's long-held wish. Eru, who had remained still, now grabbed Cyan's collar in return and asked, "You have no right to be sad or angry." His previously indifferent gaze grew sharper and his voice rose. "You told me directly that you would help me change the order of this world. Did you not foresee such a situation from the moment you made that vow?" Cyan couldn't answer. "I have seen the deaths of hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands who followed me. They died just because they followed me, and I watched it all unfold right before my eyes. Humans are creatures who emulate the nature of the gods." Eru had experienced and felt all the negative emotions Cyan was feeling, but to a much greater extent. "Silica might have valued you greatly, but to me, you're nothing special. You're just one of the countless others who could vanish at any moment." Trying to suppress his briefly surging emotions, Eru closed his eyes and exhaled softly. "So choose, will you lead the remaining children and change the world yourself? Or will you succumb to your weakness of not wanting to lose more people and live in decay? Either way, it will not be easy." "Ha," Cyan sighed, following Eru's lid. Then, as he slowly let go of Eru's collar, he also removed Eru's hand from his own collar. "This is the last time." A single word laden with multiple meanings. With those words, Cyan turned away. Eru neither stopped him nor spoke further as Cyan walked away from the altar. He simply watched silently. That was all he could do for now. Following the corridor, Cyan arrived at the plaza of the subspace. There, all the members of the Mist who had been waiting for him stood with resolute expressions. Without saying a word, Cyan walked among them. A few steps later, he stopped in front of Silica's body, which lay in eternal rest. Her face bore a serene smile, as if she had let go of everything. Cyan stared at that smile blankly for a moment, then gently placed his hand on her face. SSSSS. At the touch, black mist rose where their skins met. The mist enveloped Silica's entire body, wrapping it in a warm embrace, and Cyan watched quietly. Soon, Silica's body began to transform into mist, and as her entire body turned into mist, it scattered in all directions and vanished. Having completed the final rite for her, Cyan stood up and turned to the members. With an impassive face, he spoke slowly, "To all members of the Mist." The members straightened up in unison. "From this moment on, I am the head of the Mist." An announcement both unilateral and dictatorial, yet no one in the plaza objected, as if it was only natural for him to become the head. "We have lived hidden from the world, concealing our true nature, somber but intense. That is no longer necessary." Calm yet resolute, Cyan conveyed his intentions to the members. "From now on, we will live openly and proudly in this land. We no longer need to hide or deny that we are the Mist. We are the Order, and we will live as if we are the rightful owners of this land." Honor to the new head of the Mist. The members knelt on one knee in unison, showing their respect to Cyan. A world where they no longer had to hide in the shadows, where they could proudly exist as essential members of the land. That was the world the new head envisioned and the order he would establish. Even if a god opposed it, they will never stop. Not only did she disappear at will, but now she's saying the most ridiculous things. "Luna, it's not the first time, is it? You should be used to it by now. Enough talk. I will immediately send an envoy in the name of the society. We will demand a clear recompense from the Empire for this incident. I'm delivering this message to you to prevent such pointless actions. Calm things down over there so that strange rumors don't spread. Grandfather." "Wait. Don't hang up, Luna." Despite Regent's urgent cry, Luna terminated the communication without hesitation. "Is it really okay to cut him off like that?" The president seemed quite angry. Schurz asked worriedly, having watched the exchange. "What choice do we have? What's done is done. Grandfather is still quite spry, isn't he? He should be more cautious with his temper at his age." Luna dismissed it casually. The two emerged from the alley into a bustling main street. Just a week ago, the scene had been one of chaos, but now it was peaceful as if nothing had happened. As Luna surveyed the scene, she remarked, "It's amazing, isn't it? Only a week ago, this place was in turmoil, yet now it's back to its usual routine as if nothing happened. Isn't it because the royal family handled it well? That's part of it, but I think people are also deliberately ignoring it. Ignoring it? Schurz asked, not fully understanding. Even if they have doubts, people ignore them because they want their current lives to continue. To live for tomorrow, they forget about yesterday. Schurz, who seemed about to ask more, clenched his fists instead, unable to speak. Are you still troubled? Luna, sensing his thoughts, turned to him. Do you feel pathetic for not even knowing what you were risking your life for? I've never lived with any purpose. I just wanted to survive, living meaninglessly. So I'm very confused. After going through such significant events, what should I live for now? Schurz expressed his feelings honestly. That's a good start. Luna's response was unexpectedly positive. No one can give you that answer. So keep questioning and thinking. One day you'll find it what you should live for. Schurz's expression remained filled with confusion. It's from my own experience. I will keep your words in mind, Luna. Schurz immediately accepted this advice. With a satisfied smile, Luna turned back towards the alley. Now let's get to what we need to do. She moved her fingers as if writing in the air, and soon a black gate appeared before them. Without hesitation, they stepped inside. Chapter 242, Order of the Mist. Part 2. In Erin's office within the Imperial Palace, there was no time for rest for her upon her return to the palace. We have investigated the Imperial Army, the Order of Salvation, and all the knights who inherited the power from each territory, but there has been no reoccurrence of the Holy Sword's power. How is His Majesty? There hasn't been much change from yesterday. Erin sighed softly, her mind heavy with complex thoughts. There are unusual movements from the Empress and the Count of Nephiles. It seems they are trying to seize this opportunity to rebound. They're trying to shift the blame onto us for driving His Majesty, who is not in good health, to the battlefield. They wouldn't miss this good opportunity. Erin didn't react much, as if she had already anticipated this. Any news on Lord Ashel? There have been a few reports of someone resembling him near the capital, but no confirmed news yet. Also, Resimus hesitated slightly before continuing. There's no news of Mist either. Hearing that, Erin closed her eyes slowly. It had already been a week since that day of chaos. Cyan and Mist had left after retrieving Silica's body, and Erin didn't stop them from leaving. A day filled with unbelievable events. She still felt like she could vividly recall all those situations. But the most shocking of all was, the one who killed Lady Silica back then was. It wasn't a human, right? What on earth did you see? Resimus, who wasn't there at the time, couldn't understand the situation. I don't know, I have some guesses, but I feel I shouldn't dare to speak of it. Erin held her head, showing a pained expression. Cyan, I hope he's okay. She couldn't shake off the image of Cyan's grief-stricken face from her mind. Knock, knock, Princess Violet is here. Finally, a knock was followed by the announcement of Violet's visit. Soon, the office door opened, and Violet entered with confident steps. Welcome, sister. Let's have a little chat, Erin. The two sisters sat down without any expression, as if this meeting had been scheduled. As Resimus cautiously tried to leave, stay here, Violet stopped her. There's no need for you to leave. Violet's command implied that she should stay during their conversation. You've heard the news, right? The Empress's faction is trying to hold us accountable for this situation. If we don't respond properly, we'll be helplessly defeated. Us, the word us felt strangely unfamiliar to Erin. Why, is it very strange to hear the word us coming out of my mouth now? As if reading Erin's mind, Violet raised her eyebrows and asked. I understand. Even though we've worked together for the past few years, there was never any trust between you and me. I'll confess now, I tried to kill you, Erin. Didn't expect that, did you? You must have been somewhat prepared for it though, right? I never knew I meant that much to you. Violet smirked at the mention of meaning. That's an interesting thing to say. I don't particularly seek forgiveness. It's my fault due to my ignorance, so I must bear full responsibility. In that sense, let's divide the tasks we have to do. What do you mean? From now on, I'll take care of all the aftermath of this incident. Erin, you simply followed our orders and you're not directly involved in this. Do you understand what I'm saying? Surprised, Erin blinked and asked. Are you saying that you'll take full responsibility for everything? Yes. I'll bear it all. I've already sought advice from our grandfather. Is it really necessary to go to such lengths? Because I'm the princess. With that, Erin fell silent. As the princess responsible for running this country, I'll take all the responsibility. It's only natural. There was a resolute determination in Violet's eyes. So Erin, please work for the future of the royal family, not dwelling on the past. With those words, Violet stood up. You won't see me for a while. So don't worry about me and focus on what you need to do, in case I never return. What about me? Erin also stood up, shouting after her as she walked away. Are you really okay with entrusting the entire royal family to me? Instead of answering right away, Violet grabbed the doorknob and stayed in place for a moment. After a short silence, Violet spoke with a despondent expression. Father doesn't have much time left, which means we don't have much time to prepare either. No matter how much they were his children, they couldn't deny it. The life of Emperor Dion was nearing its end. So you must continue to prepare for the future of the imperial family and the empire. Violet said no more and opened the door to the office. Because I'm not qualified. Aaron didn't hear those last words. With a tumultuous heart, Aaron clutched her chest and stared endlessly at the door Violet had exited. Resimus. Yes, Your Highness. Do you think I've been recognized? Resimus paused slightly but soon responded firmly. It seemed that way to me. So this is what it feels like to be recognized. Aaron unknowingly smiled faintly. After spending a brief moment in reflection, she was about to resume her duties when there was another knock on the office door. May I come in? A familiar voice followed the knock. Both Aaron and Resimus could hardly believe their ears. I'll go check. Resimus offered to personally go and check the visitor. No, Resimus. Aaron raised her hand to stop her and spoke in a calm, controlled voice. Come in. The door opened with a creak and the atmosphere in the room suddenly grew heavy. A man entered with confident steps, dressed in dignified and solemn black noble attire. It was none other than Cyan. He had an air of nobility that was rarely seen before. How did you get here? As you can see, I came through the front gate. Alone? Yes, Cyan replied nonchalantly as if there was no problem. I wanted to speak with you, Your Highness. Do you have some time? Of course. Aaron personally guided Cyan to a seat. Cyan wasted no time and spoke directly. I heard you stopped the search for Mist. That's only the official investigation. I have still been looking for information about you two on a personal level. Why? No particular reason, I just had to focus more on other matters, Aaron responded calmly. You know, right. Not just the capital, but the entire empire is in turmoil. Given that such an unfortunate event occurred on the day we were supposed to announce a new order, I am currently dedicating all my efforts to quell that chaos. You've grown a lot. Unexpectedly, Aaron's face flushed slightly at the compliment. I've wanted to ask you something for a while, may I? Go ahead. Why do you hate your brother so much? It was a very sensitive question for Cyan, however, I don't hate him. I despise him because I know his true nature. Cyan responded immediately without a hint of hesitation. He is neither a savior of this world nor a pioneer of a new order. He is just a filthy, deceitful man who uses everything around him for his own goals and discards them without hesitation when they are no longer needed. There was no sign of agitation or excitement. With a calm and cold gaze, Cyan candidly expressed his feelings about Ashel. But the world has made him out to be the only truth and hope of this world. I can't accept that, so I have tried to thoroughly ruin all his plans. That includes what happened that day. The true nature of the light that Cyan had promised to show Aaron referred to the true character of Ashel, who was called the savior of the light. But things didn't go as planned. Soon he might reappear, invoking the light again to deny our existence. He might even try to use you once more, Your Highness. You don't want that, do you? Aaron asked without hesitation. Is that why you came to see me now? I won't deny it, Cyan replied, averting his gaze somewhat ambiguously. I didn't come here to force anything on you, however, from now on we will no longer hide in the shadows. We will openly reveal ourselves and make our existence clear to this world. So, Your Highness, please make a choice. A choice? Will you acknowledge and accept our existence, or will you maintain the current order as it is? Why are you asking me to make that choice? At Aaron's bewildered reaction, Cyan furrowed his brow slightly. Because you now have the power to do so, don't you? Momentarily taken aback, Aaron's body trembled. Power. Did that mean Cyan was acknowledging her? Though he didn't say it outright, Aaron couldn't contain the excitement rising within her, causing her face to flush continuously. This is not necessarily something to be happy about. With power always comes responsibility, so you will have to bear even more from now on, Your Highness. However, Cyan's harsh response quickly dampened her excitement. Thanks to that, Aaron was able to calm her mind immediately. Anyway, the choice is yours, Your Highness. We are ready to accept whatever you decide. If you choose not to accept us, Cyan stood up and turned to leave. At least do not interfere. His words were heavier than ever. Just as he was about to leave the room, Cyan noticed something familiar draped over a chair and paused. Why do you still have that? It's not mine to dispose of carelessly. Do you want it back? No, it's fine. With that, Cyan left the room. Aaron stared blankly at the door Cyan had exited for a long time. What will you do, Your Highness? Resimus, who had been silently observing, asked cautiously. Aaron moved silently towards the window. Lady Silica said something to me before she passed. She gently pulled back the curtains to reveal the foggy view of the capital. She told me to keep following Cyan. Not just blindly, but with questions in mind, so that I could understand the world Cyan desires. Even as she coughed up blood and endured great pain, Lady Silica tried to convey her final wishes to her. If I believe that world is just, Aaron could still vividly recall that scene. She asked me to help create that world with Cyan, saying he would need many people by his side. Then, turning to Resimus, she asked, We can definitely be of help, can't we, Resimus? If it's you, Your Highness, I believe you can be of great help. Resimus silently supported her from behind. Let's go see Father, I need to tell him all my thoughts. Resolute, Aaron started to leave the office but paused, casting a glance at something. She then smiled mysteriously and walked out. Her gaze had landed on Cyan's black cloak, neatly folded on the chair. Chapter 243, Order of the Mist, Part 3, the day after meeting with Cyan. In response to Cyan's words about choices, Aaron issued an official decree to the entire empire. Cyan Vert, the eldest son of the Duke of Vert and the owner of the Holy Sword, has committed the high crime of deceiving the royal family and insulting the emperor. Therefore, the royal family revokes his title and issues a warrant for his arrest as a serious criminal. This decree signified a refusal to adhere to the current order. More importantly, it included the following. At the same time, the royal family announces the immediate withdrawal of all warrants against Mist and the full pardon of Cyan Vert. Furthermore, his noble title is reinstated, issuing a warrant for Ashel and pardoning Cyan. Some people commented upon seeing this. They said that the empire had decided who to see as good and who to see as evil. They believed this decision would meet with significant opposition, and many factions would soon rise to oppose her. And most thought Princess Aaron would not be able to withstand them. But Aaron thought differently. This was merely the first step towards a new future for the empire. It was not an act to define good and evil. I never expected to meet you in such a manner, Princess. Nor did I expect to face you in this way, Boris. From the moment Ashel was declared a criminal, his close associates could not avoid the arrow of guilt. Surrounded by knights and bound all over, Boris stood before Aaron no longer as a royal mage advisor but as a criminal. This is foolishness. This is not for the good of the royal family or the empire. Withdraw the decree immediately and reissue the warrant against Mist. Despite Boris's repeated demands, Aaron showed no reaction. Do you think you rose to that position on your own, Princess? Boris changed his tone, veins bulging in his eyes as he continued. No, the place you are now was created by Ashel and me. Just because we've temporarily lost power, it doesn't mean you can take it as you please. Hearing this, Aaron thought, how utterly disgusting. No one but my father, the emperor, can create the position of the princess. And yet you claim you made it. It's beyond disrespectful, it's repulsive. Boris, struggling to contain his words, calmly continued. I apologize for what I just said, but please trust me, Princess. What you need now is not doubt but trust in the light. How had someone who seemed so high when she first saw him fallen so low? Aaron bent down to meet his eyes at the same level and spoke. I don't deny that I learned much from you, Boris, but do you know what I felt during all the time I received your teachings? What was it? There was never any sincerity toward me in your words. Boris, suddenly speechless, only moved his lips aimlessly. Asking for trust from someone who has never shown any sincerity towards me, do you really think that's possible? You misunderstand, I've always been. As if not wanting to hear more, Aaron straightened up and turned away coldly. I will delay your punishment for a bit, it won't take long. Boris glared at the departing princess with fierce eyes. Then he burst into maniacal laughter, his mouth wide open. Humans truly are foolish creatures. How can they repeat the same mistakes over and over again? Perhaps because those words annoyed her, Aaron turned around again. No one can punish me, not even the emperor himself. A fallen human in denial of reality, twisted into a pitiful state, it was a sight that would make any observer sigh. But there's one thing I didn't mention. Even so, Aaron's resolve did not waver. We are not the ones who will punish you, Boris. For reference, there are no guards stationed in this prison where you are. In other words, if someone comes for you, there will be no guards to stop them. Boris's face twisted again as he failed to understand the words. Good luck, Boris. With those final words, Aaron left the prison with the knights. Left alone, Boris hung his head, then started laughing madly again. The end of all this is already determined, so why do they harbor such doubts? Soon, a white light emanated from Boris's body. The light released one chain and lock after another that bound him, and soon all restraints were lifted. Boris leisurely rose from the floor. In the end, everything returns to its place with time. We must prepare for that. Holy Book, his smiling face suddenly froze. An unresponsive call, unreactive magic. Realizing something was wrong, Boris stared endlessly at his own hands. Holy Book. Why won't you respond to me? The Holy Book was unresponsive. Unlike the Holy Sword or the demonic sword, the Holy Book could be sensed mentally even from afar. Yet for some reason, the Holy Book Hishkriya was not responding to Boris at all. There were two possible reasons for this. Either it was deliberately not responding, or it was in a situation where it couldn't respond. At that moment, Boris couldn't be sure of either. Thud at that moment, unfamiliar footsteps echoed from the corridor. Sensing the presence, Boris immediately stopped moving and looked towards the source of the sound. What is it? Boris thought. This presence felt very familiar to him. The problem was that it didn't give him a good feeling at all. It was a presence that surely could cause him immense harm and bring despair. SSS, as if to prove his instincts right, black mist seeped through the bars, and then a voice followed. You said it yourself before, didn't you? You said it would be better to resolve things when our relationship was at its peak, that it would be more fulfilling that way. Boris's legs gave out and he collapsed to the floor. He tried to drag himself, but it was no use. In this small area blocked by iron bars at the front and iron walls on all sides, there was no way for him to escape. Soon the owner of the black mist that seeped through the bars revealed himself. I think that time is now. Boris's face turned pale with fear and disbelief. Bang, the black-haired man, unable to contain his excitement, banged on the bars with a murderous look. Cyan, who had been eagerly waiting for this moment, don't you agree, had come to deliver his punishment. Head of the Ushif Empire's Magic Society, achieved 9-star rank at the youngest age. An unprecedented genius in the Empire's history. And yet he always stuck by that man's side, volunteering as a loyal subordinate pushing his plans. Boris Ruchelheim, I couldn't understand. Where did such a monster come from? His origin was the slums of the northern city of Exilium. A group scorned as cursed ones with black blood, not even considered human. Someone who wasn't even treated as human suddenly appeared one day and stuck to that man's side. No matter how much I thought about it, it was strange. It was as if someone living well in that place had suddenly been replaced by another person. Do you think you've won? The man, spewing black blood from his mouth, sneered as he asked. No, killing me won't end it. I've seen it. I've seen someone just like you before. I bent my knees slightly, lowered my body, and lifted his head to meet his eyes. Seeing your face, you seem curious why I'm saying this. Instead of answering, I stared straight into his eyes. It meant he could say whatever he wanted. Yes, I'm from the era people today call the past the old era. I was one who helped the forces of light punish the followers of the mist. Want to know an interesting fact? Dio Hafinkus, the former owner of the demon sword Karam that you possess, was my friend. The response came not from me but from Karam in my right hand. The edicts of the mist spread throughout the empire, you know, Dio wrote those. It was the last gift he gave me before he died. I focused on his story without showing any reaction. Dio and I were both seekers studying magic together, but we pursued different values. Dio couldn't accept what was given and always had doubts. Eventually, he fell onto the wrong path. Just like you, my right hand holding Karam trembled intensely for a moment, but she only trembled and did not speak or materialize. My pity for him soon turned into anger. Why couldn't he trust this absolute element called light and always had doubts? The results of that doubt were horrific. He let out a maniacal laugh. In the end, the god of the black mist was banished from the divine realm, and many humans who followed him faced a tragic end at the hands of the demon sword's owner. Dio told me one last thing. He said since he had led them astray, it was only right he personally gave them peace. The truth Mia told me was this. The owner of the demon sword, subdued by the light, foresaw the tragic future of his followers and had to kill them. Unable to do it with a sound mind, he asked Karam to devour him. Karam must have granted her owner's request, not out of nature but out of affection. So, on the day when the world's order was reshaped, I decided to seal my personality within a sacred text. When in the distant future similar corrupt beings appear in this world, it's to correct that mistake once again. The blood tribe in Exilium was also created by me. They are not a cursed tribe or anything like that. The mention of the blood tribe made me furrow my brow unconsciously. It's just a physical form that can contain my personality to prevent it from spreading elsewhere. I confined it within the slums, so that someday I can have a complete body again in this world. The name Boris is not my true name. So that was your true identity. You didn't even consider the suffering countless people would have to endure for your possible next life. Well, it's very much like you, so it wasn't particularly surprising. But don't rest easy, Cyan Vert. You haven't reached the halfway point yet. Endless hardships lie ahead of you. Besides Instructor Silica, you'll lose everyone who followed you. Oh, I haven't mentioned my real name yet. It's not Boris Ruchelheim, my real name is… Swish, people tend to become talkative as death approaches. Cough, but you've crossed a line. If you think I'll quietly listen to that story forever, you're mistaken. I mercilessly pulled out Karam, then I forcefully lifted his bowed head and met his eyes. I don't care what you did in the past or what you intended to do in the future. You're just a backstabber who sacrificed everything to that devil. The reason I'm killing you is purely that. He looked at me with a puzzled, questioning gaze as if he couldn't understand. You probably don't understand. No matter how much you reminisce or reconsider the situation, you won't understand what I just said. So don't try to understand. Without resolving that doubt and denial, Squish, you just have to die. I choked Boris's neck with my left hand covered in dark mist and slammed him to the ground. Thus began another moment of repentance. A harmonious blend of screams and cries spread beautifully throughout the space. Chapter 244, Allies, Part 1. What are you thinking, Ramihiram? I'm not thinking much. What more can we think about being in a position where we have to follow the Master's orders? Surely you've felt it too, the day Lord Lumendal reluctantly descended through the succession. Don't you know better what that means? Just because I know doesn't mean it's a reason to stop it, right? Our lady doesn't seem particularly interested, and we've never been on the same page about our futures, have we? Hishkriya gave a stern look while Tom Ramihiram calmly looked at the scriptures. Hishkriya seemed displeased with the current situation and has been trying to convince Ramihiram. It's not too late. Convince your master to reject the owner of the demonic sword. Then at least your existence won't disappear. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't. You might not know, but Our Lady isn't one to easily give in, even if God himself were to come. Ramihiram dismissed the idea as impossible. Tap tap, oh dear, they're here already. As footsteps were heard from behind, Ramihiram hurriedly began to tidy up the surroundings. Soon, Luna and Shurs appeared after passing through a space filled with various books and bookshelves. Were you in the middle of a conversation? No, it wasn't anything important. Ramihiram quickly vacated the seat. I didn't think it would be a comfortable space, but it seems tolerable enough for you. Instead of answering, Hishkriya raised an eyebrow. Luna, ignoring it, placed her hand on her actual book and manifested mana. Soon, a black light emanated from the scripture in response to the mana, causing Hishkriya to grimace in pain and slump to the ground as if drained of strength. Oh, owner of the tome, would you give me a chance to? What chance are you talking about? I smell an inquirer from you, someone who yearns for knowledge and seeks the truth of this world. Don't you also wish for your truth to be realized in this world? So let me help you, Luna with a puzzled look asks. What about Hishkriya's original owner? He failed. There's no reason to follow a failure who couldn't lead to the given future. You're ruthless. Luna, with a brief remark, turned away. Why do you think I brought you here after you abandoned your owner? Even if your existence is secondary, you can harm the senior. Besides, handling someone as dangerous as you is foolish. Hishkriya scoffed as if amused by this. Do you really not know what foolishness is? The owner of that demonic sword has already made numerous enemies. Do you think just the two of you can handle it? I wouldn't know, we haven't tried yet. Luna, as always, remained nonchalant. In the end, you are just an enemy to the senior and me. So stop being arrogant and rest in my space. With that, Luna left with Shurs. Left behind, Hishkriya screamed in anger and frustration. I told you it's an unyielding stubbornness. Ramihiram also followed Luna without another word. A while later, Luna and Shurs stepped back into the succession from the non-space. Can we leave that scripture as it is? I'll manage it myself so that no one else can touch it. For now, it's the best option. Luna sighed softly, resigned to the situation. But the scripture has a point. To prepare for the numerous enemies the senior has, I too need to create allies for him. Muttering to herself, Luna started to think. I don't like it, but I'll have to send a message to that person. To whom are you referring? Oh, it's someone, the fool of a senior who can't even hold his drink without getting a cold. Your Highness. Your Highness, calling desperately but getting no response from the person in question. Seeing this, the attendant turned his head in frustration and began to search for the prince. Oh dear. Why of all places must you be there? Finally spotting the prince, the attendant lowered his head and let out a deep sigh. Since there's no way the prince would hear him from there, the attendant reluctantly moved towards where the prince was. After a while, reaching where the prince is, the attendant, sweating profusely, spoke as if scolding. Your Highness, it's good to train, but please do it in ordinary places. It's difficult for me to find you in such places. The prince, smiling wryly, responded as if amused. If I train in ordinary places, I'll only have ordinary training. Special training must be done in special places. That's where the real value lies. Despite his words about being special, the prince's current training was nothing more than ordinary push-ups. The problem was that he was doing these push-ups at the top of a square-shaped ruin that extended 100 meters from the ground, with a slope steep enough that a slight misstep could send him rolling thousands of times. So why have you come? Oh, there has been a huge event in the Ushif Empire recently. In the Empire, did a civil war break out or something? Something similar. Princess Erin Sevelaris was actually kidnapped by the Mist. Wow, as he tried to read the report, the attendant was so surprised that he almost fell backward, but managed to catch himself in time. The prince, who had been focusing on his training without looking back, suddenly came close and leaned in. Who was kidnapped by whom? Well, after calming himself down, the attendant explained calmly what had happened in the Empire to the prince. Upon hearing the story, the prince's eyes widened in astonishment. Goodness gracious. After 7 years, he reappeared and caused a commotion. Why wasn't I informed of such an interesting event? What kind of blasphemy is that, Your Highness? The attendant expressed his disgust, clapping his hands together. What's in the other hand? The prince pointed to another letter in the attendant's opposite hand. Oh, this is a letter that has come for you, Your Highness. A letter? Did someone send a personal letter to me? With a doubtful expression, the prince quickly checked the contents of the letter. Haha, not even 10 seconds after opening the letter, a burst of laughter erupted. This junior is still the same. The prince smiled satisfactorily as he put the letter in his pocket. It's been a while since I went out. Inform the palace. With no hesitation, the prince leaped from the top downward. "Woe, your highness, where are you going?" "To the Ushif Empire. It's fine if you go, but please let me down first," Prince of Daring escapes. The attendant's desperate plea for rescue echoed faintly in all directions, but the Prince of Daring escapes didn't look back once. A sky devoid of color, like black and white. She immediately realized that she was in a dream, not reality, from the black and white scenery with a lone man with black hair at its center. She had often had similar dreams before. There was no sign of life in the black and white landscape, and around the man a mysterious black mist swirled. The area was filled with numerous corpses, all seeming to have lost their lives because of him. Above the man's head, a brilliant light seemed to illuminate all the darkness in the world. However, the light wasn't descending to save or praise the man. It emitted a threatening aura, as if condemning him alone in the massacre scene. It felt as if the whole world viewed him as an enemy. At that moment, the woman thought to herself, she had to run up to him and hold his hand. With determination, she ran toward him and tried to grab his empty hand. She woke up abruptly from the dream. Realizing she was underwater, the woman quickly waved her hand to move her body. Splash, she soon emerged from the water, clutching her chest as she regulated her breathing. "Congratulations, you've surpassed the longest time." An iridescent spirit waiting outside greeted her with an indifferent voice. "Did you have a good dream?" "I'm not sure. Every time it ends just as I'm about to hold his hand, I don't know how to interpret it." With a sense of regret, she sighed and touched her forehead. "While you were immersed in the divine water, interesting things were happening far away." "Interesting things?" "Yes. Related to your younger sibling." At the mention of her sibling, the woman's eyes widened and she hurriedly ran to the spirit. The spirit, as if expecting this reaction, immediately pointed to a rock next to it with a glow. There lay an official document with the seal of the Ushif Empire's royal family. After reading the document, the woman looked back at the spirit with a complex expression. "Don't look at me like that, haven't I always said? When you're satisfied, you can leave, no problem. But looking at your face, you don't seem satisfied yet." The woman abruptly crumpled the document, clutching her chest in frustration. 7 years ago and now again. I wasn't there at such crucial moments for him. Maybe he didn't particularly want you there. The spirit seemed to be trying to console her with distant concern, but it's not about what I want. The woman's face was filled with deep guilt for not being able to protect her sibling. "I can't let this go on." She then stood up, resolved, and shook her body. "I have to go to him now. I want to go back to the Empire, Marion. There's no need to say it so dramatically. I'll send you as you wish, but before you leave, there's something I must tell you, Fwoosh." In an instant, a greater radiance erupted from the iridescent spirit's body. The radiance spread out to encompass the entire surroundings, and soon the light vanished, revealing a magnificent, pure white dragon in place of the radiance. The dragon, towering majestically, leaned in toward the steadfast woman and asked in a grand voice, "When you help that child, you will turn many beings, including the gods of light, into enemies. Are you okay with that?" "Yes." "It doesn't matter," the woman responded immediately, as if the question itself was meaningless. "My life was saved because of that child, so it's only natural that I use everything for him. Even if the whole world turns against him, I'll protect him until the end. You're truly resolute. You haven't changed a bit since the beginning." "It's my duty as his older sister." It was like witnessing the unchanging flow of pure water, even after thousands or tens of thousands of years. Realizing that further questioning was futile, the dragon spread its wings. "Let's go, Alice." Chapter 245, Allies Part 2. What is this? What on earth is going on? A cloudless, sunny morning. Contrary to the clear sky, Emily's face was incredibly dark. Nana discovered the official document casually placed on the table after her secret morning walk. After confirming its contents, she couldn't help but be shocked. "They're pardoning our young master's crime." Although there was a wanted order for Ashel in the previous content, Emily didn't register any of that. Her eyes, filled with confusion, immediately turned to Nana. "Hey, little one. Where did you get this?" "It was scattered all over the village, you know. I thought it was an interesting read, so I brought one." Nana, sitting at the dining table, replied with a bright smile. "Our father's crime is pardoned. Does that mean I can freely roam around with Papa now? Is that true?" Nana, filled with anticipation, brightened her eyes. "It's not that easy to say. My head hurts." "What has Brian been doing with the young master?" Emily, struggling with a sudden headache, furrowed her brow. Talk. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. "I'll go check." Surprised Emily, Nana dashed to the door. "Just a moment. Do you know who it is before opening? What if they're bad people?" "It's okay, I don't sense any malice." Nana reassured Emily not to worry. Then she unlocked the house's barrier and swung the door open. "Greetings to Lady Emily and Nana." 4 men and women dressed in neat uniforms greeted Nana. Who are you?" Following Nana's lead, Emily cautiously asked. "We've come under the orders of the Lord to escort you both." "The Lord?" "Yes, Lord Cyan has requested us to bring you both to where he is." Nana and Emily's eyes widened simultaneously. "Cyan is the Lord? What absurdity is this?" While Emily was bewildered by the situation, unlike her, Nana's sunny expression quickly turned stiff. A somber and heavy atmosphere filled with a chilly air. It was a mood Brian was accustomed to, but today the darkness seemed even thicker than usual. Cyan stood alone in the midst of that darkness and Brian approached him. "Young master, there's news. Lady Emily and Nana are safely on their way here." Cyan didn't respond. Brian had already heard about what had happened to Cyan. In such a situation, all Brian could do was silently stand by his side. Offering empty words of comfort was beyond imagination. "Brian." After a long silence, Cyan finally called him. "Yes, young master, do you not understand the situation?" It was a question that Brian couldn't answer directly, a difficult question. What do you mean? You must have been curious all this time following me. How a young person like me possesses such formidable power, how I ended up in the assassination group called the Mist, and Brian swallowed hard, unable to speak. Why I harbor such hatred towards Ashel, whom you see as my older brother and successor to the family. If he said he wasn't curious, it would be a lie, but Brian had never once asked Cyan about these questions. The reason was simple. I am a follower and knight serving the young master, the heir of the family, thus questioning the young master's intentions has never been right in my mind. I have always trusted the young master. Didn't I tell you once? Blind trust is as dangerous as anything. HELSCANS, translator knight, proofreader gun, join our Discord for release updates. /invite /DBDMDHZ Watwa. Brian remained silent, lost in thought. The first person I spoke the truth to is no longer in this world. That means there's no one left in this world who can dispel my doubts. Cyan's expression was dark yet serious. Listen carefully from now on. What I'm about to say is something I won't repeat elsewhere. Starting with those words, Cyan's story continued for about 5 minutes, shocking and deeply saddening Brian more than any prophecy of the world's end. No one in this world would have experienced what Brian felt, learning about the tragedy that his master had suffered in the past. How could that happen? Even though it was an unbelievable story, if taken as true, it could explain Cyan's abnormal behavior. I see, so that's how it was. Brian's face upon learning the truth was filled with various negative emotions and Cyan looked at him with the same indifferent eyes. Are your doubts resolved? Yes, very well, then remember it well. If the time comes when I disappear from this world, you will have to explain to others the doubts you had about me. I will engrave your words into my heart. Brian knelt down and pledged to follow Cyan now and in the future. You're going overboard again. Cyan's expression turned slightly uncomfortable at Brian's fervor. Knock, knock. Then sensing someone approaching from the opposite direction, Cyan turned his head discreetly. It was Mia. After that day, Mia expressed her desire to join the Mist and support Cyan, receiving Silica's approval. She was now a member of the Mist and had come to meet Cyan. Were you in the middle of a conversation? No, it's fine. Do you have something to say? It seems like they've found that person. Cyan's eyes widened momentarily. In the current situation, there was only one person Cyan could be looking for. Where? Mia replied with her usual dry expression. It's Velia's. It's been a while, Yulkin. At the western border of the Empire, Velia's the outer perimeter of the frontline border gate. Although he was close enough to the leader here to not be considered an outsider, and fallen so far as to become an Empire's criminal, a man smiled at the knights. Why are you all making such faces? As if I'm someone who shouldn't be here. I'm sure you know the reason, right, Lord Ashel? Yulkin, who had not heard, furrowed his brow and asked. Unfortunately, I really don't know. I've heard bits and pieces during my journey to Velia's, saying that I've become some kind of Empire's criminal. Is that why you're so cautious around me? There's probably no need for further conversation. I'll have to arrest you here, Ashel Vert. Yulkin showed a firm resolve to arrest him according to the law. Fine, but please allow me to see my father just once. I refuse. As a dutiful son, I have come with the intention of confessing my sins. I ask just this once, Yulkin, where you confess your sins is not to the Duke but to the Emperor. I won't listen to any more. Follow me to the Imperial Palace right now. Stop. At the solemn but commanding tone, the knights all stopped in their tracks. Ashel kneeled down, waited, and greeted the owner of the voice. Ashel Vert, eldest son of Duke Vert, I humbly greet my father. Follow me. Duke Vert brushed off his son's greeting indifferently and led him into the perimeter camp's main hall. Arriving at the rear camp Duke's mansion. The Duke looked at him with an indifferent yet oppressive gaze, and Ashel responded with a calm and composed look. Without any hesitation, the Duke tossed a thick stack of papers from his desk drawer in front of Ashel. Do you understand what this is? I'm not sure. These are detailed records of the wrongdoings you've committed while under the royal family's protection. They were sent to me by Princess Violet a few days ago. Ashel didn't bother to inspect the papers as if he already knew what they contained. Furthermore, she confessed everything, including the fact that she tried to kill Alice in the past through a letter, and she mentioned your involvement in all of it. Do you have anything to say about this? No. Ashel didn't deny the facts that had already been revealed. I believed you could provide everything for me without a doubt. I thought there would be no problem with you supporting the family's legacy, continuing the continent's peace and following me. But now I wonder why. Was it because you're the eldest son, because of your exceptional abilities? I can't figure out why I was so fixated on you anymore. Ashel listened silently to the Duke's words without responding. My youngest son said something similar to me before, not to trust myself. He said he would just do what he wanted to do. At the mention of his youngest son, Ashel's gaze sharpened. You came to ask for my help, but I have nothing more to give you. So go quietly to the Imperial Palace, Ashel, if there's any honor left for you as a member of the Vert family. The Duke seemed to have nothing more to say and straightened his posture, raising his chin. Was Ashel shocked by his father's firm response? Ashel remained silent, shaking his head. How foolish you are. The Duke momentarily doubted his ears. What did you just say? Are you still fixated on these illusions of family, empire, and peace? With a bizarre laughter, Ashel slowly lifted his head. You don't know why you were fixated on me. You can't help it, because I made you that way. Ignoring all other children, focusing solely on me, I enchanted you. Swish at lightning speed, the Duke drew his sword and aimed it at Ashel. You must provide a valid explanation for your statement just now. There's no need for an explanation. This is evidence that this world was designed for such an existence from the beginning. This is my power that no one can refuse. Ping. A crimson light flashed in Ashel's eyes for a moment. Caught by that light, the Duke stared blankly at Ashel for a moment before sheathing his sword. Then, with a completely different attitude, he asked him, "What do you want, Ashel?" Ashel's expression was triumphant, as if everything had gone according to plan. He then approached the Duke slowly, whispered in his ear, and said, "Instruct all the knights on the front lines." What he wanted. Prepare for war with the demon realm immediately. Chapter 246, Allies, Part 3, stacks of documents piled on the desk like a tower. Already feeling overwhelmed with fatigue, Aaron let out a sigh. Most of the documents were suggestions disguised as opposition. Should I clear these? Looking at Aaron's expression, Resimus cautiously asked. No, it's fine, whether it's good or bad. I chose this path and I need to listen and reflect on everything. Aaron took a deep breath to steel herself and then started working at her desk. Regarding the arrest warrant issued against Ashel, nobles showed a level of tolerance. However, nobles did not tolerate pardons for Cyan and Mist. Ultimately, it was because those actions insulted the Empire and its values that had been upheld for centuries. However, surprisingly, there were nobles who supported Aaron's direction. The Quasal Duchy was a prominent example. When Aaron hinted at the approval of the influential Quasal Duchy, other families which were cooperative with the duchy also showed signs of agreement. Of course, there were still overwhelming opposition forces. Nevertheless, Aaron carefully went through the piled suggestions, considering each one meaningfully. Some were politely written from start to finish, while others outright disregarded the princess's decisions. There were many criticisms directed at Cyan in particular. As Aaron scrutinized each suggestion, she eventually turned to Resimus and asked, "There's still no response from Duke Vert, right?" Unfortunately, no. Despite a considerable amount of time passing, there was still no response from Duke Vert. As both key figures in this case belonged to the same family, it would not be easy for Duke Vert to take a stance. Which side would Duke Vert support between his two sons? Depending on his choice, it could significantly impact whether Aaron's chosen path would proceed smoothly or become a series of hardships. What might Cyan be thinking about this? Since they hadn't met since that day, Aaron wanted to inquire about Cyan's thoughts. Have you heard anything about Cyan? As Aaron mentioned Cyan, Resimus slightly flinched. There was just some information I learned through the nights. For some reason, she seemed reluctant to speak. Why, what is it? Aaron narrowed her eyes inquisitively, noticing her unusual demeanor. Although she wasn't sure why, Resimus seemed hesitant to continue. What is it? Aaron pressed on, her curiosity piqued. At a restaurant on the outskirts of Sevelinis, Resimus lowered her voice and whispered to Aaron. After hearing about Cyan's whereabouts, Aaron exclaimed, "What?" and stood up abruptly, causing the piled documents to scatter in all directions. On the outskirts of Sevelinis, in a corner of an alley, there was a small, shabby restaurant. It was so tiny that it could accommodate no more than 10 guests at most, and it seemed unlikely that any proper customers would come today. Why? Because I rented out the entire place. No one else could come in except us. It's really delicious, Cyan. It was just an ordinary noodle dish that could be found anywhere in the Empire, but Haestia was eating it with such ecstatic expression. Although her hearty eating stimulated the appetite of those watching, I couldn't bring myself to eat. My mind was preoccupied with one thought, Ashel, whose traces had been traced after nearly 10 days. The one who finally revealed his appearance was none other than Velia's. The reason was obvious. He was probably trying to seek help from his father, who was a lord there and possessed a formidable military force rivaling that of the Empire. As he had been prioritized in the Mist's information network, the Empire was still unaware. However, it was just a matter of time. For me, rather than cooperating with the Empire, it would be more appropriate to handle him alone with my Karam, but for now, I'm just observing, because there's something I want to confirm. Something fundamental about that guy. Suddenly, a heap of noodles wrapped around a fork appeared in front of me. At the tip of the fork, Hastya, with her blue eyes blinking, was staring at me intently. What are you doing? Since Cyan hasn't taken a bite yet, I thought you might not eat at all, so I wanted to feed you. Hastya extended her arm as if to feed me, holding the fork in midair. I'm not sure what she's trying to do. It's not like I'm going to eat directly from her hand. Instead, I took the fork from Hastya and took a bite as she wished, then handed it back to her. Hastya seemed satisfied with that. You're playing house. Karam, who didn't find her behavior endearing, sneered nearby. In a situation where you're outside the eyes of the gods, are you passing food over? When Karam mentioned the gods, Hastya's hand, which was about to feed me, stopped abruptly. I acknowledged it internally but didn't show it, immediately looking elsewhere. Cyan, she didn't hesitate and called out to me. Why? Is Cyan planning to be in a place opposed to the god's existence? While it seemed like a roundabout way of saying it, it was essentially straightforward. Since there wasn't much reason to react strongly, I replied calmly, if it's not going to work out, just let me know. Hastya tilted her head in confusion, not understanding. There's no one among humans targeting you now. There shouldn't be any more danger. If you want to go back, say it now. I'll take you back to Pruina. What do you mean by that, Cyan? Did you also sense something that day? Then you must have felt that there's no point in sticking around with me, right? So it's okay to go back now. After Hastya hesitated for a moment, she mentioned that she also felt the energy of Lumendal that day. As an elf protected by the gods, it wouldn't be difficult for them to sense their energy. However, sticking around with me directly opposing Lumendal's wishes wasn't a good idea, so it seemed safer to part ways here and return to Pruina. That was the intention behind this suggestion. Why would you say that? For some reason, Hastya got angry with me. Didn't you bring me here because you needed me against the wishes of the tribe members? Right. Ultimately, it was to protect her from danger. As for the ancient records, well, if others didn't need to know, there wasn't much reason for me to reveal it. When you brought me, it may have been as you pleased, but when parting, it's not. I also followed Cyan because I needed him. Why do you need me? Apart from your tribe's issues, is there something else? I genuinely asked out of curiosity. Even if that's the case, does she have a reason to need me? When she responded sharply before, and now her face turning red, Hastya began to inhale deeply with a somewhat awkward expression. What do you expect from our foolish master? Karam looked at Hastya, seeming pitiful, and shook her head. No, forget about everything else. Why is she sticking around here? Are you talking about me? The short-haired woman responded calmly with a nonchalant look as if asking what the problem was. She was none other than Mia. Are you talking about me? Who knows, maybe she's just like her ancestors, pushing around my inferior replacement doll without even knowing where it should belong, then strutting around with confidence. I'm just supporting Silica's maintenance as per Sir Cyan's request. Huh. Since when have you followed that woman? You couldn't even distinguish where you should be, indulging in the antics of that fool's puppet. Well, back then I couldn't properly discern where I should be, but now I know for sure. Being by Cyan's side is much more comfortable than being with instructor Boris. Karam burst out laughing incredulously. Well, honestly, it is a bit burdensome, but she's also a talent worth keeping. Plus, the leader also said so. It makes sense for me to listen. I'm not sure about other things, but I'm confident in protecting Cyan, even while having a peaceful meal like this. Thunk, she suddenly grabbed a knife from the table and swiftly threw it backward. Whenever I need to, I can protect Cyan from threats. Swish. The knife flew straight and deeply embedded itself in the wall right next to the restaurant's front door. With wide eyes, I saw a familiar white-haired elder and a middle-aged man who seemed like a bodyguard take their seats. If I had just eaten a year's worth more, I would have avoided that. The elder let out a satisfied chuckle as if enduring 10 years. They are unauthorized intruders. Shall I kill them? Enough. Let it go. I immediately calmed down the enraged Mia, who was like an angry bear. I didn't realize there were more ladies here. Not only exceptional assassination skills, but also abilities in other areas. The old man chuckled and naturally pulled up a chair to our table. Didn't you see the sign outside? I've rented this place today. Well, that's disappointing to hear. You won't deny that on that day, I and my subordinate stood by your side and fought together, will you? I was going to ask again if I saw him correctly. Jarian Alkin. He had served as the head of the Knights of Light in the past, and had received respect and admiration from knights across the continent. He had suddenly attached himself to my side during that chaotic situation and fought alongside junior members, causing astonishment not only among the watching knights but also within me. Even if it's not senility, what made you do that? To be honest, I'm not sure either. I just thought that in that situation, it was much better to stick with you guys who seemed more trustworthy than attaching myself to the owner of the Holy Sword. Well, looking at the results, it wasn't a wrong choice, so isn't it okay? Whether it was his natural personality or a change with age, he was certainly not pessimistic. But really, I don't understand what you're thinking. Even if you've atoned for your sins in the name of the royal family, it's quite audacious to rent an entire restaurant like this. What's the problem when I haven't even rented a high-end restaurant in the center of the royal capital? Originally, I didn't rent the restaurant to invite such an easygoing inspiration. It may be an old man's rash thinking, but isn't now the time for that? Shouldn't we be going to find the escaped owner of the holy sword? Instead of answering, I raised my eyebrows. That intimidating look of yours. It's a reminder that there are still many suspicious eyes on you. That day when the golden night fell from the sky and the distrust against mist still lingers in this country, right? To quickly prove that you're right, we need to capture that owner of the holy sword as soon as possible. Why are you so interested in others' affairs? Why do you call this someone else's affair? You've already attracted interest not only from the empire but also from other countries. You've already captured everyone's attention. Right now, not just me, but others must be curious too. Your next move, I mean. His chuckling demeanor, as if looking forward to the future, wasn't particularly appealing to me, but there was no denying the truth in his words. Everyone's attention. As someone who has never received attention in my previous life, let alone everyone's, not even the attention of a single person. What kind of situation is this again? The moment I heard the familiar voice, I involuntarily felt drained and closed my eyes tightly. An uninvited guest had come again. Well, it's not particularly surprising, just passing by and happening to catch my scent coming to find me. Why do I always have to sniff around and come directly to you, Senior? It was Luna. Chapter 247, Allies, Part 4. What on earth is going on here? Princess Erin peeked into the restaurant through the old window. Inside, an unbelievable scene was unfolding. Fine, Luna, but why is Mia here too? Who is that white-haired woman? And who is that woman standing so close to Cyan? With just one person, it would have been confusing enough, but there were 4 women crowded around Cyan. Erin didn't know what to do and nervously paced back and forth. Seeing her pitiful state, Resimus reluctantly asked, "Shouldn't we just go in?" "Go in? Wouldn't it be strange if we just went in without any reason?" "What excuse should we give?" Erin's hesitation was reminiscent of 7 years ago when she was at the academy. "What's the point of having an excuse? We could just say we heard there was news here and came." "I can't give such a careless excuse. I've put off my work to come here. Cyan will definitely look down on me. Looks like she knows." Part of her wanted to forcefully drag her into her restaurant, but she couldn't bring herself to do that. Frustrated, she sighed deeply. What should we do? Should we go in and ask what's going on? As the meaningless debate continued, a familiar voice that stirred memories reached Erin's ears. "Sister Erin, is that you?" Erin immediately turned her head in the direction of the sound. About 20 steps away from where they were, 3 familiar faces were looking at Erin and Resimus with surprise. Princess Erin, Brian and Emily also blinked in surprise at the unexpected encounter. Among them, there was another woman with bright pink hair and innocent eyes that reminded Erin of someone she cherished more than Cyan, the one who had been a grateful link to Cyan and had cared for her more than anyone else. "Nana, it was Nana. Didn't you see the sign outside?" "I did very well," Luna spoke with an indifferent gaze. "I came thinking this was a special place prepared by my senior for us to spend some quiet time together. I didn't expect such an absurd situation to unfold." "What is she saying now?" Luna glanced around my table where I could see 3 women, Haistia, Mia, and Karam, who was sitting next to me and guarding the spot. Her sharp gaze scanned everyone present, including Jarian, his knight, and even Shurs who had come with Luna, all of them sweating profusely. "Can you please explain it to me, Senior? What explanation do you need?" "Whatever it is, you should explain. Otherwise," she extended a monosphere infused with manipulable magic towards me as if to show me, "I might just destroy this restaurant right now." A gaze full of bloodlust that I hadn't seen before. At this, I thought to myself, she's serious right now. Why, what on earth is causing her to act like this? It's a vibe that rivals that of a killer. "Do you want me to kill you?" Mia tightened her grip on the knife as if she were about to kill Luna with it right away. I immediately took the knife away, telling her to please stay still. "You should have stopped earlier, shouldn't you? You keep enchanting people's hearts without thinking about the consequences. Isn't that why we're in this situation now?" Karam seemed to find the situation with Cyan endlessly amusing and chuckled continuously. I felt like I was going crazy. My mind was already in turmoil and now I was getting a headache. Talk, talk, talk. At that moment, footsteps were heard approaching. Finally, the ones who should be here were arriving. "Papa," before exchanging any greetings, a cute voice filled with joy echoed in my ears. And then, without any hesitation, a pink-haired, adorable young lady jumped into my arms. It was none other than Nana. "I missed you, Papa. Sorry I couldn't come to pick you up myself because I was busy." "It's okay, just seeing you again makes me so happy." Nana smiled with her usual sincere and bright smile. Watching her, a smile naturally formed on my lips and I felt the chaos in my mind slowly settling down. What's wrong? Why has the young master's face become so skinny again? What on earth have you been doing in places without me? My cheeky maid, as always, examined my face and asked. Well, various things. What kind of answer is that? I was so surprised to hear that the young master had disappeared without a trace. I came here with a worried heart, wondering if something would happen during our journey. Her confident demeanor remained unchanged. It seemed like nothing had changed about either of them, so I felt relieved. However, Papa, the gazes of the three women who were facing Nana turned back to me. Cyan, did you get married? It seems like there's more to explain, Senior. Do you want me to kill that person too? It's a complete mess. Feeling helpless, I gave up on trying to explain. Oh, right. I met Princess Erin right in front of the restaurant. Nana pointed vividly towards the door, where Princess Erin and Resimus were hesitating whether to enter or not. Well, I had noticed that they had been peeking at us from outside the restaurant. Wasn't this a busy time because of work? Why on earth did that woman come here? Why are you all gathered here like this? Anyone would think it's a conspiracy. Don't you see, it's just a very ordinary dining occasion. Dining? Yes, since I invited Nana and Emily to the palace, I thought we might as well have a meal together. What's wrong with that? My words were not lies, but a perfect truth. Although a place with many people like a fancy restaurant wouldn't do, I had arranged for a comfortable place for us to eat together in peace, even going so far as to rent out the whole place. Where did it go wrong to lead to this situation now? No matter how much I racked my brain, I couldn't find an answer. As more people arrived, the restaurant owner kept bringing out food to fill the empty tables. Before we knew it, a table full of neatly arranged dishes was set, and Nana exclaimed with joy, her face ecstatic. Wow, what are we waiting for? Why isn't everyone sitting down? Let's eat first. She then sat down and started eating. Although everyone, including myself, momentarily forgot and stared at her innocent expression, why yes, let's sit down everyone. Following Emily and Brian's guidance, one by one, people started taking their seats. Erin hesitated but was pushed by Resimus to sit down eventually. Thus, unintentionally, a strange atmosphere was created where everyone who had passed through me before gathered in one place. How do I feel about it? Since it's the first time I've encountered such a situation, I can't say for sure, but one thing is certain. The lively atmosphere created by people coming together, their interactions, and the very ordinary appearance of these humans, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It's okay to continue like this. Was it awkward? Very much so. How about being a bit more honest? You actually enjoyed it, didn't you? I continued to remain silent without giving an answer. On a night ambitious with the rising moon, on the outskirts of the palace in the middle of an empty plain, the moon, brightly shining in the dark sky, stood alone, revealing a lonely day. If there's one thing I've seen more than corpses throughout my past lives, it's that moon. There wasn't any particular reason for watching it. But in a secluded space where no one else existed, just staring at the moon that rose in the sky, it felt like the loneliness in my heart was slightly relieved. And now I have such thoughts again, I must be lonely. That day, the god of light, Lumendal, brought me a small despair of losing my leader. Of course, it was a small despair from him, but for me, it was the worst despair I could never endure again. In other words, he can continue to bring me this small despair, or perhaps even more extreme despair whenever he wants. Not just the leader, taking away someone else from me as well. As someone who doesn't want that, it's better to stay alone like this. Even if someone sticks to me because they think it's good for them, they'll only be in danger and it won't help at all. Honestly, at this point, it might already be too late, so I have to take responsibility, otherwise I might end up like Karam's previous master. Hey Karam, what? Do you still have thoughts of devouring me? For some reason, Karam didn't immediately respond. There was a brief silence, but it didn't last long. Let me tell you something. Since I first appeared in this miserable world, I've had one philosophy that I've adhered to. It was quite awkward for her to suddenly bring up philosophy like that. If I can't have it, no one can. I may not know anything else, but I've thoroughly stuck to this one thing. I understood what she meant. Whether it's Lumendal or anyone else, I can't stand seeing them create despair for my owner. Rather than witnessing such a collapse, Karam didn't continue her sentence, and I didn't pursue it further either. But one thing was certain, no matter how despairing my future might become, she would be there with me until my last moment. That was enough for me. Stop trembling and start looking back. What? She's been waiting for you. Just as I was about to ask what she meant, belatedly sensing her presence, I immediately turned around. At that moment, everything seemed to freeze and my arms and legs trembled. What, was I hallucinating from exhaustion? No, that couldn't be it. Even in this dark plane, there was a figure emitting a brighter light than the moon. I couldn't not recognize her, could I? Thud, instead of moving, she stepped forward and approached me. Step by step, slowly, she came closer to me, and each time I saw her, my heart beat even more intensely. And finally, when she was within touching distance of me, she smiled faintly and asked me, "Have you been well, Cyan?" I nodded slightly in response. "Wow, you've grown so tall, surpassing your sister's height. You've really become a man now." She gently raised her hand and stroked my rough skin. Isn't that impressive? Even without me taking care of you, you've grown up so dignified. Her appearance, voice, and feeling remained unchanged even after 7 years. She was always there to comfort and soothe my tired and weary heart. Was it tough? As soon as those words came out, I pulled her into a tight hug. Alice Vert, another person I desperately wanted to protect in this life. She didn't say anything or react, just gently comforted my body, as if she knew and understood all the exhaustion and hardship I had been through. Chapter 248, Allies, Part 5. The last time I saw my sister's face was 7 years ago in the Lemia Gorge. I saved her from a state of betrayal and despair, which she fell into after being betrayed by a knight she trusted and relied on like family. In doing so, I gave her a second chance at life. It was from the heart, wishing for her to live not for family anymore but for her true self. I didn't particularly want to get more involved. She's much smarter and sharper than me, so I thought she would figure things out on her own, so we didn't even exchange news for a while, let alone seeing each other's faces. Didn't I miss her? Why wouldn't I miss her? During my childhood in that hellish house, she was the only family member who extended a saving hand to me, the first person I decided to protect no matter what. If I didn't miss her, it would be a lie. And now that person is in front of me, with the same warm smile that hasn't changed over time. Time has passed and she came to me when I needed her the most. Your face has changed, Cyan. It's been a whopping 7 years, so of course. When you saved me, I wondered if you were really my brother because you seemed so distant. But now you're back to the Cyan I knew. What are you talking about? Lonely and desperate, like a young lamb desperately seeking someone's touch. That's why I had to look after you. The person I'm seeing now is you. My sister gently stroked my head with a cheerful smile. Are you still treating me like a child? Can't you just accept it with a little grace? Is that how you treat women? She chuckled and teased, but for a moment in her firmly grasped hand I felt a strange energy. It was like feeling the pure flow of water without any impurities throughout my body. But within that, there was a very mysterious power that humans could never possess, a power similar to the power I inherited from the Black Mist god. Your hands are cold. Did my sister feel a similar energy to mine? She too started to look closely at my hand like I did. So you experienced that too. What have you been doing all this time? I changed my expression and asked as if interrogating. My sister didn't seem surprised and gently held my hand full of scars and calluses. When I first saw your wanted poster 7 years ago, I thought a lot. I wanted to rush to wherever you were and ask what happened, how you ended up there. I wanted to ask if what you were hiding was this. Why did I hide the truth from my sister? Because I didn't want to confuse her, and there were things I wanted to avoid even more. But soon I realized it was pointless. If I had asked you the truth like that, we would have just made each other sad. In fact, I had no right to ask. I didn't even see what was happening around me properly. Her face briefly showed a bitter expression, as if memories from the front lines came flooding back. So I thought I needed to grow stronger too. If you were going the wrong way, I'd correct you, and if you were going the right way, I'd fully support you, even though I couldn't help you this time. My hand trembled as I held my sister's hand. I could feel her regretful feelings of not being able to help me enough. Do you believe the path you're on is the right one? I answered without hesitation that I did. Then it's fine. I'm ready to help. In the midst of overflowing emotions, I held onto her hand even tighter and tried to argue back. You don't need to do that. You should live a life for yourself, not for me. I didn't save you to ask for help. Who said I'm doing this for you? It's not for you, this is entirely for myself. Her calm yet firm answer left me speechless. No matter what I said, I couldn't overcome her logic of being family. You had fun at the restaurant earlier, right? Did you see that? Yeah, I even saw your cute face not knowing what to do. It was reassuring to see that. There are so many people who care about you besides me. My sister expressed genuine relief and hugged me again. You don't have to be lonely on your own. There are so many people around who are willing to help you. So you can open your heart a little more. You're someone who can be truly happy. Happiness. During my 2 lives, I never knew what happiness was. I didn't even get to experience that. But my sister confidently told me that I could be happy. So support me, as a mentor who hopes for the happy future of their disciple. At that moment, I remembered the last words she said to me before dying. If by any chance this moment in my sister's embrace is called happiness, I feel like I could do anything to protect that happiness. Even if it means protecting everyone else, even if it means I die alone. On a night when everyone was asleep, feeling a series of energies, Hestia quickly opened her eyes and got up. What? She quietly left the room to make sure no one else woke up. Then, as she was about to head towards where she felt the energy outside the inn, you don't need to hurry to find me. Hearing the familiar voice, she turned around immediately. A spirit the size of just a human face emitting a faint iridescent light. The spirit, after illuminating the dark surroundings for a moment, gradually transformed into a human form. I never expected to see you here. Hastja, startled, Hastja froze as if her body turned to ice. Marion, the dragon protector of Pruina. She suddenly appeared in the human realm without any proper explanation, still in her somewhat rare human-like polymorph form. Why are you here? That's something I need to ask, isn't there? Where are the other tribe members and why are you alone here? There are some circumstances. Do the others know? Why, yes. All right then. I don't want to hear such complicated circumstances about why you left us without a word. You must have had your reasons too. Instead of persistently asking questions, Marion scrutinized Hastja's body. Something's odd. Why do I sense the black mist's energy from you? Hastja, taken aback, couldn't control her expression and her face turned white. What do you mean? Show me the soul stone. Feeling her heart sink, Hastja, in a state of panic, tremblingly reached into her pocket and took out the soul stone. After checking the stone, Marion immediately asked Hastja, "Did you accompany the successor of the Black Mist?" "Yes, you're out of your mind." With her angry words, the air around them grew heavy. "Did you really not know what would happen by associating with the presence of the Black Mist, not even being another elf under divine protection?" "Well, there are circumstances here, Marion. Cyan has helped our clan. He's a man who can lead your clan to destruction." Hastja couldn't bring herself to say more. There was not a word to say, even if she had 10 mouths. An elf under divine protection chasing after a man who denies the very existence of the gods. Realizing anew how selfish her actions had been all this time, Hastja couldn't lift her head in shame. Marion looked at Hastja with disappointment and let out a small sigh. "I don't have the right to condemn you, do I? I've done the same thing." "What? Never mind. You'll find out soon enough anyway. I don't need to say it myself." "But more importantly," Marion's gaze shifted from Hastja to behind her, "you can see all sorts of unexpected and dangerous beings here." Turning her head in confusion at the words, she suddenly sensed a strange aura and immediately turned her body. "Is that child also with the successor of the Black Mist?" "Yes, that's right. He found and raised the child by chance." "Raised that child? That doesn't make sense. How did you manage to control such a child without causing havoc all this time?" Marion expressed disbelief, furrowing her brows with questions. Hastja was equally surprised. While she thought of her as an ordinary person with no problems when they were together at the restaurant during the day, the energy she felt now was completely different. It felt like a mixture of human and dragon energies inappropriately combined. Somehow she even felt a sense of unease. Nana, who affectionately called Cyan Papa and was also cherished by him as family, was staring silently at Hastja and Marion with lifeless eyes as if her soul had left her. "I smell something. It's not a particularly pleasant or bad smell, but it feels like a smell that shouldn't be ignored. I wonder why." Kiki, as Nana asked the question, changes began to occur in her body. Sharp horns emerged as if sensing a threat. Wings spread out gracefully, emitting a mystical aura. Even her tail swaying cutely with a gloomy aura. It was clearly not a normal state at a glance. "Could you please tell me why you're here?" As twilight fell and the blue curtain of dawn began to rise, Aaron, whose face was somewhat pale due to overnight work, still couldn't fall asleep. The long-awaited letter had finally arrived. It was the testimony of the Lord of Velia's Duke Willius Vert. Aaron had predicted many situations during this time. Would Duke Vert agree with the direction proposed by the royal family, or would he disagree? Would he support the eldest son or the youngest son? Regardless of his choice, Aaron constantly planned the next steps and directions suitable for him, trying to prepare for every possible situation. However, what is this about? What do you mean? Duke Vert's testimony contained none of the expected content. There was nothing about the direction the royal family is pursuing or which child's hand he would support. Instead, it contained completely different information. Request from Lord of Velias. In the name of Duke Willius Vert, I request support from the royal family. What Duke Vert sent was nothing but a request. And it was not just any request, but a request for something entirely unexpected. Please send reinforcements for the crusade against the demon realm. Chapter 249, Demon Lord Velkarion, Part 1. Somewhere in the grim air, the foul stench of decaying corpses, and the unpleasant sound of wailing that makes your spine tingle. At first glance, it's a dangerous place where one shouldn't step foot. Duck underneath a giant vine tree, a devil boar was tearing apart its recently caught prey with gusto. Around it, regardless of whether they were allies or not, big mantises treated anything in sight as food. Below them, a death worm with a slender body writhed endlessly as if patrolling its territory. In this terrifying place deep in the demon realm, within an unnamed marsh where fearsome creatures roamed, a man with sharp red eyes boldly revealed himself. Sensing his presence, the creatures all turned their attention towards him. Considering their predatory nature that never let prey escape once discovered, they would normally rush at him immediately. Kiyik. The creatures only emitted warning cries as no one dared to approach easily. They sensed the immense aura of power emanating from the man's body and were afraid. "Aren't you coming?" The man provocatively addressed the creatures. Provoked, the creatures bared their teeth and front paws and rushed towards him, but shuffling exactly 1 minute later, all the creatures that had rushed towards the man were scattered around with their limbs severed, and 5 minutes later, finally my body feels a bit relaxed. The creatures in the marsh were completely annihilated. The man nonchalantly stretched his body as if it were no trouble at all. You're here. Just then, another middle-aged man with neatly groomed beard appeared behind the man. Didn't I tell you? It's fine if you want to go out, but at least leave a word before you go. Do you have to keep nagging about being careful with this and that? Listening to your nagging makes me lose my appetite for anything. Isn't my advice for the benefit of the demon lord? Having the right attitude of learning is important to become a true ruler. The man turned a deaf ear, indicating he didn't want to hear more. Despite being the strongest being in the demon realm and the absolute ruler, Demon Lord Valkyrian, in front of Rogers, his advisor and the overall commander of the demon castle, he seemed utterly powerless. Hey Rogers. I'm fine with everything, but do I really have to listen to your nagging even after doing good deeds? Can't you just give me a compliment and move on? Although I'd like to, when I look around, it seems impossible. Even though this marsh is a good habitat for creatures, I didn't expect habitats to form so close to human settlements. Rogers looked around with a troubled face. That's why I have to wander around more often, right? For the sake of the peace of our demon realm residents. The reason Valkyrian annihilated the creatures in the marsh was simple. It was for the safety of the residents living near the marsh. For him, it wasn't something done once in a while, but a daily routine of patrolling various parts of the demon realm. Anyway, let's hurry back. Lady Bestia is waiting. Just a moment. Shouldn't we deal with these corpses before leaving? I'll take care of it. Leaving Valkyrian behind, Rogers confidently stepped forward. He extended his hand, gathering mana. Swoosh soon, along with a crimson magic circle from his hand, scorching flames spread out like pillars, engulfing the torn corpses. The corpses soon turned into ashes without a trace. After completing the cleanup, the two demons headed towards the demon castle. Hey Rogers, do you know what I've been thinking lately? Valkyrian, who was following behind, suddenly smirked and asked. You're thinking about that little human we met 10 years ago. How did you know? You've mentioned it at least 142 times. Don't you always bring it up whenever you feel like it? Really? Valkyrian, feeling awkward, looked up at the sky, lost in thought. By now that human would have grown up, right? He should have. Physically, he would be around the demon lord's age. I mean, that guy's audacious words still haven't faded from my memory. The demon lord recalled that moment with a slight smile. He said we should make a deal. Right, he asked us not to cross into their territory no matter what and promised to help us. He was truly a strange fellow, wasn't he? Indeed, it didn't feel like he said anything just to survive. Rogers nodded in agreement with Valkyrian's thoughts. Sometimes I think about it now. Valkyrian turned his head suddenly, looking in a different direction. It was the direction of Lemia Valley where they had met that boy. If and that's a big if I ever have to agree to that deal, what should I ask of him? Do you have any specific thoughts about that? Valkyrian didn't answer immediately and paused for a moment. If I were to ask for the ultimate battle that could quench my boiling spirit, would it be impossible? It seems absolutely impossible. That's too demanding for just one human man to handle, isn't it? Rogers denied the demon lord's thoughts outright. But didn't you say humans are a race with tremendous potential for growth? With continuous growth and development, it might be possible, right? Besides, that little fellow. His gaze was quite threatening. It could be just a mood, but Valkyrian felt that if it were that boy, he might fulfill his demands. Speaking of the handover, they say the atmosphere around Lemia Valley isn't quite right these days. With that, Rogers changed the topic. Lemia Valley, isn't it common for creatures to rampage there? Although that's true, this time it seems like a different problem. Recently, creatures have been crossing over from the valley and Blood River into the demon realm itself. Valkyrian stopped abruptly, surprised. Do you mean the creatures were driven out of their territories? There's a possibility. A new superior creature may have appeared in the valley, or human settlements beyond the valley may have launched a large-scale extermination of creatures. Rogers suggested several other possibilities. Human settlements? The demon lord touched his chin, deep in thought. Coincidentally, their current location wasn't far from Lemia Valley. Having made up his mind, Valkyrian immediately spread his wings. You go back first, Rogers. Since I'm already here, I might as well visit Lemia Valley. What should I tell Lady Bestia? Tell her I went to buy a gift. With that, Valkyrian flew high into the sky. As Rogers watched him disappear beyond the horizon, he sighed softly and turned back towards the demon castle. After about 30 minutes of flight, Valkyrian arrived near Lemia Valley and landed on the ground. Thunk. As if waiting, a death worm emerged from the ground with its mouth wide open. Without hesitation, Valkyrian grabbed both sides of the worm's mouth and crunch. With tremendous strength, he tore its mouth apart right there. Seems like what Rogers said was true. Valkyrian spoke calmly as he looked at the torn worm's corpse. For a death worm from deep within the valley to reveal itself outside, something strange indeed was happening. Convinced that something unusual had occurred, Valkyrian hastily made his way into the valley. Quiet. Normally, there would have been at least 6 attacks by creatures, but for some reason there wasn't a single bug in the valley. Puzzled, as he continued forward, he soon heard the flowing water and saw Blood River ahead. Just as he was walking absent-mindedly, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. Exactly 10 years ago in that exact spot. Valkyrian had first seen that boy from 20 steps away, but now, 10 years later, in that place instead of the dark-haired boy Valkyrian had seen, there was another human. For some reason, just looking at him evoked a sense of repulsion, a certain blonde man. Nice to meet you for the first time, Lord of the Demon Realm. Naturally, he was a stranger Valkyrian had never seen in his life. However, upon seeing Valkyrian, the man confidently addressed him as the Lord of the Demon Realm, as if he knew who Valkyrian was from the start. Do you know me? Whether it's the dignity emanating from your body or the strength subtly emanating, there can only be one person in the entire demon realm who possesses this aura. If I'm mistaken, I apologize. With an unwavering demeanor and a certain arrogance, the man was quite irksome. Nevertheless, Valkyrian had realized one thing from his words just now. Whether he was the Lord of the Demon Realm or not, that man wanted the Lord of the Demon Realm to appear. Otherwise, he wouldn't have shown such anticipation in his expression. For now, Valkyrian decided to play along. Well. Nearby creatures, have you dealt with them all? It was impossible for me alone. I drove them out with the knights who follow me. It's a matter of clearing the dead end. After giving a seemingly incomprehensible answer, the man kneeled before Valkyrian. Lord of the Demon Realm, no Demon King, please grant our request. Request? Yes, in our realm, a presence of darkness that goes against the order of the gods has appeared, causing chaos in the world. However, with our limited strength, we couldn't stop it, so we came to the Demon Realm to seek help. Are you asking me to deal with that negative existence you're talking about? No matter how urgent our situation is, we wouldn't make such an audacious request. What we want to ask of you is simply to come to our realm and cause a small disturbance. Valkyrian's eyes narrowed for a moment. You want me to come to your realm? Yes, please come and cause a very minor disturbance. That's all I'm asking of the Demon Lord. And what do you gain from that? The man didn't answer immediately but tilted the corners of his mouth upwards. Then slowly opening his mouth, he said, we will make the whole of our realm aware that such a negative existence should not exist in this world. Will you help us? Valkyrian couldn't help but burst into a bitter laugh at the absurdity of it all. Making everyone in their realm aware of how dangerous the negative existence is through him. Wasn't that just them using him as a puppet for their own amusement? To dare make such a bold request of the strongest in the demon realm, rather than feeling angry, Valkyrian was simply dumbfounded. Hey human friend, feeling uncomfortable, Valkyrian forced a wry smile and spoke. What's your name? Cyan Vert. Upon hearing the name, Valkyrian's lips twitched slightly. Vert, although his memory wasn't great, there was one name that had been firmly etched in his mind for the past 10 years. Cyan Vert. Whether it was a coincidence or not, Cyan had a name that was strangely similar to the one Valkyrian remembered. Perhaps by any chance, Valkyrian looked at him and asked again. The negative existence you're talking about right now, what's their name? Asking for the name of the negative existence, the man seemed to hesitate for a moment. However, as if he couldn't keep it to himself, he casually answered, Cyan Vert. As soon as he heard the answer, a cold silence filled the air, and soon a sincere smile of joy appeared on Valkyrian's lips. Cyan Vert, you say? Chapter 250, Demon Lord Valkyrian, Part 2. Rogers, do you realize how shameless you've become lately? What can I do? I'm just delivering the message that the Demon Lord asked me to deliver, Your Majesty. Rogers turned away, trying to avoid her gaze. Do you know what day it is today? Of course I do. That's why he said he's going to buy a gift, right? He replied, but inwardly Rogers thought, the probability is 50-50. He could know or he could not. At this moment he could only rely on his unreliable memory. Never mind. If he's busy, he might forget. He's roaming around the demon realm every day, so it's possible to forget a day like today. When you don't expect much, there's no disappointment. Bestia sighed with a bitter expression as if she was trying to put her feelings aside. I'm here, Bestia. The timing was perfect as the subject of discussion, Valkyrian, returned to the castle. He entered with a smile like an innocent child, but seeing Bestia's frozen face, he quickly asked, What's wrong, Bestia? Did something happen? He still seemed unaware of what he had done wrong. Rogers tried to signal Valkyrian as much as possible to quickly understand the situation. Where did you go? Oh, I went to the marshlands near the Lemia Gorge to subdue the monsters. Then, he was explaining excitedly, but his expression changed in an instant. Valkyrian suddenly remembered what he had asked Rogers to convey. Trying to figure out what to do, he hurriedly searched his pockets. I went to buy a gift for you, look at this. Bestia wasn't expecting much. It would likely be another strange magical creature or something similar passed off as a gift. However, this time the item he pulled out was beyond Bestia's expectations. "Did you get this for me, Valkyrian?" Both Bestia and Rogers looked at him in disbelief. "Do you like it?" Valkyrian asked cautiously, surprised by the unexpected reaction. But Bestia, lost in the gift, couldn't respond. It was a pendant that was neither too flashy nor too simple, emitting a subtle, beautiful light with an unknown white gem embedded in the center, something rarely seen in the central demon realm. It was a gift so amazing that it was hard to believe the demon lord had chosen it. "I didn't know you had such taste. Wait and see, I'll put it on for you myself." Valkyrian gently put the pendant around her neck as she sat somewhat stunned. The pendant, now on Bestia's delicate skin, emitted an even more radiant light. Bestia couldn't take her eyes off it, entranced by its beauty. "Do you remember what day it is today? Do you remember?" "Huh. Oh, of course," Valkyrian replied quickly, then glanced at Rogers. Rogers gestured quickly, signaling him. "It's your birthday, the day I cherish the most in the demon realm. Despite my poor memory, I always remember this day." "Thank you, Valkyrian. As you said, I guess I'm just a woman. Even though I know you're busy with matters in the demon realm, I still hope you'll take care of me on days like this." Bestia gently clasped the jewel of the pendant. Seeing her in such ecstasy, Valkyrian felt both joy and a hint of sadness. After safely navigating through what could have been a crisis, Valkyrian, leaving the room with Rogers, immediately asked, almost accusingly, "Hey Rogers, why didn't you mention that today is Bestia's birthday? Didn't His Majesty mention it last year on Bestia's birthday? He said not to mention it next time because he'll definitely remember next year no matter what." Even Valkyrian, belatedly recalling that, fell silent. "Still, you said you were going to buy a gift. I thought you'd remember at least this time." Valkyrian avoided answering. It wasn't because it was her birthday, but because her face looked unusually dark these days that he had prepared the gift to change her mood. "Even so, you gave her an unexpectedly good gift that's unlike His Majesty." "Oh that, well I mean, did it look good to you too? Who gave it to you?" Rogers asked, suddenly serious. "Who gave it to me? I carefully chose it myself. I know His Majesty's taste in things better than anyone. That pendant isn't something His Majesty would choose personally. Stop beating around the bush and be honest." Valkyrian frowned, irritated. "Hey Rogers, what if, just hypothetically?" He thought for a moment about what to say, then cautiously opened his mouth. "If I were to cross over to the human realm, what would happen? Setting aside what might happen, why would you want to cross over there? Someone said there's a really bad person there who's making their lives miserable. Just curious to see who that is. Something must have happened at the gorge." Rogers, who sensed the demon lord's intentions, immediately mentioned the Lemia Gorge. Valkyrian, realizing that hiding was pointless, recounted what had happened there just now. Even hearing it roughly, it sounds suspicious. "Yeah, it was suspicious from head to toe, especially. If we were to pick one thing that stood out the most from that blonde human, it would be the sword at his waist. It was a high-quality white longsword, but it gave off a strange, eerie feeling that was hard to describe. To put it bluntly, Your Majesty is the ruler of the demon realm, not the mediator. Even if some of them come seeking help, there's no reason for Your Majesty to intervene personally. Who doesn't know that? They said they didn't want to get involved in others' fights for no good reason. Whatever happens in the human world, it's unrelated to the demon realm. For the demon lord, as long as they focus on the demon realm, that's all that matters, regardless of what requests come from outside. However, if the events in the human world start affecting the demon realm, then things will change. They've already cleared the path through the gorge by driving out monsters just to meet Your Majesty. They may try to approach Your Majesty multiple times to involve you in their affairs. If that happens, let me speak frankly, it won't be a good thing at all." Rogers sharpened his previously gentle demeanor and subtly warned. "So your point is to cut them off before they cause more trouble. Is that what you're trying to say?" "That's not necessarily what I mean. It's just that Your Majesty needs to show a firm stance. It means that Your Majesty doesn't want to get involved in the affairs of the human world. In other words, it was about drawing clear boundaries." Rogers' suggestion was undoubtedly the most correct approach without much room for debate. But about that negative existence the human mentioned, however, Valkyrian couldn't easily accept it. "If there was a reason for that, never mind, I'll do as you say, Rogers." Valkyrian, who was about to say something, quickly changed his mind and swallowed his words. Although Rogers didn't press further, he couldn't help but ask, "Just a moment, Your Majesty, did you receive the pendant that Bestia is currently wearing from that human?" Oh right. He presented it as a token of their little sincerity, showing off a bunch of burdensome jewels. "I found it cumbersome to carry, so I just grabbed one pendant that looked decent." "Are you out of your mind?" Rogers shouted, scolding Valkyrian sharply. "You brought a gift from that suspicious human. No, the fact that you accepted a gift from them in the first place gives them a chance to meet you again, doesn't it? Why are you making such a fuss over just bringing back one pendant?" Do you think I just accepted it? Oh, I thought my ears were going to fall off. There's nothing more to discuss. Since your majesty brought it, your majesty should deal with it. How? Either return it or your majesty should dispose of it personally. Thinking he misunderstood, Velkarian smirked. I already gave it to Bestia. Can't you ask for it back? Bestia will understand. Velkarian couldn't bring himself to do that, so he just looked at Rogers with pleading eyes. 15 years, no, even 10 years ago, demons couldn't have imagined such a peaceful demon realm. Half of the continent was inhospitable wasteland, the other half, which was barely livable, was the habitat of monsters. With the principle of survival of the fittest, weak demons were constantly disappearing, making the demon realm a land of constant decline. And the man who could be called the strongest in the demon realm was undoubtedly the demon lord. Unable to control his overflowing power, he engaged in pointless fights, with daily occurrences of destroying landmasses the size of villages according to his mood. Just hearing the name Velkarian would make demons tremble with fear, and to demons, the demon lord was an absolutely terrifying existence. The demon who turned him into the current sorry figure was none other than Bestia. She was nothing more than an ordinary woman who didn't even possess a small amount of mana in her body. But if it weren't for her, there would be no demon realm or demon lord as they exist now, as all demons agreed. Can I come in, Bestia? After knocking smartly on the door, Velkarian opened it and walked in. Welcome, Velkarian, Bestia greeted him with a bright smile. What happened with Rogers? I could hear his loud voice from here earlier. Huh. Oh, it's nothing, Velkarian quickly brushed off the question and changed the subject. You're still wearing the pendant? Of course, when else would I receive something like this from you? It's such a wonderful gift. Oh. Now that I look at it again, it's not that pretty, is it? Something else would suit you better. No, that's not true. I really like it. There's nothing more beautiful than this pendant. Bestia cut off his enthusiasm with a firm tone, showing that she was not going to let it go. Just by looking at her determined eyes, it was clear that she would never take it off her neck. Are you planning to keep it forever? Of course, I'll never lose it or part with it. I'll treasure it more than anything else. Bestia's gaze was firm. Looking at her resolute gaze, Velkarian reluctantly nodded his head. It's nothing. I might get an earful from Rogers later. What? Nothing. I'll be away for a while. As Velkarian hurriedly moved to leave the room, he turned back and approached Bestia. Then he gently kissed her forehead. Suddenly, what's this? Happy birthday, Bestia. Velkarian smiled broadly at her blushing face and quickly left the room. Flying out of the Demon Lord's castle and spreading his wings into the sky once again, he headed towards the Lemia Gorge. A few hours ago, precisely at that location, was he silently waiting for him to return, or was it something else? The blonde man was still there. You came back faster than I expected. Let's skip the chit-chat and get to the point. Let's finish our face-to-face here. Velkarian didn't waste time and went straight to the point. I have no intention of getting involved in your affairs, so from this moment on, forget about using me to do anything. Your affairs are your own responsibility. A straightforward expression of refusal. However, contrary to expectations, Ashel didn't bat an eyelid, as if he didn't care at all. However, if your affairs start affecting our demon realm, then the conversation will change. Then, regardless of who you are or what negative existence you talk about, I will crush it all. A warning following the refusal. It was a situation that would certainly not be welcomed, but haha, Ashel was smiling for some reason. Even though I had a small hope that there might be a chance, it was just as I expected. What can we do? If asking doesn't work, then next time I'll have to give a warning. This made Velkarian's blood boil for a moment. What? I'll say it again, Demon Lord Velkarian, please consider our demands. Otherwise, even in the face of the Demon Lord's question, Ashel remained unfazed and continued with his statement. The peace that you currently maintain in the demon realm will be broken, a warning in the form of a demand followed by a moment of silence. Watching Ashel with narrowed eyes, Velkarian finally spoke. Do you want to die?